Under a vast, misty sky, a full moon casts its pale light over a desolate, jagged mountain range, its peaks shrouded in an ethereal fog. Suddenly, a surge of white energy erupts as Muqiang moves with blinding speed, his form a mere blur of motion, leaving trails of pure force in his wake. He lands with an explosive impact, a brilliant white aura flaring out as the ground shatters beneath him. Standing amidst the dust and debris, Muqiang surveys the fallen figures surrounding him, his power undeniable. A tremendous surge of chi erupts, enveloping him in a brilliant blue aura, as his entire form glows with an almost blinding intensity. The sheer power emanating from him causing an observer to question, what the hell is this? This man. The narrator wonders if he has surpassed the limits of the demonic realm, truly reaching the absolute peak of martial arts. As the surge continues, identified by a desperate voice calling out, 44. Number 2044. The voice grows more frantic, pleading, can you not hear me? Number 2044. The scene shifts abruptly to a young man, Youngwoo, diligently focused on his training. When Gong Sun-soo approaches, observing his efforts, he advises, you're training again? If you push yourself too much, you'll only ruin your body. Then, with a scroll in hand, Gong Sun-soo reveals, well, in any case, I have a new mission for you. He holds the scroll, its contents outlining a grave task. Your goal is to kill him without leaving any trace behind. The words echo in his mind, a chilling reminder of the mission he must undertake. Meanwhile, within the solemn walls of a grand, traditional estate, the great sect leader, Gong Sun-soo, addresses a kneeling subordinate, his voice firm as he reiterates the mission's severity. The subordinate, head bowed, offers a plea for forgiveness, promising to fulfill the task. Gong Sun-soo, the heavenly sword spirit, sits at his desk, a thoughtful expression on his face, as he observes the kneeling man. He acknowledges the subordinate's words, but his gaze remains piercing. He reminds the man that he made similar promises before, then questions how he can trust him now. The leader's words hang heavy in the air, as he declares that even if it costs him everything, he will pay to get the subordinate back, emphasizing the value he places on him. The kneeling man, body, looks up, his face etched with emotion, as he struggles with the implications of the mission. He protests, pleading with his lord not to make him do this, begging for anything but this particular task. His face contorts in anguish, as he finally relents, uttering a pained, got it. A cold command echoes, demanding that an insolent fool be taught their place, as a subordinate's eye, wide with terror, pleads for forgiveness from their lord. Then, with a series of dull thuds, the punishment begins, eliciting a pained cry. A final, sharp impact sends blood splattering across the screen. Under the serene glow of a full moon, the night settles over a traditional estate. Inside, Gong Sun-soo observes the kneeling concubine, a faint, knowing chuckle escaping his lips. The concubine, her face etched with defiance despite her pain, questions if he truly believes she would be jealous of a mere concubine. Gong Sun-soo's expression hardens as the concubine, still defiant, dares to question his actions, hoping his reputation in the orthodox faction won't be sullied, prompting him to remark on her increasingly sharp words. With a cold glint in his eye, Gong Sun-soo declares that the captive will soon prove his value, revealing his true intention to expand his father's influence. Gong Sun-soo, his expression stern, declared that if someone wasn't important enough, their arrogance should have limits. His eyes widened slightly, a flicker of surprise crossing his face. Standing before him was a silent, cloaked figure, its eyes glowing an ominous red, a sword held loosely at its side. Gong Sun-soo's surprise quickly turned to fury, his voice booming as he demanded to know the figure's identity. Moments later, a chilling sound of impact echoed, and blood splattered across the wooden floor. The scene shifted to the imposing headquarters of the Black Rose sect. Inside, Gong Sun-soo sat thoughtfully, addressing the cloaked figure as number 2044, and questioned why he had pierced his target to death. Number 2044, his red eyes still glowing, explained his pragmatic reasoning. Showing mercy to someone he would eventually kill was a waste of effort. Gong Sun-soo acknowledged his subordinate's initiative, then instructed him to rest, promising to contact him again later, to which number 2044 respectfully replied, "Thank you, sir." A chilling wind sweeps across the rooftops of a quiet town under the night sky. A memory surfaces of a young boy walking with two adults through bustling streets. As Muqiang reflects, a quiet hum escaping his lips. He recalls his youth, adopted by the demonic cult and forced into martial arts training. At first, he was terrified for his life, but now, he admits, he has grown accustomed to it. A voice cuts through the silence, demanding to know who he is, ordering him to reveal himself. Muqiang's eyes ignite with a fierce red glow, a surge of power radiating from him. The unseen figures question how long he has been aware of their presence. But he simply asks what they want, acknowledging them as assassins, and deciding to get straight to the point. Even for elite assassins, he wonders how they were chosen by the forces of the Black Dragon. He vows to teach them a lesson, believing the world revolves around the survival of the fittest, where only the strong endure. He challenges their belief, asking if that is truly what they think. The assassins, a grim assembly, are warned to prepare themselves, their faces set in determined, aggressive lines. A smirk plays on Muqiang's lips as he asks them, if they've forgotten their connection to him. Meanwhile, Han Jung-gil stands with a stern expression, his thoughts heavy. He expresses doubt that the target is an assassin, prompting Body to question his meaning. Back in the confrontation, Mu Qiang unleashes a powerful, glowing strike, his movements swift and decisive. It's not arrogance, but a calculated display of power. He engages the surrounding assassins, a whirlwind of motion against their coordinated assault. As the battle intensifies, his eye glows with an ominous red light, a clear sign of his surging power. He unleashes a powerful, sweeping attack, the sheer force of his movement creating a visible shockwave that ripples through the air. Meanwhile, in a different location, the elder martial artist observes, remarking that since the young man possesses considerable experience in demonic martial arts, he is able to learn quickly, and that he himself will be the one to teach him. Back in the fray, his eyes glow with a fierce, purple light as he executes a rapid, agile maneuver, a blur of motion against his opponents. The elder continues his assessment, stating that possessing talent is the most important thing, as his companion listens intently. However, he adds, the real problem is that the young man is one of the assassins, a stark realization punctuated by a splash of blood. Amidst the swirling dust and debris, he continues his relentless assault, a whirlwind of motion. His long, black hair streams behind him as he completes another powerful, sweeping maneuver, leaving his foes no room to breathe. Back with the observers, the elder sighs, asking his companion if the young man had been hiding his true identity all along. Mid-action, he turns his head slightly, his expression calm as he replies, "No, I was never hiding it." He listens as Han Jung-gil questions his qualifications to explain something, then asks if he will reveal what it is, but Mu Qiang calmly dismisses the idea, stating he won't focus on what he cannot reach. Han Jung-gil then presses him further, asking how much longer he intends to hide, mentioning the demonic realm once more. As Mu Qiang begins to walk away, Han Jung-gil explains that traversing the demonic realm leads to the heavenly martial arts, urging him to at least try. Mu Qiang then reveals his true name is Mu Kan, and that he was once known as number 2044, prompting Han Jung-gil to accuse him of hiding his identity, but Mu Qiang simply reiterates that his name isn't number 2044. He continues to walk away, glancing back over his shoulder as his true name is finally spoken aloud, Mu Qiang. Under a vast, clear sky, a training ground lay quiet, where rows of wooden dummies once stood as silent opponents, now reduced to splintered fragments scattered across the earth. Mu Qiang, surveying the destruction, questioned the efficacy of such basic practice, wondering aloud, well then, what is the meaning of this? What is the meaning of this training? How do you expect me to become stronger by doing this? His thoughts turn to the true essence of power. If what's critical is the key that flows through your body towards the blade. A burning desire for complete understanding fueling his declaration. I want to know more. I must know everything about martial arts. Mu Qiang walks a desolate, rocky path, his silhouette stark against the barren landscape. Meanwhile, high above, from a craggy cliff overlooking the vast expanse, a powerful figure in a red cape observes the distant world below, an attendant standing silently behind him. His voice, deep and resonant, cuts through the silence, asking if the boy they are watching is Mu Qiang, to which his attendant confirms. A slight frown creases his brow as he acknowledges the truth, finding it hard to believe the reports he's received. He muses on Mu Qiang's talent, predicting a busy future for his attendant, who simply agrees. Later, within the grand halls of the Heavenly Wolf Sect, the imposing entrance stands as a testament to its power. The red-caped figure, Gong Sun Su, now seated on a throne-like chair, greets an unseen audience, introducing himself as the lone wanderer and lord of the Qiuliang. Before him, a group of martial artists stands, one of them recounting a past injury, a vivid memory of losing his right arm. Gong Sun Su then addresses the assembled group, revealing that he has summoned them for a crucial mission. Whispers spread through the martial world, questioning the newly established sect, the Corrupted Blood Sect. Indeed, they were the descendants of a faction that had once waged a brutal war against the established orders, now regrouping and sowing chaos once more, Han Jung-gil explained to the assembled martial artists. He continued, assigning them the critical task of investigating the sect's whereabouts. Their shadowy forms a stark reminder of the danger. Mu Qiang, observing the distant light, felt a sense of unease, a premonition of the challenges ahead. Later, as a group of martial artists gathered, one suggested they introduce themselves, since they would be working together. A young woman stepped forward, introducing herself as Oak Ryan, a shadow assassin, and then presented Huan Su beside her. Next, Ma Shik announced his affiliation with the Silent Sword, followed by Jin Chun, who belonged to the same group. Finally, Mu Qiang stepped forward, identifying himself as a member of the Black Assassins. The revelation sent a ripple of surprise through the group, as Body recognized the Black Assassins as the elite force of the demonic faction. The mission to investigate the Corrupted Blood Sect was underway, a critical task for the martial world. As the group moved out, one of the martial artists scoffed, "Shut up. If that's all true, then you're a Black Assassin. Then you should get back to your own faction." Ma Shik, however, seemed more intrigued than offended. "Man, you really want to pick a fight?" He simply turned his head, his expression unreadable, and stated, "We don't have much time. Let's hurry." As the group continued their journey, another martial artist wondered aloud, Why is he acting like our leader? The path ahead stretched into the dense wilderness. While Han Jung-gil, addressing his subordinates, gave a stern warning, be on guard. This area is set up by traps around this. The winding trail continued, hinting at unseen dangers. As one of the martial artists exclaimed, "What's that?" Another, eyes wide with alarm, cried out, "Watch out." The protective barrier shatters with a violent crack as grotesque undead creatures burst through the opening. A figure watches the chaos unfold, a quiet "huh" escaping his lips. But before the creatures can fully emerge, a swift blade carves through the arm of the lead undead. Mu Qiang stands ready, his sword poised, a sharp tch of annoyance his only vocalization. Han Jung-gil recognizes the foes as the undead from the Blood Eye Sect, wondering if their mission has already failed. But Mu Qiang, facing the growing horde, simply states, "Nope, not yet." With a surge of blue energy, he launches himself into the fray, his blade a blur. Han Jung-gil observes the battle, noting that these undead are at least master rank guards, and decides they only need to buy some time, assuring himself they won't have any problems. Mu Qiang stands amidst the fallen, having swiftly dispatched the threats, while Han Jung-gil remarks on his little overconfident nature, recalling his own earlier command. Mu Qiang continues his relentless assault against the horde of undead, his movements a blur of efficiency. Each strike connects with devastating force, sending shockwaves through the cavern as more of the grotesque creatures fall. Meanwhile, in a dimly lit chamber adorned with flickering candles, a figure cloaked in black observes the unfolding events, his eyes glowing with an ominous red light. He speaks with a chilling calm, acknowledging the invaders at the western border, though he finds the undead to be bothersome and weak, even the newly created ones. Elsewhere, Han Jung-gil, still catching his breath, admits to himself that these undead are far stronger than he had initially anticipated. His gaze then falls upon the young warrior, a question forming in his mind about the boy's identity. He wonders if Mu Qiang is truly able to fight such formidable foes without even breaking a sweat. Mu Qiang stands amidst the fallen, his blade still glowing faintly, a testament to the ease with which he dispatched the monstrous threat. A focused intensity burns in his dark eyes, betraying no hint of fatigue or struggle. Two soldiers stand guard, one observing the unfolding chaos and noting that more enemies are approaching, while his comrade, eyes wide with alarm, questions the nature of the escalating threat. Suddenly, a dark, cloaked figure with glowing red eyes materializes against the backdrop of a full moon, its presence heralded by an ominous, guttural cry. From another location, a commanding female voice, belonging to the Scarlet Demon leader, echoes with dark authority, ordering her demonic forces to rise. Her hand gestures with an air of chilling finality, promising eternal rest to those who obey her will. The demonic commander, now fully revealed with a menacing aura and glowing red eyes, lets out another fierce cry. With a surge of dark energy, he unleashes a devastating eruption of demonic flames from his palm, a torrent of destructive power. One of the soldiers recoils in horror, utterly overwhelmed by the sheer scale of the calamity unfolding before him. His comrade, equally terrified, clutches his head in disbelief, unable to comprehend the monstrous force they now face. As the demonic forces continue to rise, a figure in dark, practical attire moved swiftly through the desolate landscape, his companion close behind, their eyes scanning the grim surroundings. A sharp sound echoed as one of them landed, the realization dawning that the undead they had easily dispatched before had grown far stronger, their power now fueling the newly created Scarlet Demons. The path ahead twisted through jagged rocks and gnarled trees, a grim testament to the encroaching darkness as they pressed deeper into enemy territory. Suddenly, a confident voice cut through the air, a red-haired woman with a smirk greeting them, her words laced with a challenge, hoping they would prove strong enough to face what lay ahead. Without hesitation, Mu Qiang drew his blade, a flash of steel cutting through the air as he met the encroaching threat head-on. His expression remained resolute, his dark eyes fixed on the battle unfolding before him. Shadowy figures, their forms wreathed in dark energy, swarmed from all sides, but the warriors fought back, their movements precise and deadly amidst the chaos. Suddenly, a towering figure with long, white hair and a flowing beard materialized, radiating a potent purple aura, his voice booming as he called out a name, Gong Sun Isfo. Mu Qiang's eyes widened in shock, a question forming on his lips as he realized the implication. One of the heavenly demons was calling his previous master. Mu Qiang delegates the task of dealing with the illusion of the fallen warrior and its shaman, leaving his ally to question his departure. But he insists there's no time to waste, declaring his intention to find the main enemy forces himself. As he strides away, Huan Su and Jin Shun call out to him, urging him to wait. Now alone and moving swiftly through the forest, Mu Qiang realizes he cannot fall into their trap. He deduces that the enemy has set some kind of trap ahead, wondering if they've already encountered their main forces. He concludes that the main forces must be nearby, supporting their hideout. Stopping abruptly, kicking up dust, he considers that if they've introduced a strong shaman and a trap, then, his eyes widening in realization, that must be why they are so confident in their hideout. He reflects on their recent activities, creating unrest at the border. Mu Qiang found himself surrounded, engaging multiple opponents with swift, precise movements, yet he knew he couldn't handle them all at once. From a higher vantage point, he observed another large group of enemies below, the thought echoing in his mind that he couldn't possibly take care of them all at once. Suddenly, a sharp, surprised expression crossed his face, his eyes widening at an unexpected development. A colossal, shadowy figure, like a golem of rock and darkness, emerged with a thunderous roar, its presence shaking the very ground. Before he could react, the massive entity brought its foot down with crushing force, stomping Muqiang into the earth with a pained grunt. Despite the brutal impact, Muqiang's eyes blazed with renewed fury, a fierce growl escaping his lips as he pushed back against the pain. He rose to face the towering creature, demanding to know if it was a demon from the demonic faction. The sheer scale of the golem was evident, its massive foot dwarfing his hand. Regardless of its origin, Muqiang declared his purpose, welcoming the confrontation as he made his way to the corrupted blood sect. A sinister figure, the vice leader of the corrupted blood sect, Sa Mayom, emerges, holding two grotesque, bandaged undead. His glowing red eyes fixate on an unseen target as he declares his intent to forge even stronger undead from suitable bodies. The demonic commander speaks, his voice carrying an air of authority, declaring himself the vice leader of the corrupted blood sect. He then questions his interlocutor, asking if they are planning to betray another faction. The commander continues, inquiring if they intend to take over the demonic faction itself. His gaze sharpens as he reveals that he has a different objective entirely. Meanwhile, the corrupted blood sect, one of the four pillars of the demonic faction, had taken a significant blow, and it took them considerable time to recover from the attack. But even as they recovered, the other factions were already gathering strength once more. Muqiang, observing the unfolding situation, knew he had to act quickly and report this critical information. His expression tightens, a flicker of concern crossing his face. He declares, his voice echoing through the cavern, "You can't escape from this place. I've already corrupted the ground with my poisonous qi." A thought crosses his mind, wondering how long the corrupted blood sect will manage to last within that cave. Observing the remaining figures, he challenges them. "A few corrupted blood sect members are still alive. I hope you can show me what you're made of." As he walks away from the cave, a memory surfaces, and he ponders, what was his name again? Behind him, one of the remaining sect members questions, "Didn't he say Muqiang?" The name catches his attention, and Muqiang's thoughts race. Don't tell me he didn't do it out of his own intent. Suddenly, an armored figure at the cave entrance exclaims, "What is this?" As a crimson glow emanates from the cave, a warning rings out. "It's poison qi. Watch out." Amidst a crackle of blue energy and flying debris, Muqiang questions the very purpose of his arduous training, wondering if this is truly the end. A whoosh of power surrounds him as he closes his eyes, acknowledging the futility of lamenting his current situation. His bare chest revealing a powerful physique, he stares ahead, his mind consumed by the singular thought of how to become stronger, what he needs to do to achieve it. Standing over fallen foes, blue energy still radiating from him, he senses the impending end of this particular conflict, yet desires more challenge, more fun. Suddenly, a new figure emerges, dark-skinned with striking white facial markings and ornate armor, greeting him with a chilling smile and a welcome to the dead man's road. Muqiang exhales slowly, his expression grim as he grips his sword. His bloodstained hand tightens on the hilt, the blade still smoking from recent combat. Behind the new leader, a vast army of armored warriors stands ready, their numbers daunting. Muqiang looks down, his resolve hardening, driven by a desire to fully understand what it means to be an evildoer. A soft hum of energy escapes him as Muqiang closes his eyes, lost in thought. Perched atop a rock, overlooking the vast expanse, he ponders, will there ever be an end to swordsmanship? His hands resting on the hilt of his blade, he considers the profound question of how these things are possible, and if one must infuse their soul into the sword to truly master it. He recalls tales of a proficient martial artist who could slay thousands with a single swing, a feat he once thought impossible. Yet, the answer now seems simpler, to simply cut down everything in his path. A vibrant blue aura flares around him as he focuses, channeling his will into the blade. From the shadows, a figure with golden markings on his face smiles, observing Muqiang's display. "You really believe you have a chance? Admirable." The man, Gong Sun Su, extends a hand, proposing that hope can be twisted into despair. His gaze sharpens, as he invites Muqiang to allow him to bestow this dark truth upon him. A sharp, metallic whisper cuts through the air, as a blade is drawn with practiced ease. A voice echoes, questioning, if anyone has heard of the Black Assassins, their presence a silent, deadly hum. Many years ago, they were known for their brutal training methods. All of it was done to forge the perfect assassin, a master of martial arts. These elite warriors, often associated with the main demonic cult, were the Black Assassins. For some, like him, their identity was reduced to a mere number, 2044. Only after enduring countless trials and tribulations were they permitted to claim a name for themselves. This was the right of the strongest, an unchangeable law governing the darkness they inhabited. A flash of raw power, like lightning striking the earth. A blinding flash of white light erupts, followed by a deafening impact that sends black particles scattering. Amidst the chaos, shadowy figures are torn apart, their forms dissolving into streaks of motion and splatters of blood. Muqiang's face, streaked with blood, remains a mask of cold intensity. A faint, almost imperceptible, scent of something dark lingers in the air around him. It is the essence of dark ink, a power he wields with deadly precision. His gaze remains unwavering, the blood on his cheek a testament to the brutal efficiency of his art. With a chilling calm, he declares, "My name is Muqiang." Nearby, an old man with glowing eyes stares in disbelief, uttering, "I can't believe this. No trace of the demonic cult's killing power." Muqiang turns to him, a dark aura swirling around his sword. "I hope you don't think you can get away with this, old man. Your companion has already died." Standing over his defeated foe, Muqiang's voice rings out with a chilling command, as he declares his ultimate ambition, to transcend the highest peak of the blades. His eyes glow with an intense, otherworldly light, a silent testament to his formidable power. Suddenly, a figure in ornate red robes reacts with shock, his composure breaking at the display. Without a word, the red-robed man lunges, meeting Muqiang's swift, spinning kick with a burst of blue energy, the clash echoing through the air. A wide, menacing grin spreads across the red-robed man's face as he calls out Muqiang's name, acknowledging his opponent. Muqiang, now wielding a whip-like weapon, responds with a challenge of his own, his voice calm amidst the tension. The whip cracks through the air, a blur of motion and power. As he turns to leave, Muqiang offers a final, chilling hope that his opponent remains alive for their next encounter. His eyes flash with intensity, but a guttural groan escapes him as he clutches his chest. Realizing the poisonous oil he consumed is taking its toll, leaving him gasping, blood trickling from his mouth. Yet, he pushes through the pain, engaging multiple shadowy figures in a desperate struggle, his gaze sharpening with grim understanding. "Come at me," he challenges, his voice ringing with defiance. "I shall cut all of you down." He stands atop a jagged peak, surveying the vast, snow-covered expanse below. A chilling realization dawns on him as he spots countless warriors spread across the landscape. "More," he mutters, "there's a lot of warriors over there." Elsewhere, a young woman observes the overwhelming forces, her expression tightening with concern. This situation is starting to get really hard, she thinks. The entrance to a cavern yawns open, revealing nothing but the cold, damp rock within. Deep inside, a group of armored figures huddle together, one of them exclaiming, "We're in trouble." Another, his face etched with urgency, adds, "We need to hurry and get Muqiang and get out of here." Meanwhile, outside the cave, a leader on horseback surveys a scene of devastation, noting that the barrier has finally broken. But why did the... His thoughts are echoed by a robed figure in a nearby chamber, who questions, "Bandits break all the outposts?" The information from the Silent Night sect must have been correct. A somber realization dawns upon him as he mutters, Then I guess we really have been creating more undeads." Outside, a vast, terrifying army of the undead stretches across the snowy landscape, their numbers seemingly endless, as a voice declares, "An army of the undeads. We must do our part and let the undead sleep dead." The cavern passage remains empty, the silence heavy with unspoken dread, until a figure kneels over an obscured form, urgently asking, "Hey, are you okay?" Still deep within the cavern, a soldier warns others to stay back, indicating lingering threats, while another urges them to hurry. Meanwhile, the Imperial Blackwing Army has arrived, intent on retrieving the corrupted blood sect. Through the dark passages, the soldiers press onward. Their arrival proves to be perfectly timed. Finally, a soldier supports the injured Muqiang, his expression grim as he mutters about the situation. Gong Sun Su and his men arrive at the scene, the leader demanding to know what chaos has unfolded. He strides forward, his gaze fixed on the fallen figure. A wave of concern washes over Gong Sun Su as he recognizes the young man. He questions the sheer power Muqiang must possess to have endured such a state. Amidst a swirling chaos of dust and steel, Muqiang carves a path through the armored ranks, his movements a blur against the onslaught of spears and swords. Opponents fall around him, their heavy armor clattering against the ground as he presses his relentless assault. From a short distance, an armored leader watches the carnage unfold, his voice laced with disbelief as he begins to question, "What happened to our PO?" Before he can finish, a sudden impact sends blood splattering across his face and armor, a testament to the protagonist's overwhelming speed. Stunned, the leader can only register the sensation, blood gushing out of the black whirlwind. His shock quickly turns to rage as he glares at the battlefield, bellowing, "Not only have they massacred our people, but they have also disgraced the dead. Don't leave a single one of them alive." General Bei Yunmin, clad in ornate armor, issues a chilling command to his forces. Meanwhile, Commander Im Chong, another formidable figure, prepares his own contingent. From a high vantage point, Bei Yunmin watches his soldiers advance, dismissing the enemy as mere fodder. Nearby, a subordinate expresses concern for his lord, who assures him of his well-being. The unnamed leader, his gaze sharp, muses on his enjoyment of battle, believing that a true giant understands the difference between himself and a mere human, a natural order he finds fitting. Far from the conflict, a serene mountain range stretches under the night sky, leading to the grand residence of the heavenly sect leader. The traditional architecture stands quietly amidst the landscape, where Gong's son Su stands in contemplation, gazing out into the night. A subordinate approaches, reporting with urgency that something unexpected has occurred. From the shadows, a calm voice inquires, "What is it?" The subordinate explains that the Imperial Black Wind Army has launched a sudden attack on the corrupt blood sect. The leader, surprised by the news, repeats the name in disbelief. The Imperial Army did? This is Han Jung-gil, the formidable leader of the demonic cult. He listens intently, his expression thoughtful as the subordinate continues to report, detailing the unfolding events. A subtle smirk plays on his lips, finding the situation quite intriguing. He then questions, his gaze fixed on a small bonsai tree. Did that sly fox of the silent shadows have anything to do with this? The subordinate, taken aback, utters a surprised, "Excuse me," before Han Jung-gil dismisses the thought, assuring him, "It's nothing." A quiet discussion unfolds, centered around the recent return of those who had been sent on a mission, all of them now safe and receiving care. Amidst the hushed tones, a new topic arises, concerning the young man known as Muqiang, who was once said to be the head of the poison family. A voice suggests, with a hint of urgency, that for the sake of their future, he must be allowed to master the way of the sword and become a true martial artist. After a moment of consideration, a woman's voice responds with quiet resolve, agreeing to the proposition. The scene shifts, the clear sky above giving way to the serene exterior of a traditional building, where a new encounter is about to begin. A man with a scar and glasses looks on, a hint of skepticism in his voice as he questions, "You're the one I have to teach?" He introduces himself as the Phantom Blade, Yu Beck, and sternly reminds the junior, Muqiang, to show proper respect to his senior. Standing before him, with his long black hair tied back, is Muqiang, ready to face his new teacher. Yu Beck, his expression calm and assured, addresses his new charge, stating that he will now be in his care. Muqiang listens intently, his sharp gaze fixed on his new master, absorbing every word. Without a moment's hesitation, Muqiang explodes into motion, a blur of speed across the training ground. But before he can even land a blow, an unseen force sends him violently sprawling to the ground. Yu Beck stands calmly over him, his posture unwavering as Muqiang struggles to rise. Refusing to yield, Muqiang launches a swift counterpunch, forcing Yu Beck to parry. The master's response is immediate and powerful, a devastating blow that sends Muqiang reeling backward. Despite the force of his own attack, Yu Beck's eyes widen slightly, acknowledging the sheer strength Muqiang possesses. Undeterred, Muqiang presses his assault, his sword flashing with a powerful strike that forces Yu Beck into a defensive stance. He unleashes a powerful sword strike, the blade cutting through the air with a sharp, resonant clang. Yet, his master, the Phantom Blade, effortlessly intercepts the blow, his own weapon meeting the attack with a casual, almost dismissive parry. Looking down at his student, Yu Beck's voice is calm but firm, remarking that Muqiang still lacks caution. Muqiang, looking up, recalls the words of others who spoke of his master's skill, now understanding why they called him a swordsman beyond compare. Yu Beck continues, certain that Muqiang has made a grave mistake by coming here, and that he had hoped to continue his training alone. Muqiang simply responds with a dismissive nope, then asks if his master truly wishes for him to die. Yu Beck scoffs, calling people like Muqiang bastards, or more accurately, dimwits, as his student reacts with wide-eyed surprise. He then adds that it will be up to Muqiang to decide his own fate, letting out a sigh of exasperation. Muqiang, clenching his fist, admits he likes the fire in his master's eyes, a hint of determination in his own gaze. Yu Beck continues to explain his philosophy, stating that since Muqiang was born to him, he would ensure his training would forge him into the finest phantom blade of the demonic cult. This rigorous path, he clarifies, would lead him deep within the profound demonic realm, pushing beyond the very limits of conventional training. A faint purple aura emanates from his hand as he reiterates, it is indeed the profound demonic realm, and nothing less. Muqiang, meeting his gaze with unwavering resolve, confirms that this is precisely what he desires. A slight smile plays on Yu Beck's lips as he simply states, the profound demonic realm. He then clarifies the path forward, explaining that if Muqiang truly learns the profound demonic realm, he will never need to reach the end of any other training. Muqiang's expression brightens, declaring that this is exactly what he likes to hear, and eagerly asks about the next step in Phantom Arts training. Yu Beck's gaze turns serious as he poses a rhetorical question, asking if Muqiang believes it to be enlightenment. He then confirms his own thought, explaining that while it is indeed enlightenment, no matter how much one learns, they will never truly reach the end or become enlightened. The only way to achieve this is through self-training. When an insatiable thirst for power and knowledge consumes, it can lead to profound and dangerous paths. But what is the true purpose of balancing such immense power, and what is the ultimate outcome of one's arduous training? A figure, wreathed in dark purple energy, demonstrates the answer. A crushing force descends, sending Yu Beck reeling, a pained grunt escaping him as the dark energy slams into his form. The impact leaves him visibly shaken, his face contorted in distress as the residual force whips past him. Witnessing the devastating power, Muqiang realizes he must avoid such a direct confrontation. A sudden, powerful impact reverberates, sending debris scattering in its wake. As Muqiang unleashes his own devastating counterattack, a surge of pink and purple energy erupting from his form. The sheer force shatters the very ground, sending shards of ice and rock flying amidst desperate cries. A guttural sound escapes Muqiang, dark energy still swirling around him, a testament to the raw power he had just unleashed. Later, high on a desolate cliff overlooking the landscape, Muqiang stands opposite Yubek, his gaze unwavering. Yubek, his brow furrowed in frustration, challenges him, asking if he intends to kill him before he can even grasp enlightenment. Muqiang's resolve is absolute. However, as he declares, he will do as he pleases, training Yubek in the very same way he himself learned to fight. The words echo in Yubek's mind, a stark reminder of the protagonist's unyielding nature. Muqiang looks down, his voice laced with disdain, calling Yubek's Phantom Blade a technique that can't even cut a single rock. Despite the harsh criticism, Yubek's eyes burn with renewed determination, his inner resolve echoing Muqiang's earlier words. I'm going to do what I want. Muqiang, however, remains unimpressed, simply stating that Yubek can't even accomplish that much. With a sudden, explosive burst of energy, Muqiang demonstrates his point, leaving Yubek to react with a sharp gasp. A vast, serene mountain range stretches under a clear sky, its peaks reaching towards the heavens in quiet majesty, a picture of untouched natural beauty. Suddenly, the tranquility shatters as massive rocks begin to crack and break apart, cascading downwards with immense force. The sheer power of the unseen impact causes more of the stone to fragment, sending shards flying in every direction. A torrent of debris continues its rapid descent, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. Meanwhile, Gong Sun-Su reflects, explaining that once one believes they have triumphed, they will wield the very will of their sword. He continues, stating that through a large sword, like a tree branch, one can attain formless force, and that power is none other than a massive blade, dark and imposing, hums with a vibrant purple energy, its edge glowing with an ethereal white light, as if containing immense power. Gong Sun-Su's voice echoes, pondering, is it truly possible to conceive of a sword that is not a sword, something akin to formless force? He continues, his words hanging heavy in the air. Only those who conquer and transcend the limits of heaven and earth can truly wield such a weapon. It's surprising, even though the conceived is not a sword, it is still a sword. It is still something even stronger than a sword. Muqiang listens, a low rumble of thoughts stirring within him, his expression unreadable as he processes the profound implications. A flicker of realization crosses his features, a subtle shift in his gaze betraying his internal struggle. The vast, misty mountains stretch endlessly before him, a silent testament to the immense scale of the world and the challenges within it. Standing at the precipice of a sheer cliff, a soft wind whispers past Muqiang, carrying his thoughts into the abyss. He reflects on his long journey. It's already been 10 years, but I still don't have a good grasp on formless enhancement. A sigh escapes him as he gazes into the distance, wondering what crucial element he is still lacking. Seated in quiet contemplation, Muqiang rested in the shallow water, his form perfectly still as ripples gently spread around him. Above, the sky stretched endlessly, while below, lush green foliage swayed softly. A single droplet of water clung to a leaf, poised to fall. With a soft talk sound, it broke free and landed, creating a perfect, expanding circle on the water's surface. From behind, Gong Sun-Su observed the young man's stillness, asking if he was meditating. A faint tingling sensation passed through him as he realized he had somehow known this would happen, uttering a soft of surprise. A narration box appeared, noting that the meditating figure hadn't yet realized the extent of his progress, but had already come so far. As if in response, a vibrant blue aura began to emanate from Muqiang, enveloping him in a soft, ethereal glow. Gong Sun-Su's expression shifted to a slight smirk, muttering impressive, before asking how everything was going. He stands before a blinding light, a thought echoing in his mind. He must have lost his way on the final step of his training. Contemplating this setback, he looks down, his expression thoughtful. From behind him, Gong Sun-Su offers reassurance, explaining that there's no need for disappointment, as he simply lacks the necessary chi to reach the next stage, but with his current flow, he'll get there eventually. Muqiang respectfully acknowledges the senior's words, promising to do his best not to make him wait too long. Standing beside him, Gong Sun-Su then declares that since Muqiang will be his successor, he can't help but teach him a little more. A hearty laugh escapes the senior, who reveals he is already over the age of 70, much to Muqiang's utter surprise. He confirms his age, stating he is 73 this year. Muqiang, still reeling from the revelation, grabs his arm and exclaims that he looks much younger than he thought, asking if he'd mastered the 7 ways of the Scarlet he was teaching, before correcting himself to say he hadn't realized he was one of the world's top 10 masters. With a knowing smile, Gong Sun-Su explains that while body training can mitigate the effects of old age, one still needs to be careful. Muqiang looks down, a new thought forming. None of them are as good as the cultivation he possesses, he bets. He then respectfully assures Gong Sun-Su that he will keep his words in mind. A man with a neatly tied ponytail and a short beard declares his intention to take on one more disciple before departing the mountain, identifying himself as the eldest among them. At first, Muqiang considers the statement to be nothing more than a jest. However, the gravity of the situation soon settles in. 1 year later, as the eldest disciple, now shirtless and displaying a powerful physique, inquires about the fate of the corrupted blood beast, Muqiang, engrossed in a book, casually admits he has no idea, assuming they simply perished. The eldest disciple then shifts the conversation, asking for any news regarding the Black Assassin, while Muqiang counters with a question about how long he himself has been in these mountains. As Muqiang eats, the eldest disciple muses on whether martial artists of only the second and third generations are truly worthy of their sword, to which Muqiang indifferently replies that they likely either died or simply grew old. Amidst the quiet, snow-covered landscape, a vibrant red flower stands resilient. A sharp, metallic clang echoes, as if a blade has met its match, amidst the delicate beauty of blooming red flowers. He knew it wasn't luck that had brought him this far. It was only a continuous struggle that had no sense of purpose or an end in sight. This was a trial that meant nothing without ever reaching the end, and he was the one who knew where that end lay. He had to give it his all, but despite all that, the path stretched on. With a deep, resonant hum of power, Muqiang grips his weapon, his knuckles white with effort. Then, with a crackling surge, dark, shadowy energy begins to writhe and swirl around him. The black aura intensifies, his eyes burning with a fierce, internal glow, as the power fully manifests. A new, vibrant blue energy then erupts with a sharp, electric crackle, joining the swirling darkness. Both forces now surge around him, a dynamic interplay of black and blue, as he stands enveloped in his awakened power. He watches the residual energy of his power dissipate, as dark tendrils of power swirl and vanish, and brilliant blue light explodes outward, sending debris raining down. The raw force of his technique still hangs in the air. As the last fragments settle, a satisfied smirk plays on his lips. What an impressive feat. So this is what perfect sword mastery looks like. He stands, sword in hand, a master of his craft. As a voice, perhaps an echo from his past or his own inner conviction, resonates. I applaud you in becoming the strongest swordsman. Scaling a colossal, ethereal structure, he reflects on his recent triumph, a voice echoing in his mind. I can't believe I was able to witness perfect sword mastery in my lifespan. Standing atop the precipice, Muqiang gazes down, a profound silence settling over him, his thoughts drifting. Breaking the quiet, Ubek approaches, his voice laced with concern, asking, "What's wrong?" Still contemplative, Muqiang considers his recent achievement, thinking, "Although I achieved the realm that I desired." He clenches his hand, a subtle dissatisfaction lingering. It still feels like I'm lacking something. Gazing out over the vast landscape, Muqiang's thoughts continue to wander. It's almost as if there is an even higher level of power above me. Then, Ubek's voice cuts in. "Are you familiar with the Lord of the Divine Demonic Realm?" Ubek holds up a document, elaborating, while Muqiang, standing on a desolate cliff, responds, "That realm is almost the same as the profound demonic realm." He then adds, almost to himself, "But nobody within the demonic cult has been able to reach that realm. No, I've been thinking about this for a while." Leading a procession of robed figures, Muqiang turns to Ubek, his voice firm. "So I think it's in your best interest for you to follow me and become the new leader of the Northern Heavens in the demonic cult." He explains that to truly understand the history of the Balhi kingdom, one must consult the most accurate book, which details how the kingdom was formed from a martial sect and was the only northern tribe to survive, offering insight into the demonic cult's other enemies. In any case, Ubek states that Muqiang will have to learn the history of the Balhi kingdom, the words landing with a soft thud. With a final glance, he assures Muqiang they will meet again in the future. Realizing the implication, Muqiang acknowledges the need to read the writings of the Balhi kingdom elsewhere, a small sound of surprise escaping him. Turning with resolve, Ubek declares that the time has come for him to descend the mountains. A silent exclamation escapes Muqiang as the narration confirms his deep respect for Ubek, who will now become his lord. In a gesture of profound deference, Muqiang bows deeply, the sound of his respectful movement echoing. He watches the sky, a small sound of acknowledgement escaping him as a bird soars freely, its call fading into the distance. The vast mountain range stretches out, a silent witness to the departure and the journey ahead. The rhythmic creak of a cart wheel echoed through the quiet mountain pass, as a lone cart made its way along the winding road, carrying its cargo and a solitary driver. Approaching the cart, Muqiang offered a polite greeting to the driver, who acknowledged him with a casual thanks. His arms crossed, Muqiang inquired, wondering if there was any space left for him. The driver, chewing on a twig, turned to him, asking if he was comfortable sharing the space with another group. Muqiang readily agreed, and with the driver's assent, he was invited to climb aboard. Once settled, the driver inquired about his destination, to which Muqiang replied that he was headed towards Cheonil, with a planned stop along the way. An elderly man, Gong Sun Su, sits opposite a young woman, who expresses her concern that he looks like he's about to collapse. He dismisses her worry, explaining that he's simply tired from a long journey, and that it's good to see her again. The young woman insists there's no need for thanks, but Gong Sun-soo counters, remarking that they should talk about the martial arts he's been teaching her, as she's made great progress. He then reflects on the mighty conditioning martial arts, a technique that requires immense physical prowess, and how few people are capable of mastering it. He sighs, lamenting that such a powerful art is so difficult to learn, calling it unfortunate. Gong Sun-soo continues, emphasizing that the mighty conditioning martial arts are not just about physical strength, but also about mental fortitude. The young woman, listening intently, acknowledges his words, understanding that while it's a martial art, its demanding nature means few can truly master it. Su Hyang then asks, her eyes sparkling with curiosity, if she's saying something strange. Gong Sun-soo smiles gently, assuring her that she's saying nothing strange at all. Su Hyang gazes upward, her eyes wide with genuine awe at the sheer scale of the towering structure before them. As they continue their journey through the bustling streets, the vibrant market comes into full view, a tapestry of daily life unfolding around them. Overhead, the intricate rooftops of the town stretch out, revealing the sprawling expanse of their destination. Later, seated around a low table, Gong Sun-soo gestures expansively, offering to cover all their expenses for the evening. His expression is warm and inviting as he insists, assuring them that whatever they desire to eat or drink will be his treat. Mukyang, with a slight bow of his head, acknowledges the generous offer. Later, he studies a document with intense focus, a subtle sound of surprise escaping him as he processes its contents. As they enjoy their meal, Gong Sun-soo expresses his contentment, while Su Hyang giggles playfully, but Mukyang's words carry a sharper edge, a quiet warning that he is ready for any challenge. Gong Sun-soo observes a group of men, dismissing them as low-quality food who believe they can do as they please, while one of his subordinates laughs heartily beside him. Sipping from his cup, he laments the state of the world, pondering how wicked it has become for such individuals to exist. Mukyang, standing nearby, listens intently, his expression unreadable as he considers the implications of the elder's words. Gong Sun-soo continues, his gaze distant, acknowledging that while he could easily deal with such punks, there's a different story when it comes to those who back them. He clarifies that he's referring to the 5 warriors of the Mu Mountain, a formidable group of martial masters. Each one of them is a master in their own right, a fact that carries significant weight. Mukyang remains silent, his gaze still lowered, processing the information about these powerful individuals. As the meal continues, the table is laden with various dishes, with Su Hyang and Mukyang's hands visible, indicating their presence at the dinner. Later, under the vast, clear sky, Mukyang looks up, a thoughtful expression on his face, perhaps contemplating the challenge ahead or the nature of the world he now inhabits. Mukyang continues his rigorous training, his thoughts drifting even as his body moves through the familiar motions. Observing the desolate, cracked landscape around him, he muses on the state of things, acknowledging the chaos that has taken root. The very ground beneath his feet bears the scars of recent turmoil. His thoughts then turn to a specific individual, the one he had personally freed from the confines of the town. A flicker of concern crosses his face as he hopes that this freedom doesn't lead to arrogance or an inflated sense of self. As if in response to his deep contemplation, a vision of a towering, armored figure with glowing blue eyes and a dark, swirling aura manifests, a silent, menacing representation of the powerful forces he now faces. A low murmur echoes through the desolate ruins as a gray-haired elder and his companions survey the scene. The elder shaking his head in disbelief. "My goodness," he mutters, his voice laced with shock. Inside the ravaged building, the extent of the destruction becomes clear, with debris scattered everywhere and furniture violently overturned. His brow furrowed with concern, the elder wonders aloud, is this really that person? He kneels beside a body, noting the swift, clean cut that ended a life, the sound of fabric rustling as he examines the grim evidence. Picking up a bloodied piece of cloth, he observes, "Take a look. The blood isn't even dry yet. It's fresh." A chilling realization dawns on him. That means the person who was cut in one stroke is still alive. Such an impossible feat, to survive a blow meant to kill, could only be achieved by someone with immense mana usage or enhanced mana, a shadowy figure with glowing red eyes hinting at the true power behind the attack. Surveying the widespread devastation, the elder observes the sheer power unleashed, musing that the victims likely never even comprehended what struck them. A grim realization settles upon him, as he acknowledges the immense, rule-breaking strength of the monster responsible, admitting he had gravely underestimated him. A storm is brewing, and the only hope is that it doesn't escalate into a full-blown bloodshed. Meanwhile, at a different location, a figure approaches a grand building, announcing his presence for the mercenary group. He extends a hand, offering his identity and commission papers. The guard scrutinizes the documents, finding them genuine enough to grant him entry. As he steps inside, the guard questions him, inquiring about his origins. With a steady gaze, the man replies, identifying himself as a first-rate assassin from the Black Assassins group. The guard's eyes widen in shock, repeating the name of the formidable organization in disbelief. Mukyang considers the human beings within the guild, finding them delicious in their potential, while the Black Assassin leader's expression remains stoic, his thoughts on how a fight consumes her entirely. A moment later, Mu Qiang admits that he possesses little knowledge of the outside world and hopes his companion can bear with his inexperience. He considers the Black Assassin leader's concerns about his subordinates, knowing that trust is a fragile thing, especially when dealing with those who have served an ancient guild for so long. The room where they speak is simple, yet elegant, with a large window overlooking the quiet landscape. The Black Assassin leader, now known as Yu Qiang, sighs, his brow furrowed with the weight of his new responsibilities, to think he was a first-class assassin and not a low-ranking warrior. As Mu Qiang takes a seat opposite him, Yu Qiang asks, "Are you okay, my lord?" He then inquires further, "What are your thoughts?" Yu Qiang recalls a conversation from a few days prior, where he had been told that the Guild of the Black Dragon was an ancient organization with a long history, and that its members were not easily swayed. He had expressed his concern, saying, "I can't help but worry." Mu Qiang listens patiently, his back to the window, as the leader voices his anxieties. Suddenly, a chilling realization dawns upon them. As a voice announces, it seems a monster has arrived. Amidst the bustling activity of the town, a quiet street unfolded, its daily rhythm momentarily undisturbed. However, a young woman's desperate plea cut through the calm, her voice strained as she cried out, unable to abandon someone. Lying on the ground, she bitterly acknowledged the continued assault, realizing the beating from last time hadn't been enough to deter her aggressor. A large, imposing man stood over her, declaring his intention to finish the torment, while Mu Qiang, observing the scene, began to approach. The aggressor reached out, his hand extending towards the vulnerable woman, muttering about her gritty heart. But before he could make contact, a swift hand clamped down on his wrist, stopping him cold. The large man recoiled in shock, uttering a surprised grunt as he found his aggression abruptly halted. Mu Qiang's gaze was stern as he addressed the man, questioning if he wasn't going too far with a mere child. Still holding the man's wrist, Mu Qiang forced him to the ground, who then scoffed, challenging Mu Qiang's right to interfere with a guild member. Still dealing with the aftermath of the altercation, Mu Qiang extends a hand, offering a small pouch of coins, declaring his intent to cover any costs if the aggressor would simply release the young woman. With the aggressive man subdued beneath him, Mu Qiang delivers a stern warning, his voice firm as he cautions against any future transgressions. The young woman watches the exchange, her expression a mix of surprise and apprehension, silently processing the sudden turn of events. Having dealt with the immediate threat, Mu Qiang turns his attention to her, kneeling down to her level, his demeanor softening as he prepares to speak. He looks at her with a probing gaze, asking why she resorted to stealing and if she was unable to find honest work. The young woman's gaze falls, and she begins to explain her dire circumstances, revealing her mother's illness and the struggle to earn money as a child. Rising to his feet, Mu Qiang listens intently, a flicker of recognition in his eyes as her story echoes something from his own past. The young woman remains silent, her face etched with sorrow, awaiting his judgment. After a moment of contemplation, Mu Qiang looks down, informing her that if he is to provide financial assistance, he will need her mother's name. He follows the young woman as she leads him through a small, rustic village, pointing towards a humble hut. Bursting through the doorway, she cries out for her mother, her voice laced with urgency. Inside, the sick woman lies frail in bed, prompting her daughter to ask what is wrong, her concern palpable. The mother struggles to breathe, her labored gasps filling the small room. Observing the dire situation, Mu Qiang quickly decides they must take her to the infirmary, offering his support to move the ailing woman. After a moment of focused healing, he confirms that the mother should now be fine, her pulse steady beneath his touch. Overwhelmed with relief and gratitude, the young woman thanks the kind sir, unsure how she could ever repay such a debt. Dismissing her concerns, Mu Qiang offers a more permanent solution, suggesting she and her mother come live at his house, implying it would be a far better environment for them. He stands before the young girl, who looks up at him, clearly taken aback by his unexpected generosity. Meanwhile, Gong Sun Su explains to him that they cannot always depend on living alone in the mountains, and besides, it is his job to ensure their well-being, not theirs. Later, under the clear sky, a familiar voice calls out to him. "Hey, mister." Mu Qiang turns to the young girl, asking if she knows martial arts. She recalls seeing martial artists once at a marketplace, but admits she doesn't know any herself, then echoes his question back to him. He replies with a hint of humor that he unfortunately doesn't know how to fly, prompting her to playfully declare him weak. With a thoughtful expression, he agrees, acknowledging his weakness, and adds that it's why he intends to build a small house like this one. Then, with a direct gaze, he asks if she would like to learn martial arts, to which she responds with an enthusiastic, affirmative cry. Looking up at the sky, a subtle smile plays on his lips, as if contemplating the future. Continuing their discussion, Mu Qiang confirms his intention to teach her, stating he will begin with something extremely basic. He reveals the technique's name, the demonic cultivation technique, and outlines the rigorous practice schedule, twice daily, once in the morning and once in the evening. Overhearing the conversation, Su Qiang, with a determined expression, wonders if she too could become strong by training with him. Mu Qiang agrees, but adds a crucial condition. She must promise not to reveal the cultivation technique to anyone else. With an eager, "Yep," Su Qiang confirms her understanding, her excitement palpable at the prospect of learning. Meanwhile, under a vast, open sky, a sense of unease begins to settle over the distant lands. A cry rings out from a village, warning that they are coming, as a group of figures approaches from the distance. Observing their numbers, a voice notes that the approaching force is not many, suggesting a small but potentially significant threat. A formidable, white-haired warrior, his eyes glowing with a fierce red light, sits amidst a desolate landscape, a massive sword resting across his lap, as his companions gather around him. One of them exclaims, "We've hit the jackpot." The desolate mountains stretched endlessly under a muted sky, their peaks shrouded in a perpetual haze. Suddenly, a figure was sent hurtling through the air, crashing violently onto the rocky ground with a pained cry. Gong Sun Su stood over the kneeling opponent, his voice laced with contempt, uttering a sharp, "You bastard." The defeated man struggled to push himself up, a guttural growl escaping his lips as he remained pinned by the elder's presence. From a short distance, an old man with wild white hair observed the scene, muttering that some individuals had been smelling like money for quite some time. Gong Sun Su, still focused on his captive, warned him that once their sect heard about this, they wouldn't be letting him go. Beside the old man, Mu Qiang let out a soft sigh, his gaze fixed on the unfolding drama. The blue-clad figure lay broken on the desolate ground, while a dark-clad assassin stood over him, ready to finish the job. More of Gong Sun Su's forces closed in, their leader commanding them to finish the task, as the blue-clad figure desperately tried to escape towards the forest. From a distance, a white-haired figure with glowing red eyes watched the desperate flight, a chilling question escaping his lips. Before the blue-clad figure could reach safety, an assassin intercepted him, a powerful blow sending dust and debris flying. The assassin pressed the attack, driving the blue-clad figure further into the ground. Another brutal strike landed, splattering blood across the rocky terrain. The relentless assault continued, each impact echoing with a sickening force. Mu Qiang remained still, his eyes closed in deep contemplation as the chaos unfolded. One of the dark-clad assassins surveyed the scene, realizing their target was still alive and ordering his capture, lest their sect leader Gong Sun Su be displeased. Mu Qiang's gaze sharpens, contemplating the audacity of those who would dare to steal from them, wondering who would be so foolish as to appear for such a task. Nearby, the black assassin leader addresses a subordinate, asserting that only the mountain bandits would have the courage to appear and steal from them, declaring his intent to personally deal with the situation. Mu Qiang, still observing, silently disagrees, knowing that the mountain bandits are not the only ones capable of such a move, and that the situation is far more complex than it appears. A sudden, sharp sound cuts through the night, as the moon hangs high above a distant structure. The target reveals itself as a fortified building under the cloak of darkness, with figures rapidly approaching its defenses. A heavy impact rattles the wooden barricade, followed by a resounding ugh and ack as the defenses are struck. The wooden wall splinters under the assault, as a desperate cry confirms, "We're being attacked." Mu Qiang, a blur of motion, slashes through the air with his weapon, his attack swift and precise. He continues his aerial assault with a fierce arg, the surprise attack catching the defenders completely off guard. Mu Qiang, a dark silhouette against the desolate landscape, moves with impossible speed towards the fortified structure, as desperate cries to stop him echo across the barren land. Then, a deafening impact reverberates, a crimson burst of energy signifying a breach in the defenses. The very foundations of the stronghold groan and tear apart under the relentless assault. He scales the towering walls with effortless grace, a shadow against the pale crescent moon. Inside, the young warrior stands amidst the wreckage and fallen bodies, his blade humming with a faint, ethereal glow. A burly, axe-wielding man stares in disbelief, his mind struggling to comprehend the sudden, overwhelming invasion. He quickly regains his composure, shouting orders for his armed subordinates to prepare for battle. Mu Qiang confronts the group directly, his voice cutting through the chaos as he demands the return of stolen items. The leader and his men exchange stunned glances, realizing with dawning horror that their opponent has already secured his objective. He moves with blinding speed, delivering a devastating strike. The large man reels back, his face contorted in shock and pain, as a sharp clang echoes through the air. From the side, the black assassin leader rushes forward, his expression furious, demanding to know how Mu Qiang dared harm his subordinate, and ordering his men to attack. A wave of assassins surges towards him, weapons drawn. But Mu Qiang merely scoffs, his eyes glowing with fierce determination. In a flash, the attackers are scattered and defeated, leaving the leader stunned by the sheer, unrivaled power before him. He surveys the vast number of enemies before him, a chilling thought crossing his mind. Despite the immense scale of the opposing force, their collective cry of fear is palpable. Moving with impossible speed, he effortlessly strikes down multiple opponents, their numbers proving to be no match. From the ranks, an elderly warrior with wild white hair and a fierce gaze emerges, his face contorted in rage. The old man lunges forward, weapon raised, declaring that Mu Qiang knows nothing of true combat. Mu Qiang simply dismisses the challenge with a bored expression, then unleashes his power, sending enemies flying. A brutal impact follows, accompanied by a sharp cry of pain. He sweeps through the remaining forces, a whirlwind of destructive energy, scattering bodies in every direction. Finally, he stands alone amidst the carnage, the battle decisively concluded. The last of the enemy forces are sent flying, their bodies crashing against the icy ground. As one warrior desperately tries to drag his injured comrade away, pleading for their lives. But their pleas are drowned out by the terrified screams of their fleeing allies, who scatter in every direction. From the heart of the chaos, Muqiang's voice cuts through the din, commanding his shadowy entities to finish them all. With a surge of dark energy, his summoned figures erupt forward, leaving no survivor. His task complete, Muqiang turns away from the devastation, his expression unreadable as he begins to walk. Above, the clouds drift lazily across the sky, unaware of the brutal end to the conflict below. The vast expanse of the heavens stretches onward, a silent witness to his journey. Eventually, a distant wooden palisade comes into view, marking the approach to a new destination. The remnants of a camp lie scattered, a testament to recent violence. Bodies and debris litter the ground, painting a grim picture of annihilation. From behind a large wooden barrel, a figure cautiously peeks out, a soft thud echoing the movement. He winces, his muscles cramped from hiding, letting out a quiet groan. His eyes widen in horror as he takes in the full extent of the massacre, muttering in disbelief that they are all dead. A wave of panic washes over him, realizing their complete elimination in a single fight, and he knows he must hurry to report this devastating news to his head boss. With a grim resolve, he draws a knife, preparing to make his move. But before he can act, Muqiang stands over him, the assassin now just another fallen foe among the others. As Muqiang walks away, his voice carries across the desolate camp, commanding his shadowy entities to take the belongings of the defeated, signaling their return home. His orders acknowledged, the masked subordinate drops to one knee, a soft thud echoing in the silence. He had single-handedly infiltrated and utterly destroyed an impregnable bandit fortress. Such an impressive man, one might wonder if he was even human, or perhaps one of them again, he muses, examining his own left arm with a frustrated sigh. The scene opens on a table laden with stacks of coins, 2 ornate swords, and a rolled scroll, hinting at preparations for a significant transaction or journey. Gong Sun-Su addresses a group of his subordinates, including Muqiang, informing them of an upcoming task. He continues, explaining that a large sum of money needs to be sent to the bank within 3 days, instructing Muqiang to prepare the funds and handle those aware of the transfer. Gong Sun-Su assures him that a high bounty has already been placed on the bandits, ensuring his subordinates can manage the situation, and then directs them to convert the money and begin the transport the following day. He seeks confirmation from Muqiang. Muqiang acknowledges the orders, and Gong Sun-Su states he will return in 3 days. Muqiang listens intently, his expression thoughtful as he processes the instructions. Under the quiet shroud of night, a traditional building stands, its eaves silhouetted against the dark sky. Inside, a young girl sits patiently on the floor, softly humming to herself, her small form a picture of quiet anticipation. Her eyes, wide and earnest, flicker with an unspoken longing. Then, a familiar figure appears, his dark robes flowing as he steps into the light, his presence commanding the space. The girl, recognizing him, kneels respectfully, a soft greeting escaping her lips, while Muqiang offers a quiet acknowledgement. Her face lights up with genuine joy, unable to contain her excitement at his return. As he holds a small cup, Muqiang asks if she truly wished to be alone, to which she simply replies that she was waiting for him. She then urges him to come inside quickly, promising to prepare food, though she doubts it will be enough to satisfy him. The grand gate of the compound stands open, inviting them further into the quiet night. He explains that the bandit king, who once wielded considerable authority and influence, had his money funds stolen, yet miraculously, no lives were lost. Though the money was safely recovered, they were warned to remain vigilant against the bandits' inevitable revenge, and martial masters were dispatched to assist in eliminating the remaining groups. He admits that he can only perceive the surface of these events, as he wasn't the one who witnessed them firsthand. Meanwhile, a distant figure on horseback races across the landscape, a low rumble echoing from the horse's powerful stride. The horse's hooves pound against the earth, kicking up dust as the rider maintains a breakneck pace. The young lady leans into the ride, her long hair streaming behind her, as a voice calls out in alarm, "Young lady." Gong Sun-Su, his face etched with worry, exclaims that she absolutely cannot be going this fast, fearing she will hurt herself. The horse, however, seems determined, its powerful form continuing to gallop with a deep, resonant sound. Gong Sun-Su sits in quiet contemplation, muttering to himself that it's all quite complicated. Muqiang muses aloud, confident in his abilities, stating he is able to keep up his training. Even as a sudden, sharp sound makes him pause, his eyes widening in surprise. A horse rears violently nearby, and he lets out a small chuckle, looking down at the young woman who asks him why he is so stubborn. He watches her from behind as she sits atop the horse, then finds her kneeling beside the animal, asking him to take a look at it since it has been a while. The young woman stands, her hands clasped before her, and Muqiang's expression shifts to one of clear surprise. Her feet are firmly planted on the ground. A swift, powerful movement cuts through the air, a testament to his rigorous training. But his focus is broken by an unexpected voice, accusing him. It seems you've begged the guardian forces to teach you martial arts again. He reacts with a sharp, annoyed exclamation. The young woman from before, her expression earnest, continues to press him. Are you good at martial arts? You're really good, right? He glances towards a group of figures diligently training in the distance, confirming, just like you said, they're training. He then offers an encouraging, brothers, go. Turning back, he offers a respectful bow, dismissing the previous topic with a casual, it's nothing much with you, Yang. His gaze drifts away as he clarifies his true purpose. I've come to see the great sect leader and the elders. He then adds, long bang do. The scene shifts, revealing a magnificent, multi-tiered pagoda, its intricate architecture reaching towards the sky. Inside, an older man with a distinguished beard greets him. It's a pleasure to meet you again. But Mukyang, arms crossed and a frown on his face, cuts through the pleasantries, demanding, what's with the great sect leader and bro? Please talk directly with me. An elder, his expression calm, offers a greeting. He then states that he will allow someone to depart, intending to release them after he himself has taken his leave. The elder continues, asserting that he has no intention of accompaniment, while another voice interjects, warning that Hound Wolf will be annoyed if he is simply let go. The elder, now unrolling a scroll, considers the implications if it truly is the Hound Wolf they are discussing. Meanwhile, a powerful, muscular man seated on a grand chair questions if the individual in question understands the rules of Bao in the East, identifying him as the one assigned to his hometown. Another elder, his expression stern, reiterates the concern that Hound Wolf will be displeased if he is allowed to leave without consequence. Mukyang, standing nearby with a young guard, internally dismisses their concerns, retorting that he will not be annoyed if Hound Wolf is let go, then openly questions why he should listen to them at all, as the elders continue to discuss his lack of interest in accompaniment and the potential annoyance of Hound Wolf. As he walks away, Mukyang reflects on his return to his hometown, a grim thought crossing his mind that this journey might signify the end of his life. He then addresses someone named Lord Bang, asking if he could be appeased with some money. A young woman gasps, sensing a sudden shift in the atmosphere around her. Her eyes widen in surprise, realizing someone has arrived, perhaps even ahead of schedule. Meanwhile, an older woman smiles warmly at Mukyang, telling him he is all grown up and it is time for him to have his own room. Her expression quickly shifts to one of shock, as Mukyang's demeanor or words seem to catch her off guard. She then addresses him respectfully, asking about an item he holds and expressing deep gratitude for his past deeds. Mukyang extends a small token, insisting she accept it as a gesture of appreciation for her leadership. The older woman refuses, however, declaring she cannot possibly take it and revealing Mukyang's plan to leave the very next day. He turns his head away, his resolve unwavering. Looking distraught, the older woman questions his sudden and urgent departure. As the older woman gently sniffs, a young girl asks, Mother, what's wrong? We haven't seen him often, and all the kindness he's shown us, is it true? Mukyang, turning to the young girl, gently pats her head and explains, it seems I'll be away for a while. Please be a good girl and listen to your mother. The young girl, looking up at him with admiration, responds, Thank you, sir. Just like you, mister. With a bright smile, she affirms, Okay. She then reminds him of his promise. You told me my training would make me stronger. Mukyang looks at her, a complex expression on his face. His eyes briefly glowing with an inner light as he takes a deep breath. And with conviction, he assures her, I'm sure you'll become a strong girl. With his farewells complete, Mukyang turns to leave, the older woman and young girl watching him depart. The desolate mountain range stretched endlessly under a vast sky, as a massive, dark bird soared with powerful wing beats above the peaks. Suddenly, a deep, resonant rumble echoed through the air, the very earth beginning to tremble. With a deafening crash, the ground erupted, sending dust and rock fragments scattering violently. The earth continued to tear apart, a powerful, unseen force ripping through the landscape. As the rumbling intensified, a column of raw energy and debris shot skyward. From the heart of the maelstrom, Mukyang ascended, enveloped in the swirling dust and power of his departure. Above him, a powerful, feathered wing descended, its sheer force hinting at a swift, coordinated movement. Meanwhile, a rugged man with a simple claw pendant around his neck watched the spectacle unfold from a distance. The world shifts, revealing a vast, rugged mountain range stretching endlessly under a muted sky, where faint, ethereal blue and purple energies shimmer in the distance, hinting at unseen forces at play. Meanwhile, Mukyang walks away, his silhouette disappearing into the depths of a traditional hall, leaving the previous encounter behind. Inside, the great sect leader, Gong Sun Su, sits with a composed expression, acknowledging the presence of another. Across from him, the black assassin leader, with his fiery red hair and stern gaze, declares, I've been a mule indeed. He continues, his voice firm. No matter, even if you are the great sect leader, you're still only a human. You can't take me out. The black assassin leader then settles into a ready stance, his defiance palpable. A hand presses down, a soft exhale escaping. Mukyang sits, looking down, utterly bored beyond belief. He walks away from a group of figures, having no intention of getting involved, disappointed by their inability to answer a simple question. Growing tired of the situation, he declares his intention to find the black blade of the wolf. Muttering to himself, he suggests the others should be led far away. Looking back at a masked figure below, he asks for clarification. The masked figure, the leader of the Black Assassins, explains that leading his men away would be against their rules, as it would misalign them if a war were to break out. Muqiang dismisses his concerns, stating that if war breaks out, the leader can simply lead his men to him, but the Black Assassin leader apologizes, unable to abandon his men. A thought sparks in Muqiang's mind, while the Black Assassin leader looks up, questioning him. He continues his journey, walking away from the viewer, as a voice from behind inquires about the progress of their training. Walking side by side with the Black Assassin leader through a serene courtyard, Muqiang hears that everyone is focusing and putting in a lot of effort, prompting him to conclude that they must be doing well. Suddenly, a blur of motion erupts, and a red-haired figure launches a lightning-fast attack, catching the Black Assassin leader off guard, who barely manages a surprised gasp. The impact forces the Black Assassin leader to recoil, a pained grunt escaping him as he realizes the gravity of the situation. "They're here?" The red-haired attacker presses his assault, their blades clashing in a flurry of sparks as the Black Assassin leader desperately defends. As the fight continues, a closer look at the attacker reveals a surprising detail. His vibrant red hair is merely a wig, a disguise he wears. The red-haired figure, now standing before a group of kneeling assassins, is greeted with reverence as they proclaim him the Sect leader. With a swift motion, the Sect leader removes his red wig, revealing his true black hair and a distinctive scar over his left eye, addressing his subordinates with a chilling declaration. "It is an honor to see you." The Sect leader, now radiating a fierce red aura, demands to know Muqiang's whereabouts, his voice laced with fury. Meanwhile, Muqiang stands poised, twin blades drawn, dark energy swirling around him as he prepares for the inevitable clash. A quiet confidence settles over him, acknowledging that his own strength is indeed superior. The Sect leader's hand reaches out, a crimson glow intensifying around it. With a sudden surge of power, he transforms, his physique growing more muscular as he roars Muqiang's name, utterly bewildered by the turn of events. His eye glows with an ominous red light, a testament to his unleashed power. He questions Muqiang's choice to fight him instead of Jiang Ho, expressing deep disappointment in his actions. With a snarl, the Sect leader barks orders to his subordinates, demanding they quickly dispatch Muqiang. Muqiang remains unfazed, his stance unwavering, while the Sect leader watches on, his face contorted in a mask of rage. The Blood-Eye Sect leader, transformed and radiating immense power, watches Muqiang with a look of disbelief, while Muqiang simply observes him. His voice a low growl, the Sect leader commands him to draw his blade. A sharp metallic scrape echoes as he begins to unsheath his weapon. Impatiently, he urges Muqiang to hurry, his transformed body crackling with raw power. A heavy thud marks his stance, and it becomes clear just how enraged the Sect leader truly is. Unfazed, Muqiang calmly responds, thanking him for providing such a suitable space for their confrontation. Red energy crackles around the Sect leader as he declares Muqiang's arrogance knows no bounds, warning him not to regret his defiance. Accepting the challenge, Muqiang's hand begins to glow with a vibrant blue aura as he states, he will go all out. His eyes now burning with the same blue light, he wonders how long it has been since he last unleashed his full strength. Still pondering the mysteries of the demonic realm, Muqiang stands poised, a colossal, rectangular blade resting casually on his shoulder. Before him, the very mountain begins to groan and fracture, its stone surface spiderwebbing with cracks. He has just unleashed a devastating technique, the mountain-shattering blade. The Blood-Eye Sect leader stares in disbelief, wondering if this display is merely a sword art. But then, a dawning realization crosses his face as he understands that Muqiang's true blade was entirely unseen. Muqiang shifts, a brilliant blue aura erupting around him, confirming his mastery of perfect sword manipulation. A massive, glowing blue energy blade tears through the air. With an unervingly calm expression, he announces his intention to make the first move. Enraged, the Blood-Eye Sect leader lets out a guttural roar, his body now wreathed in a fierce red aura. The ground shatters from the force of the invisible strike. As the Blood-Eye Sect leader, his face contorted in fury, grips his weapon tightly. "You bastard," he roars, his voice laced with venom. Lunging forward, he unleashes a furious assault, demanding an end to the impudence, but Muqiang effortlessly evades the sweeping kick and weapon strike. With a swift, almost imperceptible motion, Muqiang counters, his blade flashing through the air. The Sect leader recoils, a gasp escaping his lips, realizing the difficulty of even moving his neck after the blow. His hands begin to glow with an ominous red energy, two spectral swords manifesting in his grasp. As he vows to show Muqiang who the true king of the cult is, a blazing, crimson aura erupts around him, his power surging as he prepares for a true battle. Muqiang's gaze sharpens, his expression hardening as the Blood-Eye Sect leader's power surges. Culminating in a devastating technique, the billowing breath of the Blood Dragon erupts, engulfing the Sect leader in a maelstrom of crimson energy. The raw power coalesces, forming a monstrous, fiery dragon head that lunges forward with destructive intent. The infernal beast expands, its form stretching as it surges across the battlefield, a wave of pure, unbridled destruction. The question hangs in the air: what truly defines martial strength? It is said that with enough power, a man can defy the heavens themselves and tear through the very earth beneath his feet. Such power, however, is not easily gained, for martial strength is forged only through relentless training and unyielding hard work. And if one were to achieve absolute power, they could command the world itself, ruling over all with unquestioned control. A figure with long, red hair tied back considers this, a knowing look in their eyes, declaring the answer to be deceptively simple, yet acknowledging that one crucial element remains missing. They demonstrate their own formidable skill, a blur of motion and power, as martial strength truly becomes absolute power when a person can effortlessly sway and tear through any challenge with 100% of their training. The impact of their movements echoes, confirming that both martial strength and overall power are indeed obtained through a combination of rigorous training and practical, lived experience. Yet, the question lingers: what then is still missing from this equation of martial prowess? A powerful warrior with wild red hair strains, his face contorted in agony, as he cries out in disbelief. Before him, Mu Qiang stands poised, his blade crackling with an ethereal blue energy, prompting a shocked question from his opponent, wondering if this is the legendary sword decree. The sword flashes with blinding speed, a sharp crack echoing through the air, leaving the red-haired warrior unable to even perceive the movement. Terror fills his eyes as the realization dawns on him, knowing he is going to die. Mu Qiang's strike descends with precision, a blue trail of energy marking its path. His expression remains calm, utterly unfazed by the swift conclusion of the battle. With a soft clang, the blade slides back into its sheath, leaving the red-haired warrior crumpled on the ground. The defeated man groans, barely able to comprehend what just happened, as Mu Qiang looks down, expressing his disappointment. Turning to walk away, Mu Qiang leaves his opponent with a final, cryptic piece of advice, hoping he will be able to find that missing element for himself. The red-haired warrior coughs, his body still reeling from the overwhelming power he just faced, unable to comprehend how anyone could possess such immense mana. His gaze lifts, then drops, as he realizes the sheer magnitude of the mana, so potent it remains invisible to the eye, concluding that the man he fought must be something beyond human. Later, from within a grand structure, he looks up at the towering architecture. A sudden, sharp sound echoing through the air as he steps out onto a balcony. His eyes widen in disbelief at the sight before him, a single expletive escaping his lips. Outside, a bird soars past the ornate rooftops, its cry echoing softly as it continues its flight. The sun begins to set over the sprawling complex, casting long shadows across the ancient buildings. Meanwhile, a man with sleek black hair tied back watches the sunrise from a window, his expression unreadable as the new day dawns. Elder Hyang observes a small bird perched on his arm, musing aloud about the interesting turn of events. Under the serene glow of a full moon, a grand, traditional structure stands silhouetted against the night sky, its opulent interior hallways stretching into the distance. Within one of these chambers, Elder Hyang bows deeply, declaring his respect for the heavenly demon cult. He then addresses an unseen figure, expressing his pleasure at their reunion and acknowledging their increased strength and hard work. The elder, now looking down, relays a message. His grandmaster has ordered him to remain as an assistant. An elderly man, holding a traditional fan, listens intently. He begins to speak, assuming his subordinate is already aware of the situation, given their involvement in the dynasty's mission. The grandmaster then reveals his own task, to retrieve Mu Qiang, known as number 2044 of the heavenly demon cult, a mission he regretfully admits to having failed. Yu Hyang continues his report, acknowledging that the target has already reached the pinnacle of the heavenly demon cult's divine understanding, a fact that elicits a surprised exclamation. The focus shifts to Mu Qiang, who listens intently as the conversation turns to him, revealing that the sole objective is to locate and retrieve him, which is the very reason for their presence. A powerful golden aura, shaped like a dragon, manifests, representing the martial master who has ascended to the realm of divine understanding. A shadowy figure with glowing eyes appears, identified as the Sword Emperor of Divine Understanding. Yu Hyang, confident in his abilities, dismisses the idea that the Sword Emperor would be foolish enough to attempt to kill him, reiterating that their purpose remains unchanged. Mu Qiang's gaze hardens as the true mission is laid bare, to retrieve the Sword Emperor of Divine Understanding. The underlying motive is revealed. The elimination of the Sword Emperor would send a clear, undeniable message to the just faction. Mu Qiang declares his own intention, asserting that he is more than capable of killing the Sword Emperor and delivering that message himself. Yu Hyang reacts with a dismissive shake of his head, firmly stating that Mu Qiang's interpretation is incorrect and that he himself is sufficient for the task. A focused intensity burns in Mu Qiang's eyes, a silent declaration of his unwavering resolve. Under the vast, full moon, the world sleeps, unaware of the silent movements across the rugged terrain. Rustling through the dense forest, a small group of figures makes their way, their presence barely disturbing the quiet night. One of them grumbles, questioning the elaborate effort required to eliminate a single target, a strange sense of familiarity washing over him. Another, with a top knot, identifies their quarry as the one responsible for the Blood Eye Sect leader's demise, but quickly dismisses the past, focusing only on the present task. The first assassin nods, accepting the grim reality of their mission. Suddenly, a sharp intake of breath escapes him, his eyes widening in surprise as an unseen force makes its presence known. Moments later, the confrontation is over, and Muqiang stands victorious, looking down at the fallen assassins, declaring them the final targets for the day. Later, cloaked against the chill, he sits by a crackling campfire, offering a calm greeting to an unseen presence. As he settled by the campfire, a small group of figures approached him, one of them offering a reassuring, "It's okay." Now gathered around the flickering flames, an older man from the group began to speak, attempting to appear non-threatening as he explained, "Please don't think that we're bad people. We just have some questions for you." He then produced a drawing, his voice dropping slightly as he revealed their true purpose. "We're looking for a person that assassinated the Blood Eye Sect leader in the mountain a few years ago. Have you perhaps seen a man that looks like this drawing?" Muqiang's gaze fell upon the crude sketch, his thoughts carefully veiled beneath his hood, considering the man they sought. After a brief pause, he calmly replied, his voice devoid of any telltale emotion, "Nope, I have never seen that person before." From a high branch, an owl lets out a soft, inquisitive hoot. As two men clink their cups together in a toast, one declaring, "All right, cheers." Soon after, Grandmaster Beck kneels before Muqiang, offering a sincere apology. "I apologize. I misunderstood you earlier." Muqiang simply replies, "It's fine. Now that I think about it," Muqiang muses, "You're not so bad." Beck, still kneeling, gratefully responds, "Thank you." Rising, Muqiang then holds up a small picture, his gaze sharp as he asks, "May I ask who that picture was supposed to be?" Grandmaster Beck's expression darkens as he replies, "He's a killer, an extremely dangerous man who stood at the very top of the muram." Muqiang studies the image, then asks, "How long ago was this picture taken?" Beck replies, "That's the only remaining one." Grandmaster Beck explains that the killer's weapon, a sword, was not forged from iron, but from a material so unique it was never found again after his disappearance. He continues, describing the killer as a man who, despite his terrifying reputation, was known to be a kind and gentle brother to his siblings, a stark contrast to the monster he became. Muqiang listens intently, a thought forming in his mind about the killer's weapon, wondering if it was a sword or a spear. Beck confirms it was indeed a sword, adding that if his memory serves him correctly, it was called the Black Dragon Sword. As Muqiang holds his own blade, its dark, unadorned hilt hinting at a hidden power, Beck reveals the killer's weapon was unique, enjoying the feel of dark clothes and the weight of his sword. The Grandmaster explains that the killer's sword was always carried in a black sheath, its blade covered in bandages. Muqiang's gaze sharpens, a flicker of recognition in his eyes as he processes this detail. Beck observes his reaction, a knowing expression on his face. A wave of disbelief washes over Muqiang as the implications of Beck's words sink in. "Hold on, youngest brother," the man with the top knot calls out, his companion beside him. He then questions, "But why are you cupping it?" A look of deep concern crosses his face. Muqiang, meanwhile, calmly sips from a small cup. He muses, "I had completely forgotten about it, since it has been a while." The man with the top knot bows deeply, expressing gratitude for their lives being spared. Muqiang continues his contemplation. "I'm usually not fond of sparing lives, but I suppose it's not a bad thing to have a few people indebted to me." Kneeling before him with his companion, the older man admits, "It is clear that we made a mistake." He concludes, "If he put his mind to it, I'm sure he could have killed us all by now. He's not an opponent we can take on." As he prepares to depart, Muqiang issues a final, pointed instruction, requesting that for future reference, no one who hides their presence should be assigned to watch over him, before declaring his immediate leave. With his back turned, he walks away, leaving the two men in his wake. One of them confirms his departure, while the other expresses uncertainty about their next move. The older man, still reeling from the encounter, reveals that he is currently on a mission. Meanwhile, Muqiang, now alone, pours a clear liquid from a small flask into a cup. He takes a sip, as the older man continues to explain his predicament, stating that the reason he is tasked with killing the sect leader is something Muqiang's group is quite familiar with. He then directly questions Muqiang, asking if he knows the identity of this person. Muqiang listens intently as the older man proposes a deal, inquiring if it would be acceptable for them to help him find and kill the sect leader in his place, or if he fails, they could claim the bounty themselves. The two men exchange glances, one hesitantly asking what they should do, while the other simply hums in contemplation. Finally, the older man makes a decision, declaring that they will show him the way. Through a winding mountain pass, a small group rode, the silence of the rugged terrain broken only by the rhythmic thud of hooves. Leading the way, Muqiang maintained a steady pace, his senses alert to the subtle shifts in the environment. Suddenly, he reined in his horse, a faint snort from the animal echoing the abrupt halt. Behind him, the older man, confused, asked what was the matter. Muqiang's gaze pierced the dense foliage ahead, his voice cutting through the silence as he commanded the unseen presence to show themselves. Before the words could fully fade, an assassin dropped from above, striking at the older man with a surprised cry. The older man recoiled, his mind racing to comprehend the sudden assault. From all sides, more attackers emerged, their blades flashing as they swarmed the group. The older man cursed, realizing the assassins had been right beside them the entire time, but Muqiang's voice cut through the chaos, a sharp command to retreat. He listens to the older man's concern, who explains that they cannot simply abandon their current path, as their pursuers have been tracking them all along. With a slight smirk, Muqiang dismisses their worries, telling them to simply follow him, as they are too clumsy to manage on their own. He reminds them of his efforts to get them to leave in the first place, promising them that they will regain their formation. He explains that their current situation is a blind spot, a terrible thing to say, but that they must let their enemies believe they are the only ones capable of such a feat, before simply commanding them to do it. The sun begins to set over a vast mountain range, casting long shadows across the rugged terrain. Later, the three men ride through the mountains on horseback, the rhythmic creak of their saddles echoing in the quiet evening. Muqiang points ahead, informing his companions that they will reach their destination after crossing the mountain before them. He then adds, with a hint of intrigue, that this is where their target lies, finding the situation rather interesting. A grand, traditional building stands nestled among the trees in the distance, its architecture hinting at importance. The journey leads to a tranquil estate, its traditional buildings nestled amidst lush greenery and crossed by a small, elegant bridge. A small bird rests on a blossoming branch, its song the only sound disturbing the quiet air. But the tranquility is soon broken as a hand reaches out to touch the delicate petals, a voice murmuring with quiet surprise that an unexpected person has arrived at their place. Inside, Grandmaster Beck addresses a young subordinate, confirming the arrival and instructing the young child to inform the people below. Standing composed in the courtyard, Grandmaster Beck reiterates, a guest has indeed arrived. After a long journey, the destination was finally in sight, prompting Muqiang to acknowledge their arrival. They had reached the residence of the Divine Tracker, a place of quiet reverence. Inside, Muqiang and Gongsun Su found themselves face-to-face with an unexpected figure, a sudden encounter that left them both startled. The elderly man, with a serene expression, spoke softly, assuring them there was no need for alarm. He stood tall and composed, his long white hair a striking contrast to his simple, elegant robes. Curiosity piqued, Muqiang questioned the identity of the old man, only for Gongsun Su to reveal him as the Divine Tracker. Still unsure of the title's meaning, Muqiang pressed further, learning that this individual was the only one capable of locating the emperor. Observing the Divine Tracker's territory, Muqiang, his face partially obscured by a mask, considers the unfolding situation, wondering if the man has a specific plan in mind. Inside, a serene courtyard hosts a gathering, where several figures are seated around a low table, the soft clinking of cups filling the air. The Divine Tracker, an elderly man with long white hair, offers a cup of tea, remarking that it is his favorite. He encourages his guest to try it, noting that Muqiang seems quite adept at drinking tea, then expresses surprise that someone of his stature would bother with such etiquette. Muqiang, holding his cup, acknowledges the compliment, explaining that he is merely following the customs of the host. The Divine Tracker finds this response intriguing, a slight smile playing on his lips. Muqiang, however, is taken aback, a small sound escaping him as he questions the Divine Tracker's words, wondering what he means. The Divine Tracker simply observes him, then takes a sip of his own tea, stating that he sees how the tea is. Muqiang looks away, a hint of annoyance in his expression, as he declares that he prefers alcohol over tea. A subordinate reports to the Divine Tracker, confirming the man they're discussing appears to be in his 30s, the one known as the Sword Emperor, Muqiang. The Divine Tracker acknowledges the information, as the subordinate adds that Muqiang will also be participating in the upcoming tournament, questioning if they should truly be treating him with such deference. With a calm demeanor, the Divine Tracker thanks his subordinate for waiting and invites him to enjoy dinner. Seated at a low table laden with food, the Divine Tracker explains that Muqiang apologizes for his rudeness, but he is a bitter man, reiterating his participation in the tournament. He then instructs his subordinates to leave after they finish eating, adding that it would be rude to refuse the meal. The subordinate, Char Black Assassin Leader, praises his generosity, remarking that he is over the top. Later, the grand structure of the Divine Tracker's residence stands majestically under the sky. Inside, the rustle of robes signals movement. A group of men kneel respectfully, one of them asking if their father has called for them. The black-clad figure, having delivered his report, acknowledges the situation with a quiet humph, deciding he must simply ensure he isn't caught, and announces his departure. Watching him go, the Divine Tracker lets out a soft humph of his own, convinced the man is merely trying to show off. He then adds, with a thoughtful expression, that this will be a wonderful learning opportunity, urging everyone to listen well. The Divine Tracker observes that they appear well-trained, while the black-clad figure, still present, internally remarks on how they always put up a front, even when skilled, a subtle hint of exasperation in his thoughts. Meanwhile, Muqiang, lost in his own thoughts, wonders aloud if he has learned anything beyond martial arts. He admits to being tired of fighting, yet acknowledges it's the only thing he's good at, pondering if there's anything else he can do with his life. The Divine Tracker, seemingly aware of Muqiang's internal struggle, offers with a knowing smile to play something for him, certain he possesses a special skill. Under a twilight sky, a grand, multi-tiered building stands in quiet majesty. While inside, two men, one older with a stern mustache, the other younger, stand with serious expressions, their gazes fixed and unwavering. While the divine tracker observes, a young man sits in quiet contemplation, his fingers dancing across the strings of a traditional instrument, coaxing a mournful melody from its wooden body. The deep, resonant notes fill the air, a rhythmic pulse of sound. A hand taps gently, marking the rhythm. Later, gathered around a low table laden with food, the divine tracker, Mukyang, and two of the tracker's followers share a meal, the air now filled with the quiet sounds of their repast. Mukyang breaks the silence, expressing his gratitude for the opportunity to play. The divine tracker smiles warmly, admitting that Mukyang's music was a novel and welcome experience, and that he was glad to have come. His expression then turns serious as he continues, suggesting that if Mukyang is already aware of the current situation, there's no need for a lengthy explanation. Mukyang looks up, a hint of confusion in his eyes, asking for clarification on what situation the tracker refers to. The divine tracker simply laughs, raising his cup in a cheerful, yet enigmatic, gesture. The divine tracker, his gaze fixed on Mukyang, remarks that it has been a long time since their last encounter, expressing his anticipation for this very day, while Mukyang admits he has never seen the man before, only heard tales. The divine tracker, incredulous, questions if Mukyang truly hasn't heard of him, proclaiming himself the one who uncovers all the world's secrets, yet Mukyang simply reiterates his honesty. Outside, the night air hums with the soft sounds of the world, a gentle breeze rustling through the eaves of a traditional building. Back inside, the divine tracker poses a philosophical question, asking what kind of materials one would need to create truly fine craftsmanship. Mukyang considers this, offering that while the best materials are the basic answer, the craftsmanship itself holds the true importance, concluding that is all he can offer on the subject. The divine tracker finds this response intriguing, especially for a normal person, prompting Mukyang to question if he implies Mukyang is not normal, to which the tracker cryptically replies that it is for Mukyang to decide, but he himself is certainly not normal at this moment. Mukyang, visibly confused, repeats the question about not being a normal person, admitting he has no idea what the divine tracker is talking about. With a knowing smile, the divine tracker then asks if he can also call Mukyang a master of swordsmanship, referring to him as the supreme swordsman. Mukyang confirms his choice of name, stating that is precisely what he has called it. The divine tracker, turning slightly away, expresses his curiosity about what this will entail, assuring Mukyang that he will not have to wait long to find out. His gaze sharpens as he considers Mukyang's words, a faint glow in his eye, before concluding that he has pondered enough, and it is time to move forward. With a final statement, the divine tracker begins to walk away, suggesting it is now time for Mukyang to embark on his mission. The sounds of a bustling courtyard echo through a grand, traditional complex, where banners flutter gently in the breeze, setting a serene yet imposing atmosphere. Inside, Gongsun Su sits with a thoughtful expression, a soft hum escaping his lips. His gaze sharpens as he continues, remarking that it has been a long time since he last heard of the Black Assassins. Mukyang, seated opposite him, dismisses the notion, finding the very name Black Assassins meaningless, as they were always a secret group. A finely crafted sword, its blade gleaming, rests nearby, a silent testament to the martial prowess of their world. Gongsun Su then shifts the conversation, inquiring about the name of the overlord, mentioning rumors of his impending death, or perhaps that he is already gone, making caution unnecessary. Mukyang's thoughts drift, recalling a voice that expressed a keen interest in his swordsmanship. The memory solidifies into a scene, as a white-haired man, his gaze sharp, reiterates, "I see. I'm even more interested in your swordsmanship now." From another perspective, an older man with gray hair, his expression stern, responds to the white-haired man's declaration, "Yes, father." The white-haired man, looking out at the vast sky, then announces his intention, "I will now be entering into a match." Despite his confusion about the sudden interest, the white-haired man accepts the challenge. "Although I don't know why you're so interested in my swordsmanship, I shall accept your challenge." The gray-haired father, his gaze fixed on a younger disciple, then instructs, "I shall keep your sword in mind. Also, Meijin, I want you to take my blade." Meijin, taken aback, questions the immense responsibility. "How can I, who is a mere disciple, handle something as sacred as your blade?" The white-haired man clarifies the true nature of the weapon. "This is not an inheritance. It is a burden that I must bear." The gray-haired father observes Meijin, noting a change in his demeanor, although your personality and aura are different from your younger self. As the white-haired swordsman observes, a look of profound disbelief crosses his face, uttering that he can hardly believe what he's witnessing, having never encountered anyone quite like Mukyang. With a sharp, metallic ring, he draws his blade, his expression shifting to one of intense focus. Mukyang, in turn, meets his gaze with unwavering resolve, declaring that he will no longer hold back, ready to unveil the true depth of his swordsmanship. His form shifts, a silent promise of the power he is about to unleash. The white-haired swordsman's eyes gleam with excitement, impressed by Mukyang's declaration, recognizing him as someone truly special, a worthy challenge he'd been seeking. Mukyang, however, simply questions, "A challenge?" Before Muqiang can fully process the words, the white-haired swordsman lunges, his blade erupting with a brilliant, golden aura, a powerful strike aimed directly at him. The sudden, overwhelming force of the attack causes Muqiang's eyes to widen, a flicker of surprise crossing his face as he braces for impact. The white-haired swordsman continues his relentless assault, his glowing blade still in motion, expressing a hint of disappointment that he hasn't yet seen more of Muqiang's swordsmanship. As the white-haired swordsman's attack surged forward, Muqiang braced himself, a blue energy shield flaring around him. Meanwhile, the swordsman's hand tightened around his hilt, the weapon glowing with immense power as he prepared his ultimate technique. With a roar, he unleashed the full might of his divine dragon, a golden, draconic aura erupting from him and surging towards his opponent. The impact was immediate, Muqiang grunting as the golden energy slammed into his defensive barrier. The two opposing forces collided in a blinding flash, the golden dragon tearing at the blue shield. Muqiang was visibly pushed back, his shield cracking under the immense pressure, yet the swordsman remained unfazed. The sheer power of the attack was staggering, leaving Muqiang to wonder if his opponent was already dominating the fight. His eyes glowing with effort, he realized the swordsman's mana was beyond what his enhanced senses could typically penetrate. Observing Muqiang's struggle, the white-haired swordsman mused that his reputation as one of the 5 emperors of divine swordsmanship was well-earned, knowing the battle was far from over. Unyielding, he begins to unleash a new technique, a swift, powerful motion known as the tail of the dragon. His blade arcs, following the ancient forms of the page 3, verse 1. With a surge of power, his sword crackles with intense lightning, manifesting the sword decree. The blade glows with an overwhelming blue energy, poised to strike, as the full force of the sword decree gathers. Observing the counterattack, the white-haired swordsman smiles, acknowledging it as a powerful technique, yet confident that his opponent has not yet given up. His golden aura flares, and he challenges, wondering aloud if anyone can truly block his attack. Meeting the challenge head-on, the sword decree unleashes its full power. The two techniques collide in a blinding flash of light, a massive explosion of raw power. The impact reverberates, filling the space with an overwhelming burst of energy and a deafening roar. The earth-shattering impact of the colliding techniques reverberates, a blinding explosion of energy that leaves a lingering shockwave. From a distance, Gong Sun Su watches the spectacle, acknowledging the sheer danger of the man he faces, never imagining the extent of his power. Yet, from the heart of the maelstrom, Muqiang emerges, his form intact, leaving his opponent to wonder how he could still be alive. The white-haired swordsman recoils, his confidence shattered, forced to admit his own technique was insufficient. Gong Sun Su continues to observe, a hand raised in contemplation, pondering the true limits of Muqiang's power. Unfazed, Muqiang prepares another strike, his blade glowing with an ethereal light, a sword capable of cutting through anything. He launches into the flight of the dragon, his form a blur of motion and power, a technique that defies gravity and expectation. Drawing upon ancient knowledge, he channels dark energy, reciting page 3, verse 2 of a forgotten scripture. With a final, decisive motion, he unleashes the commanding blade, a devastating attack of pure, focused power. The air itself tears apart as a surge of light blue energy erupts, signaling the full force of his attack. His opponent's eye snaps wide, reflecting a sudden, terrifying realization. Then, with a thunderous crash, Muqiang's blade, enveloped in crackling blue energy, connects. The white-haired swordsman, still reeling, recognizes the technique, wondering if this is truly the legendary commanding blade. Even Muqiang himself is caught in the technique's raw power, falling headfirst amidst the vibrating blue aura. He descends rapidly, a dark silhouette against the swirling, humming energy. Gong Sun Su watches, his eyes glowing with a mix of awe and dread, realizing the true, terrifying potential of the technique Muqiang is unleashing. The attack culminates in a massive, blinding explosion, shaking the very foundations of the area. Debris and chaotic energy erupt outwards, a testament to the devastating power of the commanding blade. The sheer force of the previous strike sends the white-haired swordsman reeling backward, a guttural sound escaping him. He struggles to maintain his footing, his mind racing, knowing he must commit his very life force to hold his stance, or risk being utterly annihilated. But before he can fully recover, Muqiang unleashes another devastating technique, a swirling vortex of blue energy erupting around him, the vortex of the Supreme Dragon declared. The power of the Supreme Dragon manifests, engulfing the space between them. His eyes glow with fierce determination, channeling the immense power. And the blue aura expands rapidly, threatening to consume everything in its path. A sigh escapes the white-haired swordsman, his gaze distant as he considers the sheer presumption of those who dare disturb his peace. He had thought himself free, believing he had left the world's troubles behind to live a quiet life, but it seems fate has other plans, leaving him no choice but to act. With a subtle shift in his stance, a decision solidifies within him. He will show them the true extent of his power. A potent white aura erupts from his form, swirling around him with immense force as he prepares to strike. His fist clenches, then lashes out with devastating speed, the impact resonating with a thunderous crash. Having delivered his message, he leaps away from the scene, a blur against the distant structures. Suspended in the air, still wreathed in his potent energy, he looks down upon the figures below, assessing the outcome of his display. As the white-haired swordsman gathered his power, drawing in all the surrounding energy, Mu Qiang saw his chance, lunging forward with a swift, decisive strike. But the swordsman's counter was blindingly fast, erupting in a brilliant flash of light and raw force. The ground beneath him cracked and churned, a vortex of dust and power swirling from the sheer impact. He watched as his attack cleaved through the air, impacting Mu Qiang with undeniable force. Observing the result, the swordsman noted the change in his opponent's eyes. Despite the powerful blow, Mu Qiang rose, acknowledging the swordsman's ability to launch such an attack even in his current state. The white-haired warrior calmly stated that he had barely managed to make the strike non-lethal. Mu Qiang conceded that he had still taken a portion of the blow, prompting the swordsman to ask if he truly wished to continue their confrontation. Mu Qiang, his hand resting on the shattered ground, lets out a frustrated groan, acknowledging the obvious truth of his situation. But the white-haired swordsman, his form swirling with nascent power, declares the confrontation is far from over. As energy crackles around him, he expresses his surprise that Mu Qiang can still stand, but the young warrior simply launches himself forward, a blur of dark energy. With a furious cry, Mu Qiang unleashes a rapid assault, his dark aura colliding with the swordsman's defensive white energy. The swordsman, dismissing him as foolish, meets the attack head-on, his own power surging, while Mu Qiang pushes through with unwavering determination. Their combined forces erupt in a blinding flash, a violent collision of light and shadow. The sheer impact sends Mu Qiang hurtling backward, a trail of dark energy marking his retreat. The swordsman, now fully unleashing his might, becomes a conduit for raw power, enveloped in a massive, crackling lightning aura that overwhelms the air. His eyes glowing with intense power, he stares down at his opponent, a silent question hanging in the air. Did you truly think me weak? The ground beneath him still crackles with the white-haired swordsman's lightning, an agonizing surge of power that forces a cry from Mu Qiang. He recoils, his face etched with shock, unable to comprehend the sheer force he just endured. The lightning aura, far from dissipating, only intensifies, spreading across the entire area with blinding force. Overwhelming electrical energy fills the space, weaving intricate, destructive patterns. The lightning reaches a blinding crescendo, momentarily engulfing everything in its brilliant, destructive light. The white-haired swordsman simply turns his back, his voice dripping with disdain as he dismisses his opponent as a weakling. Battered but resolute, Mu Qiang internally questions, wondering why his opponent is so impossibly strong. Despite the overwhelming power, he steels his resolve, determining to deflect the lingering attack. A powerful impact erupts as Mu Qiang attempts to counter or deflect the overwhelming force. Mu Qiang's defense holds firm against the lightning attack, causing the white-haired swordsman to gasp in disbelief. His arm, wreathed in a subtle aura, deflects the powerful lightning, forcing the swordsman's hand to recoil. The swordsman's face contorts in a mixture of shock and fury, unable to comprehend how his opponent could withstand such an assault. Amidst the dissipating dust and lingering energy, Mu Qiang stands unmoving, his stance unwavering. The sheer force of his counter-defense sends the white-haired swordsman hurtling backward, leaving a trail of disturbed earth in his wake. From nearby, Gong Sun Su calls out, his voice tinged with concern, questioning Mu Qiang's apparent carelessness. The great sect leader observes his disciple, noting the rare seriousness in his demeanor, a seriousness that suggests he could easily overcome any foe, as he reminds Mu Qiang of the profound importance of the heavenly sword spirit, yet makes it clear his expectations remain high. He continues, explaining that the very essence of the heavenly sword spirit lies within the sword itself, a challenging path to mastery, but one that promises unparalleled strength. As the sword glows with a vibrant golden energy, Gong Sun Su concludes, emphasizing that the blade embodies the will to protect the world. The force of the impact sends the white-haired swordsman reeling backward, his robes tearing as he's violently repelled. He lands hard in the center of the courtyard, struggling to regain his footing as he mutters, "Not even giving me a chance to retrieve my sword. You truly are an impressive lad." Looking up, the swordsman offers a rare apology, admitting, "I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were someone who couldn't be dealt with so easily." Mu Qiang simply replies, "You are too." Before the words can fully settle, Mu Qiang launches himself forward, his leg blurring into a swift, powerful strike. His face contorted in fierce concentration, he presses the assault. The white-haired swordsman's eyes blaze with electric energy, lightning crackling around him as he prepares his counter. Their forms become a whirlwind of motion, Mu Qiang's dark energy clashing violently with the swordsman's swirling blue aura. A blinding golden explosion erupts at the point of impact, engulfing them both in a maelstrom of raw power. Mu Qiang descends with blinding speed, his dual blades arcing through the air in a fierce, sweeping attack. The white-haired swordsman stands his ground, declaring his intent to meet the assault head-on, vowing to bloody his opponent's weapon with his own blade. Their swords meet with a deafening crash, sending shockwaves through the air. Both combatants strain against the immense pressure, Mu Qiang's face etched with fierce determination, while his opponent's hand begins to glow with gathering energy. The white-haired swordsman's hand radiates with intense power as he prepares what he calls his final attack. He unleashes the formidable strike of the hidden dragon, a powerful technique surrounded by a swirling aura. Mu Qiang's eyes widen in surprise, recognizing the name technique. He grips his sword hilt tightly, bracing himself for the impending impact. The two warriors meet again in a dynamic, mid-air confrontation, their clash echoing through the silent courtyard. Mu Qiang unleashes his technique, shattering wind, a powerful strike glowing with fierce energy, sending a massive shockwave directly into the white-haired swordsman, who is caught in the explosive impact. A pained cry escapes him as blood splatters from his face, the force of the blow clearly overwhelming. From a distance, Gong Sun Su watches with wide eyes, a concerned master, echoing from one of his disciples. The white-haired swordsman, reeling from the impact, realizes the gravity of his situation, thinking to himself that not only was his defensive chi shattered, but the attack also carried a deeper, more insidious effect. Despite his injuries, he knows he must act quickly, a desperate resolve hardening his gaze. But Mu Qiang offers no respite, continuing his relentless assault with dual blades, pushing his opponent further back. Another powerful, energy-infused strike connects, overwhelming the white-haired swordsman with a blinding flash of power. His face contorts in agony, blood now freely flowing as the full impact of Mu Qiang's assault takes its toll. Despite his wounds, the white-haired swordsman channels his remaining strength, a blue aura flaring around him as he desperately attempts to fortify his defenses. The air crackles with immense power, as a blinding flash of white and blue energy expands outward. Through the dissipating light, Mu Qiang presses his advantage, his form a blur of motion as he charges forward, cloak billowing behind him. A deep scar marks Mu Qiang's cheek, his expression a mix of weariness and quiet determination. As he turns to leave, a soft, heartfelt thank you escapes his lips. He reflects on his journey, acknowledging that without this presence, he would never have found himself again, then questions, "Can you trust me?" The answer, or perhaps his own conviction, rings clear. "You can always trust me." The hunter of Mu Qiang. Looking up at the sky, he accepts the trust placed in him, affirming, "I understand. I will trust you now, Hunter Mu Qiang. I will become even stronger." He finds himself surrounded, a man with spiky dark hair stepping forward to declare that he cannot be allowed to leave, and must come to meet a martial master in the heavenly realm, while another voice dismisses his disciple, Mu Qiang, as a fool. Elsewhere, the great sect leader, Gong Sun Su, solemnly entrusts his son to an unseen party, his voice firm as he acknowledges the request. Mu Qiang, now with his eyes closed, reflects on the unexpected turn of events, wondering if he truly is about to meet a martial master in the heavenly realm. A moment of disbelief washes over him, followed by a sharp gasp of surprise. The next instant, he lies defeated on the ground, the white-haired swordsman standing triumphantly over him, a faint, mocking laugh echoing in the air. The victor's feet remain firmly planted on the tiled floor. Not far, Gong Sun Su also lies defeated, a loyal follower crying out in anguish for his master. The great sect leader, despite his defeat, questions the empty words spoken, his face contorted in frustration. As a powerful impact reverberates, Mu Qiang's eye flares with an intense, electric blue glow, a silent scream of defiance escaping him. Mu Qiang, his expression grim, acknowledges the unfortunate turn of events, unable to uphold a prior commitment. Suddenly, he finds himself ensnared, multiple figures holding him captive as a staff presses against his throat. From his constrained position, he surveys the chaos, noting one of his allies already fallen. An assailant looms over him, but his eyes blaze with a fierce, yellow light, a silent declaration of his disdain. With a furious roar, he commands an unseen ally to retrieve his father's sword and flee, urging them to warn their brothers in the east. Nearby, Gong Sun Su, along with another ally, reacts to the desperate order, urging haste. The assailant above him scoffs at his perceived arrogance, but Mu Qiang's gaze remains unwavering, refusing to let them dictate his destiny. Then, with a burst of speed, he breaks free, leaving the confrontation behind him. As he retreats, a voice from the pursuing group barks a chilling command, "Kill the boy." A furious voice cuts through the air, demanding to know where the escaping figure thinks he is going. As the shout echoes, another pursuer, younger, gasps in shock, recognizing the escapee. Meanwhile, determined to break free, the escaping youth's hand clenches around his sword hilt, the sound of straining effort audible. With a burst of speed, he moves with incredible velocity, a blur of motion as he glances back at his pursuers. His grip on the sword tightens further, a faint red glow emanating from his hand as he pushes forward with renewed force. From a safe distance, Gong Sun Su and a younger man observe the unfolding chaos, the elder contemplating their next move. As the chase continues, a voice from the pursuing group shouts, demanding that the escapee not be allowed to get away. With a final surge of energy, Mu Qiang bursts through a doorway, his sword ready, a cry of exertion escaping him as he continues his desperate flight. Behind him, two guards recoil, one clutching the other, clearly overwhelmed by the suddenness and speed of his escape. Mu Qiang stands defiantly before Gong Sun Su, who questions his presence, asking if he is also a disciple. Mu Qiang's gaze is sharp, his response cutting as he declares, "Your eyes are blind. I can see a mighty future ahead of me." The masked companion, observing the exchange, lets out a frustrated sigh, muttering, "I'm just a guard." Mu Qiang, unfazed, continues to challenge Gong Sun Su's authority, acknowledging the apology but asserting that there is still a chance for him to escape. Gong Sun Su, his patience wearing thin, questions Mu Qiang's audacity, asking how he could say such a thing after being caught. As Gong Sun Su and his companion turn to leave, he warns Mu Qiang that with his current strength, he will never escape the sect, suggesting they return. Mu Qiang's expression hardens, a determined glint in his eyes as he dismisses the warning, declaring that he will not return to a place where he was treated as a mere tool. The masked companion, overhearing Mu Qiang's words, simply offers a resigned, "I apologize." Mu Qiang, now alone, reaffirms his resolve, vowing to leave the sect. Mu Qiang, having made his decision, issues a final, firm instruction to Gong Sun Su, warning him against having hidden observers watch over him in the future before declaring his immediate departure. As Mu Qiang vanishes with a swift, almost imperceptible movement, leaving only a faint gust of wind, Gong Sun Su and his accompanying martial artists are left stunned, the word "live" hanging in the air. Meanwhile, the white-haired swordsman, who had been observing silently, expresses a quiet hope to meet Mu Qiang again when his own martial prowess has grown stronger, his hand instinctively going to the hilt of his sword. Recovering from the shock, Gong Sun Su instructs his group to head back, a whoosh of movement indicating their readiness to depart. As they prepare to leave, Gong Sun Su turns to Chief Norman, an elder of the sect and a renowned master of martial arts, asking for his thoughts on the encounter. The group then descends from their vantage point, landing with a soft thump. Walking away, Gong Sun Su reflects on the recent confrontation, musing aloud about their survival after such a fierce battle, a battle whose true nature remained unknown to his followers. The group continues their journey, the narration clarifying that those present did not truly understand the full implications of the fight they had just witnessed. With a subtle smile, Gong Sun Su declares that everything will be perfect, believing that everyone will soon forget the true events of the day as they continue their journey. As Mu Qiang's form recedes into the distance, his final words hang heavy in the air. Gong Sun Su turns to the white-haired swordsman, demanding to know what sort of nonsense he is spouting, only for the swordsman to calmly declare it a blessing. The sect leader is taken aback, the word "blessing" echoing in his mind as he processes the unexpected perspective. He then exclaims that their master has been fooled, while the apprentice seems to question his own understanding of the situation. A subtle shift crosses Gong Sun Su's face, a flicker of something akin to surprise, or perhaps a dawning realization. He muses aloud that he won't be able to hide this from the others, and perhaps he isn't even sure he wants to. Meanwhile, the white-haired swordsman explains to a concerned follower that Mu Qiang was offering them a chance to live. Gong Sun Su confirms Mu Qiang's parting words, adding that he also told them not to seek revenge. The follower reacts with utter disbelief, questioning if Mu Qiang truly expects them to listen to such a command. Gong Sun Su, his back to the viewer, listens intently as a voice reveals that everyone who attacked the mysterious man was killed. His eyes widen in shock, a bead of sweat tracing a path down his temple. The voice continues, explaining that it seems impossible, but this man is certainly in the profound realm, and there's a high chance he will come to this place, necessitating their preparation, while another voice, filled with concern, asks what happened to the great sect leader. An older man with a beard, his hand resting on Gong Sun Su's shoulder, confirms that the man was also killed, eliciting a gasp of disbelief from the sect leader. The elder grimaces, acknowledging that this means the man has attained a higher realm than even their revered father. He then advises the sect leader not to worry about such things, urging him instead to focus on writing the history of defeating this man alongside their father. Gong Sun Su, now resolute, declares his understanding and immediately commands that everyone be gathered and prepared for battle. From the moonlit courtyard of a grand, traditional building, a subordinate's voice rings out with a firm "Yes, sir." The imposing structure stands silently under the night sky, awaiting the impending conflict. Returning from his mission, Mu Qiang is greeted upon his arrival. A voice commends him on his successful completion, to which he offers a simple thank you. Meanwhile, a powerful figure, the leader of the demonic cult, sits upon his throne, a subtle shift in the air catching his attention. Mu Qiang, reflecting on his past encounters, acknowledges that even against a peak martial master, he would have desired a true exchange of blows, not just a victory. The cult leader, a knowing smirk playing on his lips, perceives Mu Qiang's inherent joy in challenging formidable opponents, and a thought begins to form. With dark, swirling energy manifesting around him, he poses a direct challenge, questioning if Mu Qiang possesses the strength to defeat the very leader of the demonic cult. In response, a golden, ethereal glow begins to emanate from Mu Qiang's hand, his own power stirring in anticipation. The leader of the demonic cult, Han Jung-gil, challenges his opponent, demanding to know if they truly believe themselves strong enough to defeat him. As he speaks, a sinister purple energy begins to coalesce around his hand, radiating raw power. Mu Qiang responds with a dismissive tone, suggesting that perhaps if his opponent were Han Jung-gil's father, the challenge might hold some weight. A smirk plays on Han Jung-gil's lips, his eyes glinting with a dangerous amusement at the young man's audacity. His gaze sharpens, the earring in his ear catching the light as his focus intensifies. Without warning, Han Jung-gil lunges, delivering a devastating blow that sends Mu Qiang reeling backward from the sheer force. The force of the attack distorts Mu Qiang's face, as dark, shadowy energy erupts around him from the impact. A subordinate's face contorts in a mixture of shock and fury. While the leader of the demonic cult, Han Jung-gil, himself recoils in disbelief, his eyes wide with an unexpected terror. From his ornate throne, he demands to know, what the hell was that? Mu Qiang, however, remains utterly unfazed, simply dismissing the entire affair as ridiculous. Han Jung-gil's chest heaves with a mixture of emotions. Before he lets out a harsh laugh, acknowledging Mu Qiang's arrogance. You truly are an arrogant bastard, but I suppose that's to be expected, since you did kill one of the 3 emperors of the just faction. A deep, resonant laugh echoes through the chamber. As Han Jung-gil's eyes begin to glow with a sinister red light, a dark aura swirling around him while he asks, what is it that you desire? Are you preparing for my punishment? He presses, but Mu Qiang's response is immediate and firm. No. He simply wishes to train his martial arts, having no desire to serve as a subordinate, even if he possesses enough power to conquer the heavens. Han Jung-gil observes him, noting that he does not wish to utilize that immense power. Mu Qiang considers his words, affirming that despite his strength, he can choose his own path, and he has no interest in becoming a subordinate or a sect leader. The demonic cult leader counters, suggesting this is a dilemma he must face, a choice between leading or serving. Mu Qiang dismisses the notion, stating that if one cannot decide for themselves, it is not a dilemma, but a problem. Han Jung-gil concedes, acknowledging that he will eventually only have time for training. The young man continues, explaining that the demonic cult would be burdened by its subordinates, and a leadership position would only complicate his life, making it troublesome. With a decisive gesture, Mu Qiang declares his intention to leave, asserting that he is not a subordinate and seeks no benefits from such a position. He resolves to prevent anyone from stopping him, intending to seize the opportunity to train and grow stronger, even preparing to acquire high-quality steel for his endeavors. The purpose of the demonic cult's swordsmanship was to cultivate a characteristic of the sword that would allow them to cut down their enemies, so that the more they trained, the more their sword would become like a living thing. As Mu Qiang prepares to leave, Han Jung-gil questions him, asking if he truly intends to abandon the demonic cult. He responds with a dismissive tone, stating that he is not a dog to be ordered around, nor a child to be taught, and that he will now take his leave. Mu Qiang then adds that he has no intention of becoming a leader or a subordinate, as such positions would only hinder his pursuit of martial arts. Han Jung-gil, observing his departure, muses that while Mu Qiang may lack ambition for power, he still possesses the fangs of the demonic cult. He considers that if Mu Qiang were to truly bear those fangs, he would become a formidable force, perhaps even a leader, but for now, he is content to simply train. Mu Qiang's eye glows with an intense yellow light as he declares his unwavering commitment to his path, warning that no one should challenge him until he has completed his training. With that final declaration, he turns his back on the compound, walking away into the distance. He then mutters to himself, a hint of sarcasm in his voice, that he is now the vice leader. He carefully examines a dark, rough stone, pondering if any cave could yield such a unique specimen, noting its distinct appearance from others he'd encountered. Meanwhile, an old acquaintance, Guak Hubium, muses aloud, wondering what Mu Qiang might be doing. Their paths soon cross, and Guak Hubium observes with a smile that the young man has grown considerably. Mu Qiang, surprised by the familiar face, exclaims, Guak Hubium? It had been a long time since their last meeting, and he was astonished to learn his old acquaintance had become the vice leader of the demonic cult. Guak Hubium dismisses the current state of affairs as a mess, but assures him of his help. With a determined expression, Guak Hubium declares his interest in planning their next moves. The two men clink their bowls together, a gesture of agreement and camaraderie. Guak Hubium places a reassuring hand on Mu Qiang's shoulder, a silent promise of support. A faint smile touches Mu Qiang's lips before his gaze drops, lost in thought. He sits silently beside Guak Hubium, watching the sun dip below the horizon. Guak Hubium breaks the quiet, explaining how they show loyalty to the demonic cult's leader, then asks why he doesn't. A knowing smile plays on Guak Hubium's lips, acknowledging that Mu Qiang isn't a member of the demonic cult. He continues, observing that Mu Qiang is under no obligation to show loyalty to anyone, concluding that he hasn't changed at all. But before the words fully register, Mu Qiang vanishes in a blur of motion, leaving Guak Hubium and another figure stunned. Guak Hubium quickly recovers, demanding to know the point of such a sudden disappearance, frustrated that Mu Qiang thinks he can hide his presence from the vice leader of the demonic cult. Nearby, a white-haired man and a woman react to the sudden shift, the man noting how quiet Mu Qiang's presence has become. Guak Hubium turns, finding Mu Qiang now standing directly behind him, who calmly states that only one option remains, choosing to go with Oboro. A wide grin spreads across Guak Hubium's face, giving a hearty thumbs up in approval. Mu Qiang turns slightly, his voice carrying a clear directive. For future reference, please do not have people who hide their presence keep watch over me. He continues, his eyes closed in thought. I shall now take my leave. A grand, traditional building stands silently under the night sky. Meanwhile, Guak Hubium holds a black ghost stone between his fingers, remarking, I've heard about your recent encounter with the new leader of the demonic cult. A slight smile plays on his lips as he adds, he has already killed someone with the use of his bloodlust. With a soft tack as he places the stone, Guak Hubium muses, I'm already becoming a fan of his. He picks up another stone, considering, even if you were to tell me that you were going to open a new path for the demonic cult, I would not be able to stop you. Looking down at the intricate board, he asks, I prefer chaos over order. Did you know why? The black and white stones form complex patterns on the board. As he explains, you know the more you try to control things, the more they slip through your fingers. As the game of Go continues, Guak Hubium reflects on the nature of existence, observing that while we live in a world of constant change, above all else, there's one undeniable truth. Once a Baduk piece is placed, it cannot be moved. He emphasizes the finality, stating that even though the pieces are set down, unmovable, they remain so until death itself. Mu Qiang's hand extends, a silent prelude to the storm about to break. As he pivots sharply, his long hair whipping around him, a low grunt escaping his lips. Before his opponents can react, he launches into a devastating kick, sending one attacker reeling with a sickening crack. He moves like a phantom, a blur of motion as he strikes another, his attacks too fast to follow. A powerful, glowing strike erupts from his form, connecting with brutal force. The force of his assault sends multiple figures recoiling, their cries of pain echoing through the air. He lands with effortless grace, as another opponent collapses to the ground. His gaze sharp and unwavering, he watches the last attacker fall, the swift confrontation concluded. He observes his surroundings, a single opponent before him, yet a deeper sense of unease settles in. With a swift, almost imperceptible movement, he stands over a pile of defeated figures, his blade now drawn, the battle already concluded. Turning his head slightly, he acknowledges the arrival of more foes, recognizing their coordinated attack. Then, with explosive force, a blinding burst of energy erupts from his position. Mid-air, he delivers a devastating kick, leaving his opponent no chance to recover. Sheathing his sword with finality, he declares his assessment of their skills complete and announces his departure. Elsewhere, a man with a goatee and a young woman discuss the recent events, the man repeating his words, while the woman finds his demeanor unchanged. Orchid, the young woman, reflects on her own abilities, acknowledging her spiritual skill but also her lethal attacks. The man, however, muses on the true traits of a martial arts master, contemplating his brother's perceived shortcomings, and concluding that he still has a long way to go. Mu Qiang, his dark hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail, turns to address the unseen figures, warning them not to have people hiding their presence watch over him. With his message delivered, he announces his departure, as off-panel voices discuss sessions lasting approximately 30 minutes, confirming their understanding. Meanwhile, a new location comes into view, the grand entrance to the Sunshine Cult's training hall. Inside, surrounded by countless ancient scrolls, a voice laments that none of them possess the same mana, despite the scrolls themselves being different. Examining a detailed, open scroll, the speaker expresses a hope that the demonic sect scrolls would offer something different. A man with dark hair tied back in a ponytail stands amidst the scrolls, declaring he won't work on the same scrolls as his brother, whose opponent was merely a weakling. His gaze sharpens, as he vows to show the true power of the Black Heavenly Demon Cult. Mu Qiang stands, his gaze distant, as a voice questions his presence, asking if he is truly a chrysanthemum. He then clarifies his purpose, stating he came to meet Mu Qiang, before turning to the other man, Guak Hubium, and asking if he is Mu Qiang's pupil. Guak Hubium, however, dismisses the idea, scoffing at the notion of being a mere pupil and questioning the kind of training Mu Qiang has received to be so foolish. A slight escapes Guak Hubium as he considers the situation, his expression shifting to one of contemplation. Mu Qiang, seemingly unfazed, then asks about a large boulder, which he considers an easy task, his thoughts drifting to a desolate landscape littered with skulls and bones. Guak Hubium's eyes widen slightly, a hint of surprise crossing his features at the mention of such a task. He then points out a fine tree in the south of the land, asking Mu Qiang what he thinks about counting all the leaves in that forest. Mu Qiang, with a determined expression, simply repeats the instruction, count all of the leaves. Guak Hubium explains that this is an old technique used by the Black Heavenly Demon Cult to train their disciples, a method to make them stronger, but he warns that the forest itself has many layers of wind. He reiterates that the forest has many layers of wind, and despite having about 3,000 trees, the difficulty of the task is pretty much the same as counting all the leaves. As Guak Hubium continued to lecture on the path to becoming a true demon, Mu Qiang, having already processed the task, simply stated his preference for privacy from hidden observers, then announced his departure. Turning back for a moment, he acknowledged the seemingly impossible nature of the task, a slight smirk playing on his lips as he resolved to attempt it. Soon, he found himself deep within the dense forest, its vastness prompting a single, contemplative thought. Interesting. He gazed up at the canopy, recalling the instruction. They said I should count the leaves. Perched on a branch, he surveyed his surroundings, preparing to begin the daunting task. Focusing his mind, he began to chant softly, initiating the Black Heavenly Demon cult's mental calculation technique, a method designed for such impossible feats. As his hand glowed with a soft light, a leaf before him disintegrated into shimmering particles, revealing the extreme precision required for this task. Otherwise, he risked destroying the very objects he was meant to count. He continues his meticulous observation of the forest, each leaf a complex data point in his mental calculation, realizing the sheer scale of the task. The rustling of the foliage seems to whisper secrets as he processes the information, a profound understanding dawning on him. He muses on the challenge, understanding why the old man couldn't complete it, yet seeing a deeper purpose in the exercise, a path to unlocking the true meaning of his martial arts. A surge of focused energy emanates from him, his concentration absolute. Suddenly, a thought pierces his intense focus, a desperate urge to witness something before his time is up, only to be interrupted by an unexpected presence. The scene shifts, and he finds himself in a different setting, an indoor workshop filled with the glow of a forge. An older man, hunched over his work, speaks with a tone of deep regret. "I apologize for my lack of skills." He repeats his plea, his face etched with humility. "Please forgive my lack of skills." Muqiang, observing the elder's distress, calmly asks, "What's wrong?" He listens as the elder, head bowed in shame, implores him to look with his own eyes, insisting he was prepared to die and wouldn't complain, yet admitting he would have fled had he known the treatment he'd receive. With hands clasped in a desperate gesture, the elder begs for one more chance, promising not to disappoint him again. But the young man dismisses the plea, stating he doesn't need to see it, while the elder can only stammer a but as he reiterates his readiness to die. The elder, sighing heavily, insists he take a look for himself. The young man reaches out, his hand extending towards a sword that glows faintly with an ethereal energy. Holding the blade, he remarks that it is a pretty good sword, then questions where the actual issue lies. A subtle aura emanates from the sword as he holds it, its power palpable. The elder explains his confusion, stating the sword seemed to have mixed with both evil and demonic chi, resulting in a blade that no longer aligns with any specific energy. Confirming the elder's assessment, the young man notes that the demonic chi's flow would prevent its use in martial arts, and with a decisive tone, declares they should take it out. Muqiang stands, his gaze fixed downwards, a moment of quiet contemplation before action. He continues his journey alongside the elder and Guak Hubium, traversing a rocky path under a clear sky. A soft yawn escapes him, a subtle sign of his disinterest or perhaps his overwhelming power. Suddenly, a powerful surge of blue energy erupts, crackling with raw force. The elder gasps, startled by the unexpected display. Muqiang becomes the epicenter of the swirling blue light, his form enveloped by the intense aura. He channels the formidable fists of 1,000 moon, the technique manifesting as a concentrated vortex of power. The brilliant energy expands, radiating outwards with explosive force, purifying the corrupted chi. The elder watches in disbelief, realizing that not only the evil chi, but also the demonic chi, is being cleansed from the sword, while Guak Hubium looks on in awe. Standing on the desolate beach, Muqiang's gaze sweeps the horizon, a deep-seated wariness in his voice as he acknowledges the hidden presence of an observer, expressing his difficulty in trusting those who conceal themselves. Turning his attention to the recently purified blade, he gives a quiet nod of approval, finding its new state satisfactory. Meanwhile, the elder, Guak Hubium, observes him intently, recognizing a familiar energy within the young man and echoing his sentiment about the difficulty of trust. Meeting the elder's gaze, Muqiang introduces himself with a new name, Mukon. With the introduction made, he smoothly sheaths the sword, declaring his intention to make good use of its newfound power. The scene shifts, transitioning to the deep, moonlit shadows of a dense forest, where ancient trees stand sentinel. Through this silent expanse, Mukon walks, his thoughts turning inward, contemplating his path and the implications of his new identity. His journey culminates as he approaches a traditional, ornate building, its architecture silhouetted against the night sky, marking a new destination. His golden eyes glowed with an intense, almost predatory focus, a soft sound escaping him as he processed the lingering energies around him. Meanwhile, the elder, Guak Hubium, stood in quiet contemplation, a faint, ethereal figure shimmering beside him, a ghostly echo of a past encounter. Muqiang's gaze remained sharp, his thoughts clear. Under normal circumstances, these opponents would have been formidable, but lately, their presence felt unusually temporary, almost fleeting. Yet, he could discern the subtle differences in their energy. Guak Hubium continued, his voice carrying a hint of past struggles, revealing that he had encountered 3 such individuals, all easily identifiable, including the leader of a demonic cult. He admitted that quite a few of those cult leaders had genuinely terrified him. Muqiang's hand clenched almost imperceptibly, his gaze dropping as he absorbed the weight of the elder's words. A flicker of resolve hardened his features, his expression settling into one of quiet determination. Under a vast, star-dusted sky, a question hangs in the air. Are they truly waiting for us to come inside? With a resolute gaze towards the traditional structure before him, Muqiang decides he will simply walk right into their trap. A sharp, creaking sound accompanies his pained expression as he clutches a bloodied arm, clearly having already faced a fierce confrontation. His bloodstained blade held firm, he scoffs, daring his opponent not to make him laugh, asserting that anyone who outlasts him would be the first. Still bearing the marks of battle, Mu Qiang stands, his martial robe torn and splattered with crimson, his sword ready. Facing him, also injured, Guaku Bium issues a stern command, demanding that he hand over his sword. With a bloodied face and a determined glint in his eyes, Guaku Bium boasts that all who have fought him until now are currently lying on the ground, finally defeated. Battered but unbowed, Mu Qiang declares his intention to depart, expressing his disdain for those who hide their presence while observing him. A faint smirk plays on his lips as he reiterates, he will now take his leave. Just then, Guaku Bium, equally wounded, steps forward, remarking on Mu Qiang's injuries and recalling his own past victories against formidable opponents, even those who were once considered the strongest. He continues, asserting that no one has ever escaped his grasp, especially after being caught in his trap. Guaku Bium then questions Mu Qiang's ability to escape, given his current state. A wide grin spreads across his face, and he playfully suggests that Mu Qiang should at least put on a good show for him. With a surprising gesture, Guaku Bium slings an arm around Mu Qiang's shoulder, leaving Mu Qiang looking taken aback as Guaku Bium offers a casual, thanks. He then suggests they both seek medical treatment, implying a sudden truce or a shift in their dynamic. Guaku Bium's unexpected offer hangs in the air, as Mu Qiang directs his words to unseen individuals, instructing them to examine the injured man, and then pointedly addresses someone still hiding nearby. Now sitting up, Guaku Bium reflects on his condition, wondering if the demonic mana coursing through him was inflicted by her. He continues to reflect, concluding that it wasn't intentional, merely an act of self-defense, and therefore, no one should be blamed. The young man dismisses any further discussion, reiterating his instruction for them to examine Guaku Bium, as there's nothing more to say. With a final nod, Mu Qiang assures them that everything should be fine for now, prompting a relieved exclamation from Guaku Bium. The older man simply affirms, accepting the situation with a quiet yes. Meanwhile, a young woman, lying in recovery, mentally expresses her gratitude on behalf of her sister. A wide smile spreads across Mu Qiang's face, content that he could be of assistance. With the matter settled, he turns to leave, the incident now officially concluded as Guaku Bium and the young woman watch him go. He considers the three individuals from the same sect, pondering why their cultivation techniques differ so greatly. Suddenly, a voice calls out, Vice Leader, it's me, Orchid, as she reveals she has something important to share. He expresses his surprise, realizing she had to pretend to be someone else, but she couldn't just leave him alone after everything he had done. As he turns to leave, she thanks him, her voice trailing off as he acknowledges her with a simple, okay. Orchid then asks if he is perhaps looking for someone. She hesitates, unsure if she should speak, but then reveals a rumor. The demonic cult is searching for someone. He questions if anyone else in their current location knows about these rumors. Orchid confirms that the core figures within the demonic cult are aware, and even their sect leader knows. If that is truly the case, he realizes he needs to hurry and finish taking care of his current business. Still processing the new information, he warns, for future reference, please do not have people who hide their presence keep watch over me. He then declares, I shall now take my leave. Orchid, taken aback, tries to explain, but, I was only trying to be careful, and a girl at that. Could it be? He cuts her off, his expression firm. I don't care if it's a girl or a boy. I hate it when people hide their presence and keep watch over me. Her thoughts linger on the possibility. Could it be? He simply acknowledges her concern. I see. Turning to face her with renewed resolve, he assures her, I understand. I'll be careful, before adding, I'll be back soon, as he begins to walk away. Orchid watches him go, a deep worry etched on her face, thinking, if it really is that man, I can't leave him to go alone. The sun begins to set over a vast, rugged mountain range, casting long shadows across the peaks. As a small group traverses a winding mountain path, one of them complains, how much longer do we have to walk? Mu Qiang and Orchid walk side by side, taking in the expansive view, and he offers a quiet, thank you. He then reminds her, preserve your mana, as they continue their journey. He stands before her, his sword held casually at his side, as if anticipating some unseen threat. His gaze remains sharp, and he remarks that it seems they have some company. Indeed, two men emerge from the shadows, one clearly injured and supported by the other, who identifies the wounded as 19 Aura, Archer. Mu Qiang observes the scene, then calmly instructs Orchid to take a look. The injured man, Archer, groans in pain. Orchid, ever cautious, asks if there's no need to be on guard, to which he simply replies that he's not going to hurt anyone. He then states that if he had wanted to, he would have already done so, as Orchid holds a small, ornate box. She looks down at the box, a hint of surprise on her face, muttering a soft huh? Mu Qiang explains that since this encounter was unexpected, he wasn't able to prepare something better, implying the box contains a gift. He then instructs them to just take it, adding that it's for the time they have left. He turns back to the two, requesting that for future reference, people who hide their presence should not keep watch over him, as Guaku Bium apologizes for the oversight, while Orchid asks what he means. With his words delivered, he declares his departure, leaving Guak Hu Biam to reflect on the immense power he just witnessed. As he vanishes into the distance, a quiet farewell echoes across the empty sky. Continuing their journey, Orchid asks Guak Hu Biam what he is thinking about. Suddenly, her attention is caught by a display of shimmering jewelry, a delicate necklace, and a hairpin, causing her to stop abruptly. The vibrant market around them is filled with enticing sights, and the glittering items draw her in with their bright, pretty allure. Muqiang, now by her side at a bustling stall, inquires about what has captured her interest. Gazing at the jewelry, Orchid declares her desire for them, only for a young girl in a barriered hat to scoff, remarking that she's still too young for such things. The young girl, still observing the items with a thoughtful expression, muses that such accessories are for when one becomes a proper adult. Her expression earnest, Orchid promises to become even better, while Muqiang, with a slight smirk, challenges her, asking if she'll regret such a bold claim. Their hands intertwine, sealing the promise with a pinky swear. As he turns to leave, she calls out to him, a hint of concern in her voice. Muqiang continues his solitary journey, leaving Orchid and Guak Hu Biam to watch him disappear into the distance. A voice from off-panel questions the nature of their relationship, asking if she was his daughter. Guak Hu Biam clarifies, explaining that she was an adoptive daughter of sorts, before lamenting her decision to join the Nine Earth Sect. Meanwhile, Muqiang, now alone, contemplates her future, wishing for her to live her life as a true martial warrior. He sighs, reflecting on the inherent difficulties of the world they inhabit, as he moves through the dense foliage. Suddenly, he is ambushed by two figures, one an archer, who spring from the undergrowth, but Muqiang reacts instantly, meeting their assault with a swift counter. Meanwhile, within a different setting, a stern-faced man with dark hair pulled back into a ponytail addresses someone, acknowledging them as vice leader, and noting that their sect leader is observing. He then poses a question, inquiring if they desire an important mission. A different, sharp-featured man with spiky orange hair and a scar on his cheek, his hand poised over a baduk board, begins to explain that in order to win a baduk match, every single piece plays a crucial role. The baduk pieces are meticulously arranged on the board. As the man continues, his hand now holding a piece, stating that a baduk piece unable to protect its own position, no matter how small, will ultimately be lost. His expression turns severe, concluding that such a piece is simply not needed within their sect. A dark, swirling aura, deep purple and black, emanates from a lone figure, its power palpable. This unique energy, unlike any other, possesses a raw strength unaffected by conventional martial arts or magic. Elsewhere, Orchid expresses her concern that the Blood Eye sect leader has lost his mind, while the sect leader himself confirms that the demonic cult is preparing to make its move. The news spreads quickly, reaching Guak Hu Biam, who confronts a disciple, his grip tight on the man's collar. He questions the man, a disciple who has served for 10 years, about his intentions now that the demonic cult leader has gone mad, demanding to know what he intends to do himself. Even the vice leader receives the urgent report. The Blood Eye sect leader of the demonic cult has indeed gone mad. The vice leader reflects on the situation, a deep frustration brewing within him. He acknowledges his own reasons for certain actions, but questions the necessity of using and even stealing his weapons. Turning slightly, his gaze sharpens as he considers the lack of foresight, wondering if the consequences of such actions were ever truly considered. He looks down, a silent challenge in his posture, questioning if being a transcendent grants one the right to act without restraint. His eyes briefly glow with suppressed fury as he struggles to regain control of his turbulent thoughts. Meanwhile, a dark aura emanates from the Blood Eye sect leader, his form shrouded in ominous power, as he considers the vast resources of the demonic cult, boasting over 1,000 skilled disciples. With a dismissive gesture, his hand crackles with dark energy, as he questions the relevance of external affairs now that his mastery of the Blood Eye technique is complete. Back with the vice leader, he turns to walk away, a final thought escaping him, that perhaps staying within the demonic cult would have been a better choice. The Blood Eye sect leader's face contorts, his red eyes burning with intense power and arrogance, as he scoffs at any challenge, deeming his opponent too weak to even warrant his attention. His expression unyielding, Muqiang stands firm, a silent challenge in his gaze. A voice cuts through the tension, offering to handle the situation, yet questioning Muqiang's continued defiance, asking if he truly intends to go against their wishes. From the swirling darkness, the Blood Eye sect leader emerges, his form wreathed in a sinister purple aura, his eyes burning with an infernal red glow, granting permission with a chilling indifference. Muqiang's resolve remains unbroken, as he declares his refusal to allow the captive daughter to be treated as such, or to kneel before anyone. The Blood Eye sect leader's dark aura intensifies, his red eyes glowing with an almost maddened power, prompting a shocked query about his true form. His gaze piercing, the Blood Eye sect leader reveals that the defiance of others has become his personal torment. As Muqiang stands among a group of martial artists, the vice leader addresses the Blood Eye sect leader, thanking him for his grace, but then turns to Elder Hyun, assuring him that Muqiang's recklessness will be met with guaranteed punishment. The Blood Eye sect leader's glowing red eyes fixate on another, ordering Elder Huangjae to remain behind. With a stern expression, Elder Huangjae acknowledges the command, his orange eyes reflecting a quiet understanding. Mu Qiang turns his back, his voice firm as he states that for future reference, he does not wish for people who hide their presence to keep watch over him, before announcing his departure. Utilizing his moonshadow technique, he begins to walk away. Meanwhile, the Blood Eye Sect leader issues a command, instructing someone to head to Anicaps as discreetly as possible to gather information and provide protection for his adoptive daughter. He continues, adding that others should keep watch over the people associated with Mu Qiang's mother, as well as her own mother, emphasizing that the sooner this is done, the better. Unaware of the intricate plans being laid, Mu Qiang declares his own intention to head to Pyongyang a month from that day, expecting a report before then. The woman receiving the orders simply responds, "Understood." It is revealed that the task of watching over Mu Qiang's family was specifically given to Elder Huang Jie, one of the Blood Eye Sect's elders. Later, the Blood Eye Sect leader sits in a room, a muscular man standing beside him, who is described as being about a month older than Mu Qiang. His thoughts drift to a particular group, muttering about that damnable cult. As Mu Qiang prepares to depart, the blonde-haired attendant attempts to justify their presence, explaining that they are responsible for gathering information within the sect. They reiterate their role, insisting they are merely doing their duty. Acknowledging Mu Qiang's keen perception, Mu Qiang, however, issues a stern warning, hoping there will be no more hidden observers watching him. With his message delivered, he turns to leave, his form receding into the distance. The attendant responds, telling him to feel free to do as he wishes. Mu Qiang, adjusting his sword at his hip, assures them there's no need to be on edge, explaining it's merely a long-time habit. As Mu Qiang finally departs, the attendant, now seemingly addressing an unseen superior, eagerly asks for orders, reaffirming their responsibility for intelligence gathering within the sect. Mu Qiang acknowledges the presence of his observers, stating that he understands their surveillance, and warns them to do their best in preparing for future negotiations. 10 days later, the journey continued as he and 20 other martial masters headed towards the Nanyang region. During their travels, Mu Qiang took the opportunity to learn the zither from the renowned sound beauty, Seol Yak Biok. According to her, a zither wielded as a weapon could control the hearts of people with its melody, making it incredibly dangerous. This unique power meant that despite martial arts being generally avoided, the zither was a weapon that could truly be mastered. For these very reasons, he decided to dedicate himself to learning the instrument, hoping it would aid his success in the Nanyang region. Meanwhile, in a different location, a stern-faced man stood amidst shelves of scrolls, as another individual presented him with a stack of documents. The man receiving the scrolls confirmed that this was all the requested information, assuring his bearded counterpart that he would deliver it to the elders. As the journey continues, Mu Qiang sits intently, his fingers poised over the zither, while Seol Yak Biok stands beside him, offering guidance on the instrument's profound capabilities. Meanwhile, a sharp-eyed master of the Divine Earth Sect observes, a bright flash of insight or revelation illuminating his thoughts. High above the world, the sun casts its golden glow over a majestic mountain range, before descending to reveal a tranquil village nestled amongst the trees. The Divine Earth Sect master, engrossed in his reports, ponders Mu Qiang's current status, noting his residence in the northern region and the Blood Eye Sect's increased activity along its borders. Elsewhere, a maiden of the Divine Earth Sect stands in quiet defiance, having rejected a marriage proposal from her own sect's elders. The master, his expression darkening, dismisses her actions as foolish, revealing his intent to use her as a mere disposable pawn. Suddenly, he is interrupted by an unseen presence, who questions his very presence within the Divine Earth Sect. While the maiden, startled, hears a voice declare that she is not for him, asking if she is ready. Mu Qiang reflects on the Divine Earth Sect, considering their refined speech and dignified manners, yet acknowledging the master's wooden sword as a weapon, making him the most dangerous figure within the sect. Meanwhile, the Divine Earth Sect master stands over a young disciple, demanding an answer. The boy, caught off guard, struggles to comprehend the master's sudden approach. Mu Qiang observes the scene, a dark aura beginning to emanate from him as he realizes even the Divine Earth Sect isn't safe from the influence of the Blood Eye Sect. His gaze sharpens, a crimson glow in his eye, as he muses on the unexpected turn of events. The young disciple, overwhelmed by fear, lets out a cry as his wooden sword clatters to the ground. Before the master's attack can land, Mu Qiang swiftly intervenes, his own blade meeting the strike with a sharp clang. He engages the master in a rapid exchange, the force of their clash echoing through the hall, as the master realizes his opponent is no ordinary member of the sect. With a confident smirk and eyes still glowing red, he maintains his aggressive stance. Mu Qiang, his expression stern, issues a final warning, stating that for future reference, he does not wish for people who hide their presence to keep watch over him, before declaring his intention to take his leave. Meanwhile, the young disciple, unaware of the impending lesson, celebrates his perceived victory with an enthusiastic cry, convinced he has won. Yet, a sudden, unseen impact sends him reeling, leaving him bewildered and protesting that he wasn't even hit. The sound of Mu Qiang's blade settling back into place confirms the swiftness of his counterattack. As the disciple finds himself sprawled on the ground, Mu Qiang's voice cutting through his shock, reminding him that this is precisely why he remains a novice. Still dazed and confused, the disciple can only wonder what just happened, having seen nothing. Muqiang then looks down at him, announcing that he will now teach him something truly important. With a thoughtful, almost menacing tone, he ponders aloud what he should do with the young man now. Overwhelmed by fear and the sudden turn of events, the disciple can only beg for salvation. A brief, almost imperceptible shift in the air marks a change of scene, bringing into view a large cut of fresh meat, ready for preparation. Inside a rustic dwelling, an older man with a long gray beard explains to Muqiang that the only reason someone would hide their presence is if they were a thief or a murderer, claiming he just saw such a man. Muqiang, however, doesn't believe that's the case. The older man scoffs, calling him an idiot, and insists that one shouldn't judge a person without knowing them, adding that he can always tell if someone is good or not. Outside, a cow placidly chews on grass, while Muqiang, seemingly unimpressed by the elder's wisdom, declares he's not even going to watch this conversation unfold. The elder reacts with a surprised huh and a frustrated pfft, is it, before admonishing Muqiang to get a grip. A vendor, his face etched with concern, calls out to passers-by, trying to sell his rice. He looks surprised when asked about money, insisting that such things are for another time, his focus solely on the immediate transaction. Meanwhile, Muqiang, a faint smirk playing on his lips, decides it is time for him to move on. The vendor, still consumed by his troubles, laments his inability to sell rice in such dire circumstances. Elsewhere, a worried man stands before a building, his thoughts consumed by the trouble he faces if he fails to complete his task. His eyes widen in sudden alarm, a gasp escaping his lips. An older, grizzled man with a stern expression questions his surroundings, wondering if this is the infamous Divine Earth Sect. He then instructs the worried man to fetch some rice and bring it back to him, his tone firm and expectant. The worried man expresses his fear of the Divine Earth Sect, believing capture would mean death, while the elder, with a pointed gesture, attributes their predicament to someone else. A new figure, sect leader Jin Yang, stands firm, declaring his identity with an air of authority. Meanwhile, the Blood-Eye sect leader, his form wreathed in a faint green aura, expresses his long-held distrust, lamenting that the Divine Earth Sect would stoop to such extremes. Jin Yang, taken aback by the accusation, can only echo the sentiment of disbelief. The Blood-Eye sect leader's anger flares, vowing retribution against the unknown party responsible for this transgression. Elsewhere, Orchid, ever the pragmatist, suggests a more cautious approach, advocating for listening before making any rash decisions. She ponders the delicate balance between the demonic cult and the Divine Earth Sect, considering the possibility of a peaceful negotiation. Jin Yang questions the very notion, his expression betraying his skepticism. Orchid, surrounded by other concerned figures, acknowledges the difficulty of such a path. Under the vast, star-dusted night sky, a distant structure stands silhouetted, hinting at the next destination. The meeting continued in the ornate chamber, the air thick with unspoken tension. His face contorted in a grimace, the Blood-Eye sect leader scoffed at the very idea of diplomacy, demanding to know what kind of nonsense it was to even consider negotiating with the Divine Earth Sect, whose treachery was already exposed. Observing the outburst, Muqiang noted that the elder was clearly blinded by his own anger. Meanwhile, Orchid considered the implications of the Divine Earth Sect's presence, recalling the formidable reputation of the demon of withered leaves, the strongest in the demon's cult, and the woman known for her godlike beauty. A realization dawned on her, as she recognized the latter as none other than Seol Yakbayok, the Sound Beauty. The Blood-Eye sect leader's thoughts raced, wondering why such powerful individuals would come to negotiate when they possessed enough strength to annihilate his own forces. Muqiang, however, remained unconvinced, believing their true intention was merely to buy time, not to genuinely negotiate. The Blood-Eye sect leader slammed his fist down, his frustration boiling over at the perceived deception. He declared that if a man of such godlike beauty was present, he must be from Gamna, either here or there, indicating a specific, perhaps notorious, origin. The sect leader reads the scroll, his eyes widening in disbelief at the mention of the demon of withered leaves, Hyuk Murang. Muqiang's gaze remains fixed on the document, a flicker of skepticism in his expression as he's asked for his opinion. Orchid, however, urges caution, her voice firm with concern for their sect's safety, insisting they must prepare for the worst. The sect leader's hands hover over the scroll, his mind racing through the implications of a potential trick. He voices his suspicion that the Divine Earth Sect is merely buying time, a tactic to lower their guard, while Elder Huangjae listens intently, questioning the possibility. A sudden realization dawns on him. The image of Seol Yakbayok, the Sound Beauty, appears in his mind, her eyes glowing with an ominous red light, a dark aura swirling around her as he recalls her destructive reputation in the northern region, a force that once unleashed cannot be stopped. The sect leader's grip tightens on the scroll, the words confirming his worst fears about the Divine Earth Sect's true intentions. The scroll continues to reveal the Divine Earth Sect's true intentions, repeatedly emphasizing their master's disruptive actions in the northern region. Orchid explains that the previous sect master, despite his faith in the Blood-Eye sect leader, was forced into a compromise. In truth, they didn't even know their secret had been discovered, believing they were merely trying to buy time. The Blood-Eye sect leader nods, his suspicions now confirmed. Muqiang adds that the Divine Earth Sect's master was only attacked because he was disrupting their territory in the northern region. Orchid then identifies the disciple mentioned, Seol Yakbayok, as the renowned Sound Beauty. The sect leader scoffs, finding it unbelievable that they think they can simply ignore such a grave matter. Outside, in the sect's courtyard, several figures stand guard around a central area. A brazier burns brightly, its flames casting dancing shadows. Orchid, facing the fire, solemnly promises to uphold her position within the demon cult. Back in the Blood Eye sect's inner sanctum, the sect leader's voice echoes with a mix of disbelief and irritation, wondering how the Divine Earth sect could be so dismissive of their power, especially after their previous master's forced compromise. He questions the audacity of the Divine Earth sect, who dared to send a mere Sound Beauty to represent them in such a critical matter. The sect leader's thoughts drift to the young man who had infiltrated the demonic cult, a martial artist of immense talent, yet still a mere person, not a true force of nature. Muqiang, his expression grim, reflects on the sect leader's words, acknowledging the Divine Earth sect's arrogance in sending a Sound Beauty to the demonic cult. The sect leader, still seated on his imposing throne, continues to speak with a commanding tone. He emphasizes the importance of the situation, his words carrying the weight of his authority. Later, in a secluded, overgrown area, Elder Huangjie addresses Muqiang, asking if he truly understands the gravity of the task ahead. Muqiang's gaze is fixed downwards, his mind racing, as he grapples with the implications of his mission and the potential for failure. Elder Huangjie continues, offering a final piece of advice, reminding him that he must not allow himself to be swayed by the Divine Earth sect's machinations. The older man cries out, struggling against the relentless assault, as Muqiang delivers another brutal kick. His body crumples to the ground, the impact echoing through the alley as he grits his teeth against the pain. A new voice cuts through the struggle, offering a chilling ultimatum. Tell your grandfather what you've heard, and I'll let you go. But Muqiang, ignoring the offer, delivers another forceful kick, his resolve unwavering as he demands the man spread the word of their encounter. The elegant man in green approaches, a cruel smile playing on his lips, promising to make the victim scream if he refuses to cooperate. With a swift, decisive motion, he places a hand on the man's shoulder, green energy flaring around his fingers as he inflicts agonizing pain. A guttural scream tears from the victim's throat, blood flecking his lips as the torment intensifies. Through his agony, the man manages a desperate plea for the torture to cease. The elegant man's grip tightens, his words laced with a chilling revelation. That young boy is my grandson. How could you do such a thing? The older man's screams echo through the chamber, his voice raw with agony or defiance. A hand gestures, a silent command to pause, as a voice softly requests a moment of patience. Nearby, a woman with long, dark hair watches the proceedings, a faint, unsettling smile playing on her lips. Muqiang looks down, a flicker of surprise crossing his face, wondering how the old man could have endured so much. His hand extends, a cold threat in his voice, promising to break the bones of the little brat if he doesn't cooperate. The young man targeted by the threat flinches, his eyes wide with fear. A sharp, sickening sound of impact rings out. As the Blood Eye sect leader watches from above, a faint red aura emanating from his form. The young man collapses, blood staining his face, crying out in disbelief at the sudden, brutal attack. Despite the torment he has endured, the archer clenches his bloodied fist, a defiant aura flaring around him as he challenges his unseen tormentors, his voice raw with indignation. The Blood Eye sect leader's face contorts in anguish, a desperate plea escaping his lips as he finds the situation utterly ridiculous. Begging for just a few more minutes. Yet his resolve hardens as he declares he will not stand by any longer. How can he call himself a sect leader if he cannot even protect his own grandson? As the leader turns to leave, the Divine Earth sect maiden confronts him, demanding to know how long he intends to abuse the young man, pointing out that 30 minutes have already passed. The maiden closes her eyes, a soft clicking sound accompanying her focused expression. Within the quiet confines of the sect's compound, Muqiang sits, head bowed, as a gentle voice praises his endurance, acknowledging his resilience. The Divine Earth sect maiden then places a hand on his head, offering to guide his meditation, instructing him to continue his practice. The Blood Eye sect leader watches, his face etched with a deep, almost unbearable sorrow, as he questions the nature of the ordeal Muqiang endures, lamenting that he was not even his true grandson. Meanwhile, the Divine Earth sect maiden observes his progress, noting his rapid assimilation of the devoid spirit cultivation technique. This technique, she explains, forms a powerful barrier, shielding his mind from any potential corruption. Furthermore, it enables him to absorb every trace of internal presence, a crucial cultivation technique that will allow him to assimilate the presence of others, marking his first true step into the cultivation realm. Turning to the sect leader, the maiden questions the extent of Muqiang's past suffering, implying that such a technique requires a history of severe physical hardship. A memory flashes, revealing the archer's own harrowing experience with a similar process, recalling the unimaginable pain and the critical danger of external interference. Muqiang's hand glows with nascent power, a silent testament to the maiden's intervention, which had been necessary to halt the sect leader's previous, potentially destructive methods. The maiden clarifies her actions, presenting her guidance as either a gift or a strategic negotiation. The archer's memory continues, a plea for forgiveness echoing in his mind, hoping that Muqiang's enhanced skills will lead to a different outcome in their next encounter, leaving him with a lingering sense of confusion. As the intense cultivation concludes, the Divine Earth Sect maiden declares their work finished, while the Blood Eye Sect leader agrees it is time to depart. With a final glance at the young man, she reiterates their need to head back. The sect leader expresses his profound gratitude for her guidance, especially for not interfering with his potentially destructive method, to which the maiden calmly replies that such a method was precisely what was needed for the young man's growth. He then offers a sincere apology, acknowledging any trouble he may have caused her today. Accepting his words, the maiden reminds him of their agreement to return the disciple, bidding him farewell until their next encounter. With their conversation concluded, the two begin to walk away, their robes rustling softly. As they depart, the sect leader muses aloud about the maiden's unusual demeanor, noting her surprisingly indecent behavior towards the young man. The maiden, however, seems lost in her own thoughts, pondering how much truth lies within his words as they continue their journey. Above them, the tranquil night sky stretches, dotted with distant stars. As the Divine Earth Sect maiden and the Blood Eye Sect leader prepare to depart with their retinues, one of the maiden's subordinates asks if their business is concluded. The sect leader, however, suggests that his group can return to the main base ahead of them, while the maiden's subordinate confirms their sect leader's immediate return request. The Blood Eye Sect leader then declares he will handle the remaining matters himself, a statement met with immediate understanding from the maiden's subordinate. With her decision made, the maiden instructs her own followers to return to the main base without her, her voice firm and resolute. Turning to the Blood Eye Sect leader, she then requests a moment to speak with Vice Leader Muqiang, a proposal that elicits a surprised "huh" from the elderly man. Her expression shifts to one of subtle surprise, perhaps at his reaction or the implications of her own request. She clarifies her intent, stating her desire for a traveling companion and to learn hidden lessons, assuring him that she will inform her sect leader of her delayed return after her business is concluded. Meanwhile, Muqiang rides away on horseback, an unseen voice calling out to him, "Vice Leader Muqiang." His horse's hooves pound against the earth, carrying him deeper into the wilderness. The Blood Eye Sect leader watches his subordinates depart, dismissing their concerns with a wave of his hand, their footsteps fading into the distance. The Divine Earth Sect maiden turns to Muqiang, her expression serious as she asks what he intends to do. He simply replies that it's nothing, but she persists, explaining that she's trying to collect the DMT and the remnants, a task she believes he's also pursuing, and one that requires them to look out for each other. Muqiang, however, seems more concerned with the fact that she's still following him. She continues, suggesting it would be better to join forces with the main group to animate them. But her words are met with a firm rejection. He simply states that he is more than capable on his own. Within the sprawling, traditional complex of the Blood Eye Sect, an air of quiet efficiency pervaded the courtyards and buildings. Inside, a subordinate reported to the Blood Eye Sect leader, who acknowledged his efforts, promising to return to the Iron Over Mountain Sect for the night. Suddenly, a violent tremor shook the very foundations of the compound, as a section of the building exploded inward with a deafening roar. The subordinate, who had just left the sect leader's presence, turned to witness the horrifying destruction unfolding behind him. More of the structure gave way, collapsing into a cloud of dust and splintered wood. Through the settling debris, a figure landed with a heavy impact, announcing their arrival. It was Muqiang, his eyes burning crimson and a dark, ominous aura swirling around him, his name echoing through the ravaged compound. He gripped a sword that pulsed with a vibrant blue light, declaring his intention to collect the debt owed by the Blood Eye Sect to the Iron Over Mountain Sect. Before anyone could fully react, he moved with blinding speed, his glowing blade already clashing with an opponent who cried out in surprise and disbelief at his identity. A devastating force tears through the Blood Eye Sect compound, eliciting cries of pain and shock as structures crumble. Inside, the Blood Eye Sect leader, caught off guard, is supported by a younger subordinate who urgently asks if the enemy has arrived. From the shadows, a voice cuts through the chaos, asking if he was the one who placed a bounty on his head, simply to meet him. The sect leader's eyes widen in disbelief, a faint blue energy crackling around him as he stammers, "Be bounty?" A dawning horror spreads across his face as recognition finally sets in, realizing the identity of his formidable attacker. Before him stands Muqiang, his form cloaked in a dark aura, a glowing blue sword in hand, the very one who had bested the Sword Emperor of Divine Thunder. His presence alone speaks volumes, a testament to his overwhelming power. As Muqiang raises his blade, the subordinate cries out in defiance, but the sect leader can only recoil as the attack descends. With a deafening impact, the attack connects. The Blood Eye Sect leader's face contorts in a snarl of pain and fury, his eyes burning red as the impact of the previous strike rattles him. Regaining some composure, he demands to know, "Who are you?" But before Muqiang can answer, another figure steps forward, asking if he is the Blood Eye Sect leader, only to clarify, "I'm the subordinate of the Golden Dragon Sect." Muqiang, his expression unwavering, calmly states, "Then I believe this matter does not concern you. I have no enemies with the Golden Dragon Sect." With the interruption dismissed, Mu Qiang's focus snaps back to the sect leader, delivering another brutal blow that elicits a pained cry. "Ack, you arrogant bastard." He follows through with a powerful, sweeping motion, unleashing this severing blade of the moon. The force of the attack sends the sect leader hurtling through the air, his body twisting amidst a shower of debris. A desperate cry of "Ack" escapes him as he continues to fall, his form a blur against the chaotic background. He descends further, enveloped in a faint green aura, his fate hanging precariously in the balance. The Blood-Eye sect leader lets out a guttural cry, his body still racked with pain from the devastating blow. Mu Qiang turns slightly, his voice dripping with disdain, asking if that was truly the extent of the Blood-Eye sect's power, and if this was how they protected their subordinates. An unseen observer, witnessing the lingering energy of the attack, questions if it was the legendary sword decree. Elder Huangjie, his eyes wide with shock, realizes Mu Qiang is far more formidable than the Blood-Eye sect leader, concluding that anyone who resists him would be a fool. Mu Qiang begins to walk away, casually suggesting that Huangjie perhaps leave. He glances back over his shoulder, challenging the elder to fight and questioning why he hasn't drawn his sword. Huangjie lets out a surprised "Oh-ho," acknowledging Mu Qiang's immense power by comparing him to the Sword Emperor and wondering what chance he himself would have. With a stern expression, Huangjie begins to issue a crucial command. He emphatically instructs Peng Jin and the others present that they must never seek vengeance against this man. Elder Huangjie addresses his subordinates, his voice firm as he reminds them of the dire consequences for those who cross the Divine Thunder's disciples. Turning to Mu Qiang, he makes a solemn request, offering his own life in exchange for the safety of his disciples. His plea echoes with a desperate sincerity. Mu Qiang's hand tightens around his sword hilt, a faint blue energy crackling around it as he prepares to depart. His gaze falls upon the elder, a dismissive thought crossing his mind about the futility of fighting someone unwilling to resist. With a swift, almost imperceptible movement, he sheaths his blade. Huangjie watches, bewildered, as Mu Qiang prepares to leave, questioning his sudden departure. Mu Qiang turns his back, declaring his point made and his departure imminent, while Huangjie, bowing deeply, apologizes on behalf of his sect and grants him leave. With a final, decisive turn, Mu Qiang walks away, leaving the elder to watch him go, a heavy sigh escaping him. Still reeling from the encounter, Elder Huangjie watches as Mu Qiang stands over him, declaring his intent to leave if the elder is willing to go so far to protect his disciples. As Mu Qiang turns his back and begins to walk away, he adds that his offer was never meant to be a friendly one. Left amidst the wreckage, Huangjie can only question if they truly survived the ordeal. Later, sitting in quiet contemplation, the elder reflects on the profound impact of the recent events. He turns to Peng Jin, asking what truly transpired between him and Mu Qiang, though Peng Jin claims ignorance. Huangjie sighs, admitting that for the first time in his life, he witnessed the legendary League of Invincibility with his own eyes. Peng Jin nods in solemn agreement, confirming the elder's assessment of Mu Qiang's overwhelming power. Meanwhile, under the glow of a full moon, Mu Qiang soars through the night sky, a figure destined to be known as the second martial god of the Murim world. The northern continent, a land shrouded in mystery and danger, was a place where only the strong survived. A harsh reality that dictated every aspect of life. Where the law of the jungle reigned supreme. He had been forced to live his life according to those very rules. But now, a new resolve hardened his gaze as he declared, "The time has come." Meanwhile, at a distant stronghold, the sect leader of the northern continent began to introduce himself, only to be cut off by a sudden, startling realization. Mu Qiang sits in quiet contemplation, the words echoing in his mind. The northern continent, a lawless land where only the strong survive. He feels a strange relief not to have been born there, yet hopes the upcoming event will prove dangerous enough to challenge him. Meanwhile, in a distant, opulent chamber, the Blood-Eye sect leader muses on the abundance of powerful martial artists, wondering why he remains so fixated on mastering his own craft. His dedication has allowed him to learn a great deal, and he once believed the northern continent might hold secrets closer to the heavens themselves. As blue energy crackles around his outstretched hand, he considers the raw power required to survive in such a brutal land. Standing now, he acknowledges the northern continent as a place where only the strong endure, and the weak inevitably lose everything. A slight frown crosses his face as he concludes that if such is the case, then it simply cannot be helped. Suddenly, a lit candle flickers violently, and his eyes widen in utter shock. His disciples have been waiting for him, and any blemish on his name would bring disgrace to the entire Blood-Eye sect. The Blood-Eye sect leader, still reeling from the recent shock, dismisses any insinuation of theft, asserting his honor. He then offers a personal gift, but makes it clear that the recipient's visit would be restricted to the interior of his domain. Despite the concern shown, he apologizes, stating he cannot leave the sect or accompany his guest. Meanwhile, a new location comes into view, revealing the grand architecture of the Divine Earth sect of the Northern Heavens, a place of significant power and history. Mu Qiang, now within its grounds, reflects on the foresight of Senior Yu Beck, who had advised him to learn the Balhi language, a skill proving invaluable in this new territory. Under the watchful moon, He considers a collection of martial arts, said to be pinned by the very first martial master to achieve the profound realm within the just faction. The Divine Earth Sect, one of the 10 great sects of the Northern Heavens, is rumored to possess this very collection, a treasure of unparalleled knowledge. Feeling a surge of anticipation, Muqiang acknowledges the value of his journey, believing he will gain immense knowledge, especially if he can acquire the Divine Earth Sect's martial arts. Sunlight bathes the ornate roofs of the Divine Earth Sect, a sprawling complex nestled amidst serene landscapes. Inside, a man with sharp features and dark hair pulled back into a high ponytail greets him. "You're finally here, Muqiang. I've been waiting for you. I have a task for you." He explains the gravity of the situation, his voice tinged with urgency. "I've heard that you're the only one who can handle the Divine Earth Sect's martial arts, but my body is too weak to handle that kind of power. And since the 3 elders are all in closed-door training, I have no one else to send." The Divine Earth Sect, one of the 10 great sects of the Northern Heavens, possesses a collection of martial arts written by the first martial master to reach the profound realm in the just faction. The sect leader assures him, "But don't you worry. I've already sent a messenger to the Divine Earth Sect." Seated across from each other, the 2 men consider the implications of the task. The sect leader, a hand pressed to his forehead in exasperation, "Just disregard that. I'm sure you'll be able to handle it with your special powers that you've hidden. So are you saying that you can't even find a suitable name for me?" Muqiang, however, remains thoughtful. "Isn't there someone else more qualified than me? There's Elder Hyuk Musang, for example." The sect leader dismisses the suggestion with a wave of his hand. "He's too old. And besides, he's not as good as you. If you are unable to complete this task, then I'll have to send someone else, and the Divine Earth Sect will become laughingstock." With a determined expression, Muqiang finally agrees. "I'll do it. But I'll need you to give me all the information you have on the Divine Earth Sect and the martial arts of their elders." Within the sprawling grounds of the Divine Earth Sect, a sense of quiet order pervades the ancient buildings and courtyards. As he moves through the complex, Muqiang issues instructions, directing 4 nobles to head to the Tang and Golden Dragon sects to gather information. A slight smirk plays on his lips as he considers the unfolding situation. He lets out a soft humph, finding the situation unbelievable, but quickly decides it's acceptable. Now that he's sent everyone away, a sense of freedom washes over him. He gazes up at the sky, wondering why he shouldn't enjoy himself for a bit. The majestic mountains of the Divine Earth Sect stretch into the distance, inviting exploration. Following a winding path, he muses about finding a quiet spot. Spotting a distant structure, he decides to head in that direction. Having dispatched his subordinates, he finds himself alone, the soft rustle of fabric accompanying his change into more casual attire. Stepping out, he takes in the bustling market square, a cacophony of sounds and activity filling the air, a stark contrast to the quiet halls he had just left. His gaze sweeps over the scene, observing the everyday life of the Divine Earth Sect. An old man approaches him, bowing deeply and announcing that he has been waiting, having prepared a meal. Muqiang, however, questions the need for such preparations, pointing out the numerous empty spots still available in the bustling area. The old man, looking dejected, is then dismissed, Muqiang reminding him of his earlier instruction to leave. No sooner has the attendant departed than a large, muscular man steps forward, angrily accusing Muqiang of disrespect, demanding to know why he thinks he can come and go as he pleases without a uniform. Muqiang simply turns to face him, his expression calm, and asks what the man intends to do if he chooses not to leave. The muscular man snarls, lunging forward with a furious cry, telling him to prepare himself. He makes his displeasure known, his golden eyes gleaming with a subtle warning. "For future reference," he states, his voice carrying an undeniable authority, "please do not have people who hide their presence keep watch over me." A soft sound escapes him, as a small group of figures nearby simply wishes to eat their food in peace. Turning his back, he prepares to depart. But then, with a sudden shift in demeanor, he responds to an unseen presence. "Yes, ma'am." A heavy thud echoes as a group of figures approaches. One of the guards steps forward, challenging him about his attire. "I'm sure you are all aware of the rules. You are supposed to wear your uniform." Before the words fully register, the guard lunges, a smirk playing on his lips. "Why don't we have some fun?" But the attack is met with blinding speed. "Gee shit." Another guard exclaims, "He's fast." Muqiang, now in a dominant position, addresses the stunned group. "I really don't want to fight, but I guess I have no choice." He commands, "All of you come down." A flicker of irritation crosses his face, his eyes glowing with a faint, golden light as he considers the situation. From the shadows, a woman with striking red hair emerges, a small knife clutched in her hand, her gaze sharp and challenging, remarking on the impressive presence he exudes. He responds with a calm, almost dismissive tone, identifying her as Muqiang. Muqiang, undeterred, warns him that he will regret his words if he continues to speak so casually, while he simply asks if she intends to fight him. Without another word, she lunges forward, knife aimed directly at him, declaring that he will fall if he begs for mercy. But before her blade can connect, he moves with impossible speed, intercepting her attack with a sharp, decisive strike, leaving her stunned and pinned against the wall, the knife clattering to the ground. His golden eyes gleam as he holds her effortlessly, a smirk playing on his lips as he calls her attack an unimpressive pleasure play. Mu Qiang, still reeling from the shock, questions his identity, unable to believe such skill exists, but he simply states that he is merely a guest, advising her to step aside if she doesn't wish to be hurt. With a swift, almost imperceptible movement, he releases her and vanishes from her sight, leaving her gasping in disbelief at his sudden disappearance. A distant, startled cry echoes across the rooftops, marking the swift departure of the young martial artist. As Mu Qiang and her subordinates look on in disbelief, a chilling voice warns them that if they dare give chase, he will shatter her meridians and cast her into a sea of demons. Her guards, stunned, question when he could have possibly vanished so completely. A final, taunting message then reaches Mu Qiang, a casual thanks for the meal until next time, leaving her to clench her fists in frustration. With a furious command to find him, Mu Qiang's subordinates scramble across the rooftops, their desperate cries echoing as they begin the chase. Mu Qiang gazes up at the vast, star-filled night sky, a moment of quiet contemplation. As he continues his journey through the dense forest, a voice asks why he desires to know her name. He finds Mu Qiang seated by a small, crackling campfire, who then declares her affection for him, leaving him visibly taken aback. She confidently asserts her certainty that he is the one she has been searching for, her words echoing in the quiet clearing. Mu Qiang then observes that he appears entirely different from his sister, a comment that seems to further surprise him. She quickly clarifies, however, that her previous statement was untrue, explaining that she merely looks down on his sister, not him. With a thoughtful expression, she admits her uncertainty about whether she is truly capable of fighting him. She confesses her true feelings, admitting that he hates her, and she, in turn, hates him. Despite their familial bond, she reiterates that even as siblings, they harbor mutual animosity. Then, with a hint of exasperation, she questions why he would ask such a thing, especially after kidnapping her against her will. He calmly states his age, explaining that he hasn't had a sister for very long, prompting her to retort that she couldn't imagine having a sister like him in the first place. He reminds her that she kidnapped him to force him into her errands, to which she admits it was because she liked him, but there's a catch. She believes he seems like the kind of person who thinks he can do anything he wants, and she doesn't want to be that person. When he presses her on what she means, she reveals that he is her first friend from a different world, and she doesn't want to drag him into trouble because of her sister, avoiding a direct fight. She had wanted to convince him to help her, but she lacks the ability to force him, and upon reflection, she doesn't think her sister and she are irrelevant. She reiterates her desire not to involve her friend from another world in a fight because of her sister. If she confronts him, she'll be confronting her sister, and despite not liking her, she doesn't want to do that, she clarifies, trailing off awkwardly. She continues, suggesting that if that were the case, he should not hesitate to demand compensation to appease them. However, he admits that he is not very good at appeasing people. Mu Qiang then points out that he is a martial master, probably the strongest in the entire party. He acknowledges her words, but clarifies that he is merely a martial artist, not a master. She sighs, then states that since he is under one structure, he should at least do that much. She continues, explaining that a martial master like him should take every opportunity. He questions her, asking if she truly thinks he is a martial artist. Mu Qiang, with a worried expression, admits that she does not want to involve him in her personal affairs, especially not with her sister. With a slight nod, he agrees with her sentiment. Mu Qiang offers to show her his martial arts, asking if she would like to see them. Surprised by his proposal, Mu Qiang questions if he truly means her. Under the serene glow of a full moon, the two find themselves amidst a towering bamboo forest. The rustling leaves create a soft, echoing sound as the dense stalks sway gently around them. Mu Qiang explains that his style is a gentle sword art, designed for advanced dances. With a sudden burst of speed and power, he begins his demonstration, embodying the strength of the setting sun. His movements flow seamlessly, executing the silent descent of the setting sun with quiet precision. As he concludes his intricate display, Mu Qiang asks for his thoughts on the performance. With a final flourish, Mu Qiang finishes, and Mu Qiang acknowledges his refined swordsmanship. Mu Qiang surveyed the bamboo forest, finding the atmosphere quite agreeable. Not only was the ground soft beneath his feet, but the gentle breeze made it an ideal setting for a sword dance. Mu Qiang, observing his movements, realized this wasn't the willow sword dance she knew. It seemed to have been subtly altered by someone else. Her grandfather's words echoed in her mind, reminding her that true swordsmanship was measured by one's own unique style, not by imitation. A slight smile touched Mu Qiang's lips as he turned to her, inviting her to witness the original version of the technique. He declared this to be the true willow sword dance, the ancient swordsmanship itself. With a sudden, powerful surge of motion, he executed the strength of the setting sun, his blade a blur of focused energy. Seamlessly, he transitioned into the silent descent of the setting sun, his sword tracing elegant, deadly arcs through the air. Mu Qiang watched, utterly stunned, barely able to comprehend the impossible display before her. Mu Qiang watches, a profound realization dawning on her as she recognizes the true master of the willow sword dance, yet his technique feels distinctly different from the one she knows. Indeed, the very essence of his movements carries an unfamiliar weight. Turning to her, Mu Qiang asks if she now believes him. He clarifies that he only taught her the basic form, never revealing the true core of the willow sword dance. The true willow sword dance, he explains, boasts a larger reach and more powerful strikes, requiring significantly less ki to execute. Though she initially dismisses him as a mere child with tricks, Mukyang cannot deny the refined nature of his technique, ultimately conceding that she will do whatever he asks if he agrees to teach her. Mukyang looks at her, setting a condition for his tutelage. He demands that she never reveal the truth of the willow sword dance to anyone, to which she readily agrees, promising to obey his words. Satisfied, Mukyang declares it good and tells her they should get going, prompting Mukyang to ask where they are headed. Mukyang questions him about the Dogu Ryu, a group causing issues in Jiangsu province, assuming he's been dispatched by the Murim Alliance to resolve it. He confirms his involvement, stating that if the Murim Alliance sent him, then he's also involved. He challenges her assumption, asking why she believes he was the one dispatched. She insists that he's the only one capable of resolving the Dogu Ryu issue. He simply tells her that's all they'll be doing for now, promising her a surprise. The sound of their footsteps echoes as they approach a large, imposing building. She gasps in surprise, realizing their destination. She immediately protests, reminding him that they are part of the Murim Alliance and cannot simply enter such a place, but then quickly reconsiders, understanding his intent. He turns to her, his expression unreadable, as he asks if she's truly ready. He descends upon the Dogu Ryu headquarters, a soft greeting echoing through the night. An attendant welcomes him, noting his journey, as Mukyang simply states his purpose. He is here to discuss the Dogu Ryu's involvement with the Murim Alliance, a declaration that hangs heavy in the air. The attendant, acknowledging his request, invites them inside. The traditional architecture of the Dogu Ryu headquarters stands silently under the moonlight. Inside, a female attendant expresses her surprise, having only expected a guest, not someone of Mukyang's formidable caliber. Mukyang, observing that Mukyang hasn't delved into the specifics, asks if they are prepared to reach an agreement. The attendant readily agrees, provided they share the same objective. Mukyang, finding the situation intriguing, then presses him, wondering what exactly he hopes to gain from this encounter. Rain lashed down, a steady deluge soaking the leaves and the traditional architecture of the Dogu Ryu headquarters, as a silent thought echoed through the downpour. If that happens, Mukyang declared, his voice cutting through the tension, I will utilize the Severing Demon Core to annihilate every single one of you. A serene, traditional building stands quietly, its elegant architecture hinting at a place of importance and quiet contemplation. Inside, Mukyang's expression is stern as he begins to speak, demanding answers from an unseen presence, declaring his desire to know the purpose and identity of the organization that has been watching him for so long, finding the constant surveillance deeply unpleasant. He continues, emphasizing that it would be best if those who hide their presence no longer kept watch over him, as he is well aware of their existence and simply dislikes their methods. Across from him, Mukyang listens intently, then poses a question, asking if he believes the Shadow Force would be the best source for the information he seeks. A slight smirk plays on Mukyang's lips as he confidently replies, asserting that he will make them speak, and the conversation will go very well indeed. Mukyang's eyes widen slightly, a hint of concern or surprise crossing her features as she lets out a soft sound of acknowledgement, processing the implications of his bold statement. She then challenges him, stating her intention to broadcast every detail of their negotiation to the entire world, making sure everyone bears witness, and questions if he truly believes he can achieve such a feat. Mukyang acknowledges the unseen observers, stating that they are indeed watching their conversation, and with a dismissive scoff. She asserts that while there's a reason for their surveillance, she should be in charge of this negotiation, warning that if she doesn't get her way, it will surely end in a bloodbath. Her voice echoes over a traditional building, as she adds with another humph, that while she doesn't want to get her hands dirty, she will arrange a meeting if they truly desire one. The grand, ornate building stands silently, its entrance guarded by several stern figures, as Mukyang's voice continues, confirming that the observers are indeed watching from inside, and demanding that any weapons be handed over before entry. Addressing her subordinates, she questions who would dare interfere with her negotiation, a challenge met with an immediate, firm affirmation from her loyal guards, who acknowledge her authority. Suddenly, a hand reaches out, its fingers poised, and Mukyang's eyes widen in genuine surprise as she sees Mukyang standing before her, uttering a soft, "Oh, what a surprise." Her composure completely shattered, she can only stammer out his identity, her voice filled with disbelief. A gasp of disbelief escapes her, her eyes wide with shock and anger. Meanwhile, Mukyang stands over a defeated figure, calmly stating that resistance is futile, as the opponent was too weak and shouldn't have offered help to others, promising them rest soon. He then turns his attention to Mukyang, a slight smirk playing on his lips, assuring her not to worry and that it's painful to watch her struggle. As Mukyang internally pleads not to be hated for her actions, a vibrant blue energy begins to coalesce around Mukyang's hands, glowing with an ethereal light. The energy intensifies, swirling around his palms with a low hum, a clear display of overwhelming power. Mukyang and her subordinate watch in horror, realizing the implications of his actions, as she questions if he truly sent someone to their end, begging him not to be so ruthless. Distraught, she clasps her hands together, reminding him that they are there to negotiate and make amends, imploring him to give her a chance to do so. Mu Qiang takes her hand, a subtle smile on his face, and agrees, addressing her as Emperor's Lord, promising to apologize for his rudeness and listen to what she has to say to make amends. His expression remains calm, a faint blue energy still lingering around him, as he simply concludes with a single word, fine. The nomadic tribes, lacking a permanent home, are known for their relentless aggression, making them a formidable threat. Fortunately, the combined might of the Golden Sword Force and the demonic cult offers a strong defense, though it seems they are currently in a difficult situation. From the Great Twins family, Mu Qiang introduces himself, acknowledging the predicament. Mu Qiang, the granddaughter of the Moon Sword, explains her mission to negotiate with the nomadic tribes, but now finds herself dealing with the Golden Sword Force and the demonic cult in Guangdong. She proposes a new agreement, but Mu Qiang, listening intently, dismisses her concerns about the tribes. He offers a stark choice: reach an agreement, or he will simply eliminate her and enforce it himself. Mu Qiang, visibly shaken, reminds him that the Golden Sword Force and the demonic cult are the only powers capable of stopping the nomadic tribes. She warns that killing her would turn both powerful factions into his enemies. She challenges his assumption, asking if he truly believes she would allow him to easily eliminate her and her entire force. He calmly dismisses her concern, stating that such an outcome is unlikely, and that they will indeed reach some form of agreement. An unseen voice questions what would happen if they refused to compensate him, to which Mu Qiang curtly replies that in that case, their discussion would be over. The question lingers: could they truly defeat the nomadic tribes without the Golden Sword Force and the demonic cult? While they currently hold them back, a conflict between the major factions would lead to significant manpower losses, especially with news that the nomadic tribes have received unexpected aid. As the older man questions the situation, asking if they are truly sure about this course of action, the younger man simply responds, why not? Meanwhile, Mu Qiang announces the arrival of Vice Leader Mu Qiang, who has come to visit the formidable demonic core. A sharp, almost painful sound echoes as the older man's expression tightens, his face etched with deep concern. He reiterates his earlier question, his voice laced with urgency, imploring the younger man to calm down. Mu Qiang dismisses the notion that Mu Qiang's presence is merely an empty threat, asserting that it is not, for the demonic core stands as the world's strongest martial arts group, the sole power capable of rivaling the Golden Sword Force. The older man's face darkens further, his anger and tension palpable. Mu Qiang continues, challenging the perception of the demonic core's absolute power, reminding them that even as the demonic core, they are still just one of the 5 great families and 3 other factions. She then adds a chilling thought, suggesting that unlike the Golden Sword Force, the demonic core has no inherent reason to protect the leading martial arts families. With a knowing look, Mu Qiang concludes her statement, cryptically remarking, I mean, you know, I'm not really me. She continues, explaining that within the demonic cult, a strict rule dictates no one may conceal their presence, especially from leaders within a 10-meter radius. A subtle tension builds as a hand clenches. She then clarifies, however, that she herself is the sole exception to this rule. The unnamed leader, his expression unreadable, pointing out that this exemption is precisely because she is incapable of hiding her presence. As the conversation hangs, Mu Qiang's eyes begin to glow with an inner light, his hand slowly moving to the hilt of his blade. His grip tightens, the glow in his eyes intensifying as he fixes his gaze on the leader. With a deliberate motion, he begins to draw his sword, the metallic rasp echoing in the tense silence, offering a stark choice: reconciliation or death. The leader's face registers surprise, realizing the gravity of the situation, while Mu Qiang remains silent, observing the unfolding confrontation. She finally speaks, dismissing the leader's earlier comment about her not being a real demonic cult member, stating that such distinctions hold no meaning for them. A tense expression crosses his face as he reacts to something unseen, his voice a low growl. Meanwhile, Mu Qiang, calm and collected, offers a peace agreement, promising to return the martial arts alliance throne that the Shaolin sect had taken, along with extra compensation. She asserts that unless they accept, they will become the enemy of the entire Murim, stating her conditions are more than reasonable, then adds a pointed jab, questioning if he can even return to the demonic cult. Mu Qiang maintains her challenging gaze. As his eyes begin to glow with an intense golden light, her voice echoing, asking if he will be able to protect everyone if the Tang family rejects her offer. Now with his sword drawn and a faint aura around him, he stands firm. His glowing eyes fixed on her, he declares that she shouldn't have said that, vowing to make it so she can't return to the demonic cult either. Mu Qiang looks surprised, asking if he plans to become the enemy of the entire Murim just to kill her, and begins to consider the implications. His eyes burning with resolve, he asserts that she will have to succeed, warning that from this point on, he will kill anyone who gets in his way, even her. Mu Qiang offers a final, almost sarcastic, acknowledgement of the kindness shown to her thus far, adding that in a different lifetime, they might have been great friends. One of her companions agrees, murmuring that was indeed true. However, Mu Qiang's expression hardens as she continues, stating she's not sure they would have been that close, as she's not fond of being teased. Her companions, standing beside her, respectfully acknowledge Vice Leader Moon Hyang's decision, their faces grim. Suddenly, a tremendous, unseen force erupts, slamming into Mu Qiang and her companions, sending them reeling. The impact continues to propel her backward, her body twisting in the air. Amidst the chaos, Mu Qiang draws his sword with a sharp, metallic shimmer, its blade catching the light. Mu Qiang and her two companions cry out in pain and shock, overwhelmed by the sheer, oppressive aura now emanating from him, their faces contorted in distress. His eyes glow with an electric blue intensity, an oppressive aura swirling around him as he fixes his gaze forward, a single word escaping his lips. Before he delivers his final, chilling demand, "Let's hear your answer." With his eyes faintly glowing, Mu Qiang begins to speak, a single word escaping his lips. Demanding, "So, let's hear your answer." The elder, a man of traditional bearing, responds calmly, confirming that as promised, they never came to the Moonlight Sect, implying the answer Mu Qiang sought concerned the Great Tang family. Mu Qiang listens intently, a quiet "I see," acknowledging the information. The elder continues, noting it was a wise choice that allowed them to avoid needless bloodshed. A subtle shift in Mu Qiang's posture suggests his contemplation of the outcome. A young woman sighs in relief, her sword resting beside her as she sits on the floor. He turns to leave, a sense of finality in his words. "I'm glad I didn't have to kill you." The young woman looks up, a relieved smile spreading across her face. "Tell me about it." His steps are firm and deliberate as he continues on his way, the ground beneath him suggesting a path. Elsewhere, an older man and Mu Qiang are startled by a voice, their expressions betraying surprise and concern. That voice. Why is that person here at a time like this? Meanwhile, the leader of the Murim Alliance, Oak Chung-han, watches the unfolding events with a thoughtful gaze, finding it interesting. Mu Qiang continues his journey, a quiet satisfaction in his tone. "I'm glad I got to see you again, my friend." And then, a crowd of martial artists bows in unison, acknowledging the presence of Oak Chung-han, the leader of the Murim Alliance. Their collective deference is clear, a testament to his authority. To think the leader of the Murim Alliance would concern himself with such matters, Mu Qiang muses, her lips pursed in thought, while the older man beside her observes the expression, noting her pursed mouth. For some, the Murim Alliance leader's influence is like Mount Tai, an insurmountable force that cannot be overcome. Meanwhile, the leader himself, Oak Chung-han, stands with a contemplative gaze. He extends a hand in greeting, offering a polite welcome and mentioning that he has heard much about the individual from his granddaughter. A slight smile plays on his lips as he regards the person before him. The man he addresses, with long, dark hair, returns the smile, a hint of amusement in his eyes. But the pleasantries quickly fade as Oak Chung-han's expression hardens, demanding to know what the other is pursuing. As a powerful blue-white aura begins to emanate from his form, he declares that his reason for being there is the same as his counterparts. The raw energy of his presence swells, filling the air with an undeniable force. Mu Qiang stands, a faint, ethereal glow surrounding his form. A subtle smirk plays on his lips, a soft key, escaping him. Meanwhile, the older man with the distinctive red beard watches him. He reflects on Mu Qiang's resilience against Oak Chung-han's immense pressure, acknowledging the potential asset he could be, even if only for a short time, as Mu Qiang walks away. Mu Qiang considers the offer, a thoughtful expression on his face, but a silent reservation holds him back. Elsewhere, a young man with blue hair cries out in agony, his body covered in strange red markings as a dark, shadowy aura with glowing red eyes erupts from his chest. With a resolute expression, Mu Qiang declares his departure. As he makes his exit from the area, within the serene confines of a traditional building, an archway frames the quiet morning. A hand gently lifts a small cup, and a voice inquires, "How is the drink?" The older man, with his distinguished white hair, offers a knowing smile. "It's the seasoned royal alcohol, one of my favorites." Mu Qiang, taking a sip, acknowledges its quality. "It's quite tasty. I definitely prefer alcohol over tea." The older man continues, his gaze steady across the table. "A few days ago, are you sure this is what you wanted?" As opposed to the young master drinking with a martial artist of the Murim Alliance. Of course, they say that the best way to get to know a person is drinking with them. I'm drinking with the young master of the dark cult. His expression shifts, a hint of seriousness entering his eyes, but the truth is. He leans forward slightly, his tone becoming more direct. "There was something I have always wanted to ask you." Mu Qiang, unfazed, simply asks, "What is it?" The question hangs in the air, directed at the young master's serious face. "How was your fight against Oak Chung-han?" As Mu Qiang remains silent, the older man clarifies, sensing his hesitation, "Don't worry. I'm not asking for details. I just want to know what his last moments were like." He offers no immediate response, lost in thought. Even in his final moments, the man had no regrets, living his life according to his own unwavering beliefs. The older man's voice cuts through the silence, asking if Mu Qiang believes his own spiritual realm is comparable to that man's. He continues, stating that while he would only know for sure after fighting Mu Qiang himself, both he and Oak Chung-han are undoubtedly among the strongest martial masters within the Just faction. With a piercing gaze, the older man then questions Mu Qiang's thoughts on the man who could pierce Oak Chung-han's spiritual realm, yet failed to kill him even at his last breath. Mu Qiang considers this, his mind drifting to the concept of a distraction of the mind, a momentary lapse in focus. His internal monologue continues, pondering how he should kill such a person, and what technique he should employ next. He considers using the divine technique, a secret method that pierces sword energy, but then questions his own commandment that forbids him to kill. He wonders about the timing for such a secret technique, realizing that these conflicting thoughts make it difficult to wield his blade effectively. Meanwhile, the older man observes Muqiang with a slight smile, thinking he never expected to hear such candid thoughts, especially from someone he considers his equal, wondering if Muqiang is speaking aloud or if he's truly perceiving his inner monologue. The older man's voice continues, explaining that Muqiang's previous success was simply due to attuning his sword to his own will. But the true essence, the will of the sword itself, had yet to awaken. As he speaks, black energy swirls around a pair of chopsticks hovering over a small cup. He elaborates, stating that only when one truly understands the sword's desires, when both hearts become one, can its full potential be unleashed. With a sudden, sharp crack, the cup shatters into countless fragments, the black energy dissipating instantly. The older man observes, a slight smile playing on his lips, remarking on the surprise that not only was the cup destroyed, but Muqiang was also able to destroy it. He adds, his gaze falling to the table, that despite the destruction, the surface beneath remained completely untouched. Muqiang listens, his expression unreadable, before an internal thought bursts forth, wondering what kind of nonsense the older man is spouting. As he turns to leave, Muqiang's thoughts drift to his commandment, believing that once it is broken, he will be strong enough to do whatever he desires, even in death. As the older man watches Muqiang depart, a thought crosses his mind, a quiet observation about the young man's unyielding pride. He considers the implications of such arrogance, wondering if it truly has no end, and if Muqiang dares to look down on others, even as a voice nearby expresses concern about disrespecting elders. The older man simply dismisses the concern, finding it acceptable. Meanwhile, Muqiang continues his journey, his mind set on a difficult path, knowing that his chosen course means he will have to take his leave and face whatever challenges lie ahead. His path leads him through a bustling city, its traditional architecture stretching out under a clear sky, a stark contrast to the quiet contemplation he just left. But the peace of the city is shattered by a sudden surge of intense fury, a palpable anger radiating from a figure whose dark hair is pulled back tightly. Her eyes, glowing with a fierce red light, betray the depth of her wrath, as Muqiang's face contorts in pure, unbridled fury. Without hesitation, she unleashes her aggression, striking down an unseen opponent who cries out in pain, sending them sprawling to the ground. A powerful kick follows, driving home her attack as the victim groans, utterly bewildered by the sudden assault. Standing over her fallen foe, Muqiang points accusingly, her voice ringing out with a challenge, demanding that her opponent stop being a coward and face her. In the quiet of the martial hall, Muqiang reflects on the path of the heavenly demon, acknowledging that even a non-successor could reach the peak of martial arts. He declares his intent to fight to the death to prove himself, as Muqiang, holding a child, speaks to Ok Chung-han, asserting her sister's strength as a powerful martial master. Ok Chung-han reassures her, telling her not to worry. Muqiang then promises to communicate through his sister, guiding her with the martial arts he taught. Hearing this, Muqiang looks down, a child behind her, clearly distressed by the prospect of a frustrating fight. Suddenly, her eyes glow with a fierce red light, and a powerful aura begins to emanate from her as she questions the idea of using her weak sister against her. Her face contorts with unbridled fury, demanding to know how anyone dares to look down on her. Enveloped in a swirling red vortex of energy, she launches herself forward, a glowing fist leading the charge, vowing to defeat and kill Young-an. Mid-air, her hair streams behind her as she continues her powerful assault, a sword now in hand, red energy trailing in her wake. The red energy swirls violently around her and her blade, her attack unwavering. A powerful impact forces him into a defensive stance, his sword deflecting the blow with a surge of white energy, a thought of disbelief echoing in his mind. From a distance, Muqiang watches his sister, Muqiang, continue her furious aerial assault against a group of figures, a soft TSK, escaping him as he calls out, wondering if she is alright amidst the chaos. His blue eyes glow faintly as a smirk plays on his lips, his thoughts revealing that this display of power is merely the beginning of what's to come. A wave of disbelief washes over Muqiang, her mind reeling at the impossible turn of events. Her frustration mounts as she realizes none of her attacks are having any effect. Muqiang, however, remains perfectly calm, a slight smirk playing on his lips as he begins to speak. Muqiang's eyes widen in shock, the truth dawning on her as she exclaims, he has become stronger than her in such a short amount of time. Muqiang continues, his voice steady, explaining that once she masters the 6th formation, she will be able to immediately transition into the 7th formation tactical technique. The revelation leaves Muqiang visibly shaken, her expression a mix of awe and despair. For it is said, a dragon is born under the blood-red moonlight. As the crimson energy of the fire of the Crimson Dragon technique ignited around her, Muqiang launched her attack. She lunged forward, a claw of raw power aimed directly at him, but he met her with an almost casual defense. A frustrated gasp escaped her lips as her attack proved futile, the realization hitting her that she should have anticipated this outcome. Her eyes widened in disbelief and anger, unable to comprehend the sheer disparity in their strength. Then, with a swift, almost imperceptible motion, Muqiang unleashed a counterattack, deflecting the crimson energy with ease. The force sent her reeling backward, a wave of shock washing over her as she realized the man before her was growing stronger by the day. Standing calmly amidst the dissipating energy, Muqiang corrected her assumption, explaining that this was the power of Ryung-in's qi, not mere growth. Ok Chung-han then appeared, his voice firm as he acknowledged Muqiang's progress, stating that he had surpassed someone significant and instructing him to continue on his path. A sharp, almost dismissive sound escaped him, his blade glinting with a faint red aura. Muqiang descends from above, a crimson aura flaring around her as she launches a fierce aerial assault. Caught off guard, Muqiang recoils, a sharp gasp escaping him as he questions his next move. Her attack relentless, Muqiang presses forward, red energy crackling with her fury. His eyes glowing with an inner light, he struggles with the thought of using his sword in this match, a pained roar escaping him. Despite his internal conflict, Muqiang deflects the incoming strike with his arm, acknowledging the sheer danger of the situation. A flicker of surprise crosses Muqiang's face, realizing her momentary hesitation has cost her. Seeing the opening, he prepares to seize his chance. But a sudden impact forces a pained cry from him, his head snapping downward. Muqiang capitalizes on the opening, unleashing the potent scent of the white orchid with renewed ferocity. Muqiang's blade, wreathed in a furious red glow, slices through the air with devastating force. Her eyes wide with intense focus as she presses the assault. The powerful technique connects with an explosive impact, her glowing hand delivering another focused blow, culminating in a massive, smoky explosion that engulfs Muqiang. As the smoke clears, Muqiang looks down at the fallen figure, a hint of concern crossing her face. "Gah, I went too far," she mutters, realizing the extent of her power. Nearby, Ok Chung-han watches the scene unfold, his expression a silent testament to the gravity of the situation. Muqiang's body, now limp and defeated, tumbles through the air. He continues to fall, a stark image of his overwhelming defeat, as Muqiang remains above, observing the outcome of her devastating strike. As he slowly regains his footing, Muqiang offers a quiet apology, his gaze distant. Meanwhile, Muqiang's face is etched with distress, her own apology escaping her lips, burdened by the weight of her victory. Ok Chung-han, observing the scene, inquires about Muqiang's condition, then suggests they depart, as there is no longer a reason to remain. A soft gasp escapes Muqiang, her hand rising to her mouth as she struggles with her emotions. Despite her turmoil, the cold truth remains. The outcome of the match is all that truly matters, and it ultimately favored her. Facing Ok Chung-han, Muqiang bows respectfully, acknowledging his loss and declaring his intention to leave immediately. Ok Chung-han turns to Muqiang, expressing his disappointment that this was not the outcome they had hoped for, while she can only offer a hesitant but. As the sun begins to set, Ok Chung-han watches the horizon, Muqiang still looking downcast beside him. He watches as Muqiang disappears like the wind, a swift and decisive departure. Reflecting on the encounter, Ok Chung-han acknowledges that under normal circumstances, he himself would have struggled to stand against such power. Even while holding back, Muqiang had managed to increase the strength of his attack, a surprising display of raw talent. A somber thought crosses his mind, realizing that such immense power might prevent the young man from living a life of his own choosing. He sighs, lamenting the pity of it all for Muqiang. Meanwhile, Muqiang continues his swift departure, his long, dark hair trailing behind him. His steps kick up dust as he moves further away, leaving the scene behind him. Muqiang's eye, filled with a complex mix of emotions, watches him go. Other onlookers remain, their expressions a mixture of awe and confusion at the unexpected turn of events. A scarred man with a stern expression looks down, his hand clenched in thought. Meanwhile, a man with dark hair tied back reflects, wondering if anyone truly believed they could escape the demonic cult, or if that notion was ever truly real. No, he concludes, it seems they were the ones who chose to become part of it, convincing their new leader, Jang in geology, to make them the new vice leader within the demonic cult. Turning his gaze, he addresses vice leader Muqiang, asking if she truly comprehends the grave consequences of such an act. For the cult had not only embraced darkness, but also utilized the undead as their soldiers, employing forbidden techniques that demanded a terrible price. The one who sought to master them inevitably abandoned their very humanity. This path was forged by none other than the demonic cult leader, Jang in geology, a figure who had ascended to the peak of the spiritual realm and stood among the top 5 in the Murim. His monstrous form, a testament to his power and depravity, loomed with an aura of dread. The man with tied-back hair then reflects on his own past, lamenting that he should never have allowed his impurity to accept the demonic cult, an impurity that had already manifested and shaped his very being. A lingering thought echoes, hoping no serious incident would arise from the recent events. Inside, a voice announces, "I am Vice Leader Muqiang. Let him in." Entering the chamber, Muqiang bows deeply, stating, "I show respect to the vice leader of the demonic cult." Muqiang observes him, a hint of recognition in her tone as she remarks, "Oh, so you're the one I've heard all about." Holding a ceremonial cup, she continues, "It's an honor to meet the martial master within the demonic cult." Mu Qiang offers a simple, "Greetings." Mu Qiang then praises his efforts, saying, "Good work with your assignment, Mu Qiang. I was just about to send a message with the Murim Alliance. Would you like to join us?" As he turns to leave, Mu Qiang politely declines, explaining, "I'm deeply grateful for the invitation, but I don't think I'll be able to join you." A low cough escapes the bearded man, his gaze fixed on the leader of the Murim Alliance. With a dismissive humph, he continues, "Just like you, I have my own way of doing things. You're not the only one who can hide their presence." His eyes glow with a subtle, crimson light as he adds, "It's a pity, but I'm not interested in your offer." The Murim Alliance leader reacts with a stunned expression, wondering if such a thing is truly possible, but the bearded man simply affirms, "No, it is possible." His thoughts drift to a wider view of the city, a grand scheme unfolding as he muses. No need to be so surprised. Everything will go as planned. Under the moonlit sky, overlooking a distant pagoda, he considers the young martial artist. Even if he's an exceptional talent, if he can't escape his owner, then he's no better than a dog on a leash. A hand reaches for a glowing, ornate cup as he reveals his method. There's only one way to get a horse like that. With a final, knowing smirk, he utters, Farewell, Mu Qiang." Under the silent gaze of a full moon, the night cloaked the rugged mountain range in deep shadows. As a lone figure made his way through the dense forest, his footsteps echoing softly on the uneven ground. Each stride carried him deeper into the wilderness. Unbeknownst to him, two figures in dark, wide-brimmed hats watched from a hidden vantage point, one confirming to the other, "So he's Mu Qiang." The second figure, cloaked in shadow, suggested, "Let's strike when he leaves, shall we?" Before they could finalize their plan, Mu Qiang suddenly turned, his gaze piercing the darkness as he demanded, "Why the hell are you guys snooping around?" The two observers recoiled in shock, their surprise evident. One of them stammered, "When did he?" Without a word, Mu Qiang unleashes a devastating strike, the force of his attack tearing through the air. A dark, explosive energy erupts from his form, engulfing his first assailant in a violent burst. The cloaked figure is sent hurtling backward, a cry of outrage escaping their lips as they are thrown through the night. But before the first can hit the ground, a second hand, glowing with brilliant blue energy, intervenes. The blue energy strikes the airborne figure, propelling them further away with a sharp impact. The force carries them through the air, a trail of azure light marking their trajectory. Finally, the first attacker crashes violently into a thick tree, leaving a deep indentation in the trunk. Turning his gaze to the remaining opponent, Mu Qiang's voice cuts through the silence, demanding to know their identity. With the first assailant defeated, he turns and walks away, his dark aura still faintly visible as he leaves the scene. He glances back, reflecting on the cowards who had been tailing him. His gaze falls upon the assailant he had just defeated, a flicker of surprise crossing his features. The wound he inflicted on the man's stomach is rapidly closing, regenerating as if he were an undead creature. A faint, white aura pulses around the injured body, knitting flesh and bone back together. He ponders the unusual ability, wondering why this man would possess such regenerative powers. The masked man on the ground groans, his body racked with pain despite the rapid healing. Letting out a pained cry, while Mu Qiang observes, recognizing the frightening ability to absorb energy for full recovery. A subtle smirk plays on his lips as he realizes this peculiar trait might actually be a blessing in disguise. Looking down at his opponent, he declares that no matter the pain, the man will not escape, vowing to extract every last ounce of suffering from him. A sudden commotion erupts as unseen guards shout warnings to maintain their vigilance, fearing an imminent breach. But before they can react, Mu Qiang is violently thrown through the air, her body slamming against a structure with a pained cry. Inside, a man reels in horror, realizing the outer guards have already been completely annihilated. Two other figures, sensing the approaching danger, urgently declare their need to escape. Mu Qiang, now standing amidst the wreckage, struggles to comprehend the deafening noise and destruction around her. Collapsing to the ground once more, she looks up, a desperate question forming on her lips. Her face contorts in shock and disbelief as the full horror of the situation dawns on her. Another powerful impact sends dust and debris flying, further overwhelming her as she lies defeated. Still reeling from the devastating assault, Mu Qiang lay amidst the rubble, her gaze falling upon the unconscious form of the gatekeeper nearby. A low voice echoed through the destruction, acknowledging the chaos he had wrought. Mu Qiang's eyes widened in surprise, a silent gasp escaping her lips as she processed the situation. He then addressed her directly, asking if she was unharmed. As he moved closer, his presence dominated the shattered space. Nearby, the heavy iron shackles lay broken, their chains snapped as if by immense, unseen force. Mu Qiang declared his intention to eliminate any remaining obstacles, his gaze firm and unwavering. Mu Qiang, now standing, questioned his methods, asking about the whereabouts of his weapons. He simply replied, implying he had no need for them against such foes. Amidst the scattered bodies of the fallen, a chilling realization dawns. They are all empty husks, their life force completely drained. As Mu Qiang stands over Mu Qiang, who lies defeated on the ground, he calmly states that he will let her live for a while longer, but warns that he will eliminate anyone who tries to keep watch over him. Mu Qiang, her expression a mix of shock and defiance, listens intently to his words. As she slowly sits up, she questions his lack of visible weapons, noting that he doesn't seem to carry any. He simply replies that he doesn't need them. Mu Qiang processes his statement, a flicker of understanding crossing her face, as Mu Qiang turns his back, preparing to depart. With a final, dismissive gesture, he begins to walk away from the devastation. As he departs, he offers a parting instruction, telling her to be careful. Left alone amidst the destruction, Mu Qiang rises to her feet, her hand instinctively reaching for the hilt of her sword. With a determined gaze, she draws the blade, its edge shimmering with a soft, ethereal glow. From within a grand, traditional complex, a figure pours a drink, acknowledging the situation with a simple. The sprawling architecture of the building stands silent under the night sky, a stark contrast to the unseen events unfolding elsewhere. Observing through a circular window, the figure muses, "Your sense of danger is impressive. I've been watching from the start. The only thing I did was give orders." He continues, pouring another measure into his cup. "I must say, I'm quite surprised at how fast you managed to defeat the two granddaughters of the Murim Alliance." A thought crosses his mind about another. Hannah. I'm sure she's also in a hurry right now. Then, a sudden shift in tone, as if addressing someone unseen. "Don't come any closer." The man, Zhang in geology, clutches his chest, a pained gasp escaping him. "Ack." Despite the apparent pain, a smirk plays on his lips, a low grunt of effort or defiance accompanying it. A door creaks open slowly, revealing only darkness beyond. Zhang in geology's eyes narrow, his expression hardening as he declares, "I'm just right outside now that you've come." With a subtle, crimson energy beginning to emanate from his hand, he offers a curt apology for the intrusion. However, the gravity of the situation demanded his presence at this late hour. The older man, seated across a low table, greets him calmly. "Welcome, Zhang in geology. What seems to be the issue?" Zhang in geology, holding a scroll, immediately accuses the seated figure, reminding him of his instructions and the crime he committed, warning him to be prepared for punishment for his treachery and lies. That was how he uncovered their collaboration, a conspiracy involving the kidnapping of the two granddaughters of the Murim Alliance. His hand now blazing with fiery red energy, he declares his mood is far from pleasant. With dark energy swirling around him, he utters a chilling farewell. A massive wave of crimson energy erupts from his form, engulfing the room. The force of the attack extinguishes the candles on the table, as his sinister laughter echoes through the sudden darkness. Zhang in geology's voice cuts through the darkness, his tone dripping with contempt as he addresses the man before him, calling him quite foolish. The older man, his face contorted in a furious scowl, challenges him, demanding to know if he truly understands the situation. His dark hair pulled back tightly, he stands firm, refusing to back down. But Zhang in geology's patience snaps, his hand igniting with a sinister red glow as he declares his bloodlust. He lunges forward, a blur of motion, striking with devastating speed. The attack connects with brutal force, sending shockwaves through the air. A young woman with light purple hair watches, her eyes wide with shock and alarm, as the older man reels from the blow. His face, once defiant, now shows clear surprise and pain, his expression twisting in agony. But before Zhang in geology can follow through, the young woman leaps forward, deflecting his attack with a swift, protective motion, shielding the older man from further harm. Bullet holes pepper the walls of a desolate room, offering a stark view of the city outside. While dark, viscous splatters stain another wall, a grim testament to recent violence. Amidst the aftermath, Mu Qiang supports a gravely injured Oh Ryung Hai, who struggles to speak his name, her voice barely a whisper. His own expression is a mask of anguish and frustration, his brow furrowed deeply. With blood staining her lips, Oh Ryung Hai looks up at him, pleading for forgiveness, her eyes filled with sorrow. She confesses to defying her master's orders, the weight of her actions heavy upon her. Mu Qiang, his own mouth now bleeding, can only offer a quiet, pained sentiment, a single word of hope escaping him. His hand tightens around her shoulder, a silent gesture of support amidst their shared ordeal. Still reeling from her actions, Oh Ryung Hai's voice trembles as she confesses, "The unworthiness you've shown me, trust me." Her eyes welling with tears, she continues, "I'm sorry for not protecting them back, in this manner." A profound sorrow washes over her as she whispers, "I'm so sorry." The name Mu Qiang echoes softly. Suddenly, a sharp, resonant sound cuts through the air, a powerful quang that seems to shift the very atmosphere. Mu Qiang remains kneeling beside the injured woman, his presence a quiet anchor amidst the turmoil. Yet, a different image flashes, one of Mu Qiang transformed, his eyes burning crimson, a guttural sound escaping him as he prepares for battle. His gaze narrows to a terrifying point, veins throbbing around his intensely glowing red eye. With a powerful, blurring motion, he swings a sword, a red aura trailing its deadly arc. The impact is swift and brutal, a pyok, sound signifying a decisive, unseen blow. A dark, viscous liquid splatters across the ground, its unsettling sound echoing in the silence. He remains hunched and defeated, his body slumped as if all strength has been drained from him. From above, a mocking voice rings out, declaring his pitiful state with a cruel laugh. The woman's expression hardens slightly as she continues, warning him not to hate her yet, for she is merely following her grandfather's orders. She stands tall, her presence looming over him, a silent testament to his current vulnerability. Looking up at her, Muqiang's thoughts are filled with disbelief, unable to comprehend such petty cruelty. Despite his pain, a flicker of resolve crosses his face as he considers his next move, realizing he must contact the Murim Alliance for their aid. The woman's gaze sharpens, a hint of satisfaction in her voice as she remarks that he might be more useful than she initially thought, before commanding him to listen. He stands before a towering figure, his gaze cast downward as a harsh accusation rings out. This is all your fault. Zhang Ingeology's face contorts in a snarl, his eyes burning with a fierce, red glow. He continues, reminding the younger man, "You've always been like that, never pleased and never cared for your owner. Don't forget it's my blade. It wouldn't be able to harm its owner." The leader of the demonic cult dismisses any excuses. If there were things that could be done, you would have done them by now. Standing tall and imposing, Zhang Ingeology asserts his authority over the subdued Muqiang. His voice drips with disdain. This is the result of that arrogance. With a final, piercing glare, Zhang Ingeology declares that the blame lies solely with Muqiang. He then addresses the assembled crowd. No one here shall become a new leader within the demonic cult. Having just unleashed a surge of dark energy, Muqiang stands amidst the fallen forms of his opponents. Before dropping to one knee as Zhang Ingeology and Muqiang approach him, the latter visibly shocked by the display. Zhang Ingeology addresses him, acknowledging his performance, stating he has done well up to this point. Muqiang, however, burns with a barely contained fury, lamenting that she cannot personally deliver the final blow. As she lunges forward, a shadowy hand reaching for the kneeling figure. Zhang Ingeology swiftly intervenes, his own hand crackling with dark power as he seizes her arm, calling out her name sharply. Muqiang's face contorts in a mask of pure, unadulterated rage. But he maintains his grip, holding her back with an undeniable force. Finally, she wrenches her arm free, still glaring with intense hatred. As Muqiang's rage simmered, Muqiang moved with blinding speed, a dark blur closing the distance between them. From a distance, Oak Chung-han watched, his face contorted in a furious grimace, a faint purple aura flickering around him as he witnessed the sudden assault. Before she could react, Muqiang was engulfed in a violent burst of purple energy, the impact sending her reeling with a deafening crash. Zhang Ingeology, too, could only watch in frustrated disbelief, a sharp shit escaping his lips as the scene unfolded. Muqiang crumpled to the ground, her body sliding across the debris-strewn floor, clearly incapacitated. Muqiang continued his relentless advance, a swirling vortex of dark energy surrounding him, his words cut short by his momentum. His eyes glowed with fierce determination as he declared his intent. "So this is how you're going to yo?" Suddenly, a muscular warrior with wild, spiky red hair erupted in fury, his own battle cry echoing through the space. He gripped a blade tightly, ready to intervene, muttering, "He's still." As the red-haired warrior prepares to intervene, Zhang Ingeology's form begins to shift, his eyes glowing with a sinister red light as dark energy swirls around him. Oak Chung-han watches, a question forming in his mind. How could Muqiang still utilize his chi, even with his central meridians compromised? Then, with a guttural roar, he unleashes the forbidden demonic arts of the undying blood, a torrent of shadowy power erupting from his very being. Blue lightning crackles around his legs as the dark aura intensifies, his power surging to terrifying new heights. Oak Chung-han, witnessing this raw display of power, laments their current predicament, knowing they are buried and unable to fully utilize their techniques in a group fight. But he vows that the demonic cult will not last forever. A voice cries out Muqiang's name, filled with a mix of shock and dread. Zhang Ingeology's eyes burn with malevolent intent, his voice echoing with a chilling command to kill. His body distorts further, becoming a monstrous silhouette of dark energy, a terrifying manifestation of his demonic power. Enraged by the escalating threat, Oak Chung-han's own eyes begin to glow with a fierce blue light, as he roars a defiant vow to leave no one alive. The ancient gate of a grand structure stands silently, overlooking the unfolding chaos. The ground shatters as a wave of dark energy erupts, sending debris flying in every direction. The raw power continues to surge, creating a violent splash of destructive force. As the smoke and dust begin to clear, a menacing silhouette emerges, radiating an oppressive aura. The figure impacts the ground with crushing weight, dark energy swirling around his feet. Zhang Ingeology, his eyes now glowing with an eerie white light, launches himself into a brutal, multi-target assault against his opponents. A guttural sound escapes him, the sheer power coursing through his body evident in his strained expression. Another explosive impact rocks the area, as dark energy continues to tear through the battlefield. He moves with impossible speed, a blur of dark power, striking down multiple foes in a single, fluid motion. The force of his attack sends one opponent crashing to the ground, who curses him with a furious cry. Muqiang unleashes a powerful, focused strike, a crimson energy flaring around his extended arm. He follows through with a sweeping motion, a sword-like energy effect trailing from his hand. But suddenly, an unseen force binds him, his body locking up as he lets out a surprised grunt, unable to move. A chilling realization dawns on him, a dark aura beginning to swirl around his form as he struggles, the imposing figure of Jang in geology visible in the distance. The demonic cult leader's eyes glow with malevolent red light, his dark power radiating outward. Muqiang's hand clenches, the red energy around it intensifying as he grasps the truth. It is Jang in geology binding him. A guttural cry of defiance escapes him, his own dark aura flaring violently. The struggle culminates in a massive explosion of light and energy, debris scattering in all directions. The red-haired warrior, witnessing the devastating impact, lets out a furious roar. Caught in the heart of the explosion, Muqiang struggles against the unseen force still binding him, a pained grunt escaping his lips. His face contorted in a grimace, he curses the predicament, sweat beading on his brow. He desperately needs to escape the area, but the binding holds him fast, leaving him questioning his next move. Suddenly, a cloud of smoke erupts, obscuring the battlefield and catching Jang in geology off guard, who wonders if it's a smoke bomb. His glowing red eyes narrow in confusion, as the demonic cult leader tries to discern the unexpected development. Despite the diversion, Muqiang realizes the escape is futile, the binding still too strong, urging himself to find another way out of this perilous situation. With renewed determination, he moves swiftly through the swirling smoke, seeking an opening. A powerful force descends, shrouded in swirling white energy. Meanwhile, a red-haired warrior and his companion frantically search, wondering why Muqiang isn't closer to the demonic barrier. Below, Muqiang surveys the scene, a question forming on his lips. He unleashes a torrent of purple energy, his frustration palpable. From a distance, the demonic cult leader, Jang in geology, watches with a sinister grin. Muqiang observes the distant demonic barrier, realizing someone else must have been holding back against the cult, not him. Another surge of purple energy erupts from him, his anger clear as he laments their premature departure. Jang in geology, however, remains unfazed, commanding his forces to spread out and pursue. A sharp, unseen force slices through the air, leaving a trail of shimmering energy. As Muqiang moves with blinding speed, a blur of motion as he navigates the chaotic environment. He has no time to waste, he thinks, needing to understand the situation quickly. He will explain everything later, but for now, he must grasp what is happening. An older man, Han Jun-gil, reveals that cults claim they would use his maestro and granddaughters to get to Muqiang. Muqiang's expression hardens, questioning if the cults are truly competent enough to capture Han Jun-gil. Before the man can react, Muqiang strikes, a swift, decisive blow that leaves Han Jun-gil reeling. With the man now unconscious, Muqiang hoists him over his shoulder, preparing to move. A sudden, unseen force slams into him, eliciting a sharp grunt of pain. An explosive burst of energy erupts around him, sending debris scattering in every direction. He is thrown violently through the air, a surprised cry escaping his lips as he plummets. Standing calmly amidst the chaos, Ok Chung-han, surrounded by a faint blue aura, remarks on the unforgivable lack of technique displayed by his opponent, who couldn't even avoid his attack. As he struggles to regain his bearings, Muqiang recognizes his assailant, the very leader of the Murim Alliance, Ok Chung-han. A pained groan escapes him, as the realization dawns that he is in serious trouble. His mind races, desperate to find a way out of this predicament. The rocky, mountainous terrain stretches out, a harsh and unforgiving landscape. Jagged peaks and gnarled trees define the area, offering little solace or cover. A ripple of distorted energy pulses through the air. As a younger companion, sprawled on the ground, questions how they could have possibly arrived at this location, certain they had already escaped enemy territory. Meanwhile, Ok Chung-han stands serene, a faint aura emanating from him, assuring an unseen presence that there is no cause for alarm, as he personally ensured no one followed them. Muqiang's face tightens in frustration, realizing the month-long struggle to create illusionary barriers was all for naught. His companion, still on the ground, panics at the revelation, placing the blame squarely on Muqiang for their predicament. An unseen voice echoes through the distorted space, explaining that their current alignment is simply due to a convergence of beliefs. The ethereal energy around them takes the form of ancient scales, symbolizing a delicate balance. The voice continues, asserting its role as a representative of two great factions, unable to permit any harm to befall either side. Muqiang's anger flares, his thoughts consumed by the tragic cost to innocent lives, questioning why the people must suffer for such reasons. Ok Chung-han's voice rings out, calm and assured. As Muqiang clenches his jaw, his eyes flaring with fury at the mention of Ryung-in, a low growl escaping him. The older man's footsteps echo, as he continues to explain his calculated treachery. He reveals how he exploited Muqiang's trust, setting a meticulous trap. A surge of raw, blue energy erupts around Muqiang, cracking the very earth beneath him with a sharp impact. From a distant cliff, Ok Chung-han stands silhouetted against the sky, declaring his intent to end Muqiang's life. With a swift, metallic whisper, his sword slides from its sheath, glowing with a faint, ominous light. He calmly justifies his betrayal, claiming Ryungin's loyalty to the Oak clan as his reason. Muqiang's face contorts into a mask of pure, unadulterated rage, his eyes burning with an infernal glow. The name of Ryungin echoes in his mind, a wave of disbelief washing over him. As he struggles to comprehend the depth of the deception, the more he considers it, the more impossible it seems. A memory surfaces, a past encounter with the red-haired woman, who had once told him, "When I first kidnapped you, you were already in big trouble." He recalls his own skepticism at the time, for the rumors had suggested no one would come looking for her. Yet, she had simply smiled and revealed her true lineage. "It's okay. In the first place, I'm the daughter of Oak Chung-han." Her expression then shifted, a hint of vulnerability in her eyes as she asked, "Aren't you sad?" He had turned away, admitting with a quiet sigh, "Of course I'm upset." She had started to speak again, but hanging in the air. Before her expression brightened once more, a determined smile returning to her face. "Then I have." Oh Ryung-hai's voice cuts through the air, filled with desperation, demanding to know what is happening, her family and friends still caught in the unfolding chaos. She continues, her tone shifting to a frustrated warning, that at this rate, she will grow old before receiving any recognition for her efforts. A sharp, incredulous voice echoes through the forest, questioning what was just said. Oak Chung-han, his eyes glowing with an intense blue light, roars out his own name, his aura flaring with barely contained fury. Muqiang steps forward, his own eyes glowing faintly, warning the enraged man that attempting to use his power in this volatile situation would only endanger himself further. Suddenly, the scene shifts, and Muqiang is seen recoiling, clutching his chest in pain, a surprised gasp escaping him as he takes a direct hit. Oak Chung-han, his expression grim, offers a solemn apology, addressing Muqiang as vice leader. But Muqiang, eyes now glowing with a fierce golden light, retaliates with explosive force, a dark aura erupting around him as he unleashes a devastating counterattack. He moves with blinding speed, a blur of dark energy, continuing his relentless assault with overwhelming power. The force of the counterattack slams into him, sending Oak Chung-han reeling back, his face contorted in shock and pain as blue energy crackles around him. The impact manifests as a violent, vertical fissure of power, radiating outwards from the point of contact. Still reeling from the blow, he raises an arm in a futile attempt to defend himself. A desperate plea escapes his lips, imploring the vice leader to survive the ordeal. Muqiang's strike connects with brutal efficiency, a blur of motion impacting directly. A guttural groan escapes him, his face etched with the agony of the direct hit. Elsewhere, an older man with a short beard and stern gaze begins to speak, his words hanging in the air. He continues, his expression unyielding, as if contemplating a grave decision. With a dismissive tone, the man concludes, a faint blue energy shimmering in the background, echoing the earlier confrontation. With a final, explosive burst of power, Muqiang's leg whips upward, delivering a devastating strike. A guttural cry escapes him as he channels his full might, the force of his attack resonating through the air. The impact sends a shockwave of blue energy rippling outward, shattering the very ground beneath his opponent. Looking down at the devastation, Muqiang's gaze is cold and unwavering. He questions the notion of saving mana, his voice laced with disdain for those who underestimate him, declaring he is no foolish child. Indeed, in this era, nearly everyone can manipulate mana, even if only a fragment of a legendary technique, but Muqiang believes there is no one left to save, nor anyone capable of saving what he intends to destroy. The desolate landscape, littered with broken blades and crimson stains, serves as a testament to his destructive power. He continues, accusing his opponent of taking advantage of lies, and reveals that the mana has already become his own. Under the night sky, his expression calm and resolute, he concludes that his opponent was indeed foolish. He looks up at a dazzling light, a deep-seated hatred simmering within him. This hatred, directed at Vice Leader Muqiang, causes Oak Chung-han's face to contort in terror. His desperate thoughts echo, a plea that he might one day survive this ordeal. Oak Chung-han's eye, wide with primal fear, reflects the sheer horror of the moment. Meanwhile, Muqiang stands amidst swirling dark energy, observing the devastating aftermath of his power. Oak Chung-han plummets through the air, his body broken and clothes torn, the desperate prayer for survival still on his lips. He screams a name, Chrysanthemum, as he continues his uncontrolled descent. The ground rushes up to meet him, a blur of speed and impending impact. A massive explosion of force erupts as he finally strikes the earth. The impact is deafening, a violent crash as he hits the water. The sheer force of the fall driving him deeper. A torrent of bubbles and debris swirling around him as he plunges into the dark depths. His eyes are wide, unseeing, as he floats amidst the murky water. Consciousness slipping away with a final, desperate gasp that sends a stream of bubbles towards the unseen surface. A profound darkness enveloped everything, a silent, crushing void stretching endlessly. Through this abyssal gloom, Muqiang drifted, an unconscious form sinking deeper into the cold, dark waters. His body suspended in the silent descent. Then, a faint, ethereal glow began to emanate from below, a beacon in the oppressive dark. As if drawn by an unseen force, he began to rise, propelled upwards towards the blinding brilliance. His form breaking through the water's surface with a rush of bubbles. He emerged fully into the light, his dark robes billowing around him, two luminous orbs flanking his ascent. A final, intense flash of pure energy erupted, engulfing the scene in brilliant white. After the blinding flash, a serene, clear sky stretches endlessly above, hinting at a new beginning. Below, a sprawling complex of traditional buildings unfolds, bustling with activity, a stark contrast to the abyss he had just escaped. Inside, sunlight filters gently through an ornate window, illuminating a quiet, refined space. Lying still, his face partially obscured by bandages, Muqiang appears to be recovering from a grave injury, his eyes closed in a deep slumber. Nearby, two hands meet, one offering a small, precious vial to the other, a gesture of care and healing. The older man, with a gray beard, murmurs thoughtfully, "Here is the elixir, sir." This is physician Li Suryong, a master of healing, his expertise now focused on the young master's recovery. The recipient, General Jin Chongpeng, acknowledges the physician with gratitude. "Thank you, physician. If not for your help, the young master would have been in grave danger." As the physician considers the situation, he questions the identity of the old man they encountered, wondering if he truly isn't the Murim Alliance's elder, Ok Chung-han. His companion, General Jin Chongpeng, expresses surprise that this is the physician's first encounter with the man, finding it strange that he had simply assumed his status. Suddenly, a glowing red communication device activates, a voice from it declaring its arrival and lamenting the trouble it has caused. Physician Li Suryong observes the device, noting its significant power just from its appearance. He reiterates his earlier thought, that he had simply assumed the man's status as an elder. General Jin Chongpeng then reveals the truth, that the man was not merely a regular elder, but the elder of the Murim Alliance, Ok Chung-han, a traitor guilty of a capital crime. Physician Li Suryong, arms crossed, acknowledges that despite his true identity, Ok Chung-han had easily defeated the Fourth Grimps. Meanwhile, Muqiang lies unconscious in bed, his meridians and internal vessels completely destroyed, leaving him unable to practice martial arts ever again. General Jin Chongpeng, turning to leave, instructs that Muqiang's condition must remain a secret, forbidding anyone from knowing he has lost his martial arts before taking his leave. Physician Li Suryong continues his examination, suggesting they might uncover a clue to the patient's true identity. Time passes under a bright, clear sky, as the day unfolds over the traditional architecture of the Murim Alliance. The courtyard bustles with quiet activity. Muqiang gently strokes a horse's head, his hand moving soothingly through its mane. He stands beside the majestic animal, a bandage covering one eye. A warm smile spreads across his face as he calls out, and a young attendant responds with a cheerful giggle. He offers his thanks, accepting the items presented to him, and mentions bringing something else along. With a flourish, he reveals a small, glowing lotus-like plant, holding it carefully in his hands. A soft smile graces his lips as he explains it's his favorite, blooming beautifully, and that it was found growing in their own garden. He gazes at the delicate bloom, remarking on its beauty and expressing gratitude for his master's care. Later, he stands beside a young boy, pointing towards a grand building in the distance. The two walk together, approaching the impressive structure under the watchful eyes of others in the courtyard. Meanwhile, General Jin Chongpeng addresses an unseen individual, acknowledging Muqiang's swift recovery and his newfound mobility around the premises. Holding a cup, the general muses aloud about Muqiang's power, considering that if his mana truly surpasses his own rank, he would be unstoppable. He concludes, with a thoughtful hand to his chin, that their only recourse would be to prevent him from leaving, a task he admits would still be incredibly difficult. Muqiang stands beside Oh Ryung-hai, both observing a vibrant, flowering tree, while elsewhere, General Jin Chongpeng watches from a distance, his thoughts turning to the implications of the blossom flower's state. He then turns to her, asking, "Are you hungry?" Meanwhile, under the cloak of night, a grand building stands silent, its secrets held within. Inside, General Jin Chongpeng questions Ok Chung-han, his voice laced with concern. "Why are you holding on to Muqiang? I'm tired of this scary man's presence." He continues, his expression grim. "It'll be difficult to control him, you know." A ghostly projection of the general appears, reflecting his inner turmoil as he recalls, "I'm certain I've seen this before." Ok Chung-han listens intently as the general's spectral form continues. "I can't believe that the mana of an individual and his chi have started to resonate with the world." The general, now back in his physical form, concludes, "If we don't find a way to control him, he will become a threat to the world." His gaze remains fixed, a deep worry etched onto his face. He continues to voice his concerns, stating that if they were to intervene now that Muqiang had begun to resonate with the world, they couldn't be too careful. Then, with a quiet resolve, Muqiang acknowledges his own martial arts training, offering to test his abilities. A powerful surge of energy erupts from him as he prepares his technique. General Jin Chongpeng, sensing the immense power, instinctively shifts into a defensive stance. Muqiang's gaze hardens, his resolve unwavering. A brilliant blue aura flares around him, swirling with raw energy. With a swift, decisive motion, He unleashes a devastating energy slash. The sheer force of the attack leaves General Jin Chongpeng utterly stunned, his eyes wide with disbelief. Standing amidst the fading blue light, Mu Qiang remains enveloped in the potent aura of his power. The sheer force of his display leaves General Jin Chongpeng reeling, a cry of shock escaping him. Nearby, Oak Chung Han, too, is visibly shaken, his eyes wide with a mixture of awe and concern. Still overwhelmed, the general stumbles back, unable to fully process the immense power he just witnessed. Recovering slightly, Jin Chongpeng laments that the display revealed a rather embarrassing side of himself. Oak Chung Han, however, remains focused on the danger, expressing concern that the young man's uncontrolled power could endanger the people of Murim. Jin Chongpeng clarifies, asking if the youth had attacked them himself, to which Oak Chung Han confirms. The general then begins to speculate on the true nature of the power he had just witnessed. As Mu Qiang stands silently, a faint blue aura still clinging to him, Jin Chongpeng's thoughts echo, wondering if the young man is truly human or some kind of monster.